Suddenly one day, just as I opened my eyes, the girl stammered, "What? What the hell is this?" I saw a strange girl standing in the mirror. She heard others call her Maria. It turned out my name was Maria Llewellyn. At that moment, Maria panicked. She tried to piece together the fragmented memories in her mind. I remembered dying in a traffic accident. Where on earth was this place? Perhaps a god had granted me a new life and strength to continue facing the arduous challenges of this place. That was a possibility. Two orange cats spotted each other and exchanged greetings. "Tommy, are you planning to steal fish today?" The other cat innocently replied, "Of course." Maria's ability was to hear the voices of animals.
She had also adapted to this and happily chatted with her dog, Boring. Boring said in surprise, "I never thought a human could understand the language of animals. You're the first, Maria." And the conclusion I drew from that incident was, Maria flipped through the book in her hand and mumbled, "How strange. I have impaired vision, which is why I possess the power to hear the voices of animals." Then one day, while serving at the shop, Maria overheard from the customers. "Rumor has it that the prince's leopard is severely injured and needs someone to treat it. Is that true? I just happened to hear a strange rumor from the people in the neighborhood." That evening, Maria diligently sat down to write in her diary. "On the 26th of an unknown month of an unknown year, I heard a strange rumor from the people in the neighborhood. They said the prince's leopard was severely injured and needed someone to help it. I will go and see that leopard once. This is exactly where I need to be. That cold prince and the leopard with amber eyes." At that time, she went to talk to the leopard. Then Maria turned and said, "This leopard has a large wound in its mouth." And then she treated the leopard until it recovered. To achieve the desired good outcome, it would have been wonderful if she had been generously compensated at that time. The crown prince of the country, who was also the leopard's owner, sent her a large suitcase full of gold and said, "Thank you. I want to continue to be by my leopard's side. This is your reward." Maria broke out in a sweat upon hearing this. She thought to herself, "Oh, then you just continue to be by that leopard's side." This was the beginning of an unexpected challenge. What further hardships would Maria face in the upcoming trials?
In the magnificent and splendid room, Ainz casually sat tapping on the armrest and said, "So you can heal the Black Panther, can't you?" When Maria saw Ainz, she was momentarily smitten by his beauty and just stared blankly. Seeing this, Ter had to clear his throat to remind her, "Answer the Crown Prince's question quickly." Maria startled and quickly replied, "Yes, Your Highness." Ainz continued, "We have searched everywhere for months, and no one could heal Click. If you're not capable of doing that, then get out." Maria replied boldly, "I am different from them. Trust me and give me a chance." Seeing this, Ainz merely replied, "All right, but if you make even the slightest mistake, you will pay a very heavy price." On the way to the Panther's room, Maria asked anxiously, "I understand, but may I request something from Your Highness if I heal Click?"
"Please grant my wish." Ainz merely replied indifferently, "All right, it's a deal." Then he pushed open the room door and said, "So, do your job well, Maria Llewellyn." Inside the room was a ferocious black panther, baring its sharp claws, cautiously watching Maria. Then it let out a resounding roar. At that moment, Maria was utterly terrified. She could only tightly close her eyes and stand motionless. One morning in a certain rural area, as usual, Maria was working as a server at her family's restaurant. Someone called out loudly, "Maria, please bring this to the table by the window." She cheerfully replied, "Yes, sir." Her father waved her over again, calling, "Maria, we have a customer here." Maria quickly replied, "Yes." Before Maria could even rest her hands, another customer said, "Maria, excuse me, I've dropped my fork." Maria immediately said, "Let me bring you a new one." That entire morning, everyone kept calling Maria, Maria, making her run back and forth constantly. When the restaurant closed, Maria collapsed onto a table. She thought to herself, "Finally, I can rest. My name is Maria Llewellyn, and you've probably heard that name called all day long. I currently live in Larson, the most powerful empire on the continent of Keels." But everything suddenly changed. I was living peacefully in Korea, but on that day it rained very heavily and violently. At that time, there was a kitten trapped in a box, clearly needing help. Maria picked up the cat and told herself it needed care. I rushed to find a vet, but just as I stepped past a car, I heard a loud sound, and then I lost consciousness. Suddenly, as she groggily woke up, she vaguely heard someone calling loudly in her ear, Ria, Ria." And when I woke up, Maria looked in the mirror in surprise. She asked herself, "Who is this?" I found myself in this house, Maria's house. Maria's mother saw her wake up and anxiously ran over to ask, "Are you awake?" She hugged her tightly and said, "It's been several days since you fell down those stairs." Maria's father, also in tears, said, "Mother has been very worried." In Maria's mind, a fierce struggle was taking place. "No, you've got the wrong person. I'm not Maria." But what was even more surprising than waking up as Maria was this. Just then, Borong walked in. The little dog crouching by the door said, "Maria, let's go eat." I can talk to animals.
Back in the present, I, as usual, went to the garden to chat with Borang. "Borang, no one can hear you, right? It's like being able to hear their thoughts." Borang happily replied, "You are the only human who can understand what I say." I watched Borang eat a piece of bread and happily asked, "Is it good?" Borang stuck out his tongue and replied, "So-so, not too bad."
I happily hugged Borang and said, "Oh, you're so cute, Borang." Seeing this, Borang joked back, "Don't bother me while I'm eating. You." I just spoke even louder. "So adorable." At first, I thought I was going crazy. Back then, I even heard two birds flirting with each other. "You look great today, my love. You should take that off your face." I really thought I had lost it. I could also hear the stray cats in my village saying, "Today's mission, steal fish, target Tom's house." However, what's different is that I feel happy talking to them. Thanks to my good friend Borang, I've been able to rebuild my life as Maria Llewellyn. A few days later, while serving at the shop, I overheard the table next to me discussing something animatedly. "Have you guys heard anything?" "What is it?" "It's about the Crown Prince." The other person turned to ask, "Is something wrong with him?" Then he recounted with a dangerous look, "His pet Black Panther has lost control." The person sitting next to him turned in surprise and asked, "Wait, he keeps a Black Panther as a pet?" The other person immediately explained, "It has been with him since it was a cub, and it usually obeys the prince very well, but for some reason it hasn't been well these past few days. I heard it hasn't eaten for months. He must be very worried about the panther. He's posted notices all over the kingdom's walls." The announcement stated that I would grant a wish to anyone who could cure my leopard. Upon hearing this, Maria thought to herself, "Wait, he'll really grant a wish?" If that were true, her mind immediately conjured up a vision of immense wealth and prosperity. Wealth, fame, power, anything was possible. With that thought, she approached the table where three men were chatting and greeted them. "Hee, hello everyone." Then she sat down, smiling, and asked, "Is that true, that the Crown Prince is looking for someone to cure that black leopard?" The man who had just been speaking replied with amusement, "Yes, absolutely. Why do you ask? Do you know any good vets around here?" Maria chuckled delightedly. "Of course I do," she thought to herself. "I was a veterinarian in my previous life. I, Maria Llewellyn, will become a veterinarian who can talk to animals." One day when I woke up in the reality where I was Maria Llewellyn, at that very moment I could understand the language of the Larson Empire. Her mother stood there, looking at her with worried eyes and saying, "You are Maria Llewellyn, our child." Her father, standing beside her, was weeping profusely. Furthermore, she could speak their language fluently. Maria excitedly asked her mother, "We're going to the market today, aren't we? Can I come along?" Her mother replied, "Of course, why not?" What's more, she could even talk to animals. Before leaving, she turned back to greet her little dog, Borang. "I'll be back." Lying there, it didn't forget to remind her, "Remember to buy me some drying meat." But Maria was deprived of one ability. She stood there, squinting at the notice on the wall. "Why can't I read?" She propped herself up and asked her mother, "What is that? What does it say? Why are so many people gathered here?" Her mother relayed the content to her at the harbor. Then, looking at her worriedly, she asked, "Oh, has your eyesight been affected by that accident?" She quickly waved her hand. "It's nothing. My eyes are fine." But she was speechless, only thinking to herself, "I can't read. How embarrassing." It turned out that the Laran Empire placed great importance on gender equality, offering countless opportunities for women to pursue education. Most of the citizens could read and write, so now that I'm here, I'd better learn how to do those things. However, she thought to herself, the fastest path to fame, wealth, power, and opportunity was the Crown Prince's Black Panther. She could heal it with her special abilities. Maria's life wasn't too bad, but it was incredibly boring. The days passed monotonously and sluggishly. But finally, good news arrived. The Crown Prince wanted his Black Panther to be treated. Treated? Treated. I can do this job. I just want to try something new, break the monotony, gain new experiences. Maria was still having difficulty writing. The next morning at Maria's house, the girl looked around as if searching for something. Her mother quietly observed, then said to her husband, "I think she wants to tell us something." Then she approached and asked her daughter, "What is it, Maria?" She replied with a slight hesitation, "Yes, I have a few questions."
Maria looked at her parents with a serious expression and asked, "Can I go on a trip?" Her parents froze for a moment, while she thought to herself, "I guess not, right?" Her father spoke up. "Go ahead." The answer surprised her a little, so she asked again to be sure. "Huh? I thought you'd say no." "Really?" Even her mother turned to ask her husband, "Honey, are you sure about this?" After receiving a nod from her husband, she walked over and asked Maria, "My dear, have you decided where you want to go?" She smiled brightly and replied, "Yes, it's a place quite nearby." She had lied behind that smile and secretly hoped her parents wouldn't notice. To treat the Crown Prince's Black Panther, the first step was to go to Hadol, the capital of Laron. From Isilis to Hadol, it took 15 days by boat, or about 3 to 4 days by horseback, and Maria didn't know how to ride a horse, so she had no other choice. She calculated in her head that it would be at least another month for the return trip. "I'm truly, truly sorry." Her father walked over and asked her, "Are you planning to leave soon?" Maria replied, "Yes, I'm in a bit of a hurry." He turned away and said, "All right, we'll continue this tomorrow." Maria walked up the stairs, thinking to herself, that was unexpected too. Easy. She breathed a sigh of relief. Now it was time to check the ship schedule and do some shopping. While she was deep in thought, a voice interrupted her. "What are you looking at?" This was Rose, Maria's older sister, who was as beautiful as her name, but also extremely prickly. Maria looked at her sister, puzzled. "Isn't that my dress?" Rose angrily replied, "No, it's mine." Maria knew her sister was lying, but couldn't do anything about it. She walked down, deliberately bumped into her sister and said, "Stupid Maria." When she woke up as Maria, Rose, a warm and caring older sister, hugged Maria and exclaimed, "My sister." Then, visibly moved, she wiped away tears and lamented, "I was so worried, you can't imagine." This made Maria think, oh, she must really love her sister. Their mother left, saying, "Rose, can you stay with Maria? We're going to call the doctor." Rose insincerely replied, "Yes, I will never leave her side." As soon as the door closed, Rose's attitude shifted. She sat there muttering, "Idiot." Maria, bewildered and not understanding what was happening, called her sister's name, Rose. She slapped her sister's hand away and asked, "Why did you wake up? Go die." Rose stood up and harshly scolded Maria. "Lost your memory, have you? So you don't know what happened, how ungrateful you were after being adopted." Maria, bewildered, thought to herself, what on earth is she talking about? Maria was adopted? Rose pointed a finger at her face and continued, "If you want to keep living here, don't make yourself stand out, all right, you idiot." Snapping back to reality, Maria clenched her fists and called Rose's name. Rose was startled, standing there stammering, What on earth are you doing?" Maria grabbed Rose's hand and said, "Don't call me that. Call me your sister." Rose tried to pull her hand back, a little worried, and replied, "You're crazy." Maria looked at her sister with affectionate eyes and added, "I know you don't like me. You can continue to hate me, but that can't erase the wrongs you've done." Hearing this made Rose freeze for a moment. Maria thought to herself, I didn't think she would be affected so negatively. Suddenly, Rose yanked her hand back and yelled, "Shut up and let go of me." The strong yank made Maria fall backward. From downstairs, their mother's voice echoed up, asking, "Kids, what's going on up there?"
She walked up the stairs and saw Rose lying there. "Don't, Rose," Maria worried. "No, she wouldn't," Rose cried, looking over and calling out, "Mom!" As soon as she spoke, hurried footsteps came running. Maria's mother looked at the scene before her and asked worriedly, "Are you hurt? Are you okay?" Maria hesitated, replying, But it seems she didn't pay attention to her, instead running to Rose and asking tenderly, "Can you stand up, my dear?" Then she turned to look at her and called out sternly, "Maria!" Seeing this, Rose quickly intervened. "No, Mother, it's all my fault." Maria looked at her with a puzzled expression. Rose put on a pitiful, aggrieved expression and said, "I shouldn't have tried on her dress without permission. It was just too beautiful."
She hesitated, then spoke. But Rose pretended to cover her face and sobbed dramatically, quickly blaming Maria. "You didn't have to push me down the stairs." Behind her fingers, a smug smile appeared. Rose's voice was full of reproach. "That's just too much." Her mother, seeing this, was astonished and asked, "How could you?" Maria immediately denied. "No, that's not true." Her mother looked at her with a pensive gaze, as if waiting for an explanation. Maria said sadly, "I didn't do it, I swear." Seeing this, her mother just sighed softly and said, "All right." She stepped forward, patted her shoulder, and advised, "Go inside and rest. I'll take care of Rose." Rose, seeing this, indignantly called out, "Mom!" She pointed at Maria's face and angrily said, "I already told you, Mom, she pushed me and hurt me. Why would you—" Her mother turned and gently said, "Rose, you know your sister would never do such a thing." Hearing this, Rose's eyes widened in shock. She stammered, "Mom, how could you?" She angrily clenched her teeth. Rose, in a huff, turned and walked into her room, slamming the door shut. Her mother watched her retreating figure and softly murmured to herself, "My Rose seems sad." Maria approached and held her mother's hand, saying apologetically, "I'm sorry, Her mother smiled, comforting her. "It's all right, Maria." In her room, Rose was now thinking enviously, "Clearly, Mom likes that girl more than me." She recalled the first time her parents saw a baby placed outside their door. Both were utterly astonished. Maria was just a newborn baby then, wrapped in a diaper, with a small, adorable face. Rose complained, "She's not even Mom and Dad's biological daughter." Her female peers at the time whispered among themselves, "Rose's sister looks exactly like her mother. But why doesn't Rose resemble her mother at all? Maria is much kinder." When Rose was little and heard those words, she adamantly retorted, "That's not true." She nervously bit her nails, secretly telling herself, "I won't lose to Maria, never." That morning, the bright sunlight was shining down on the ancient houses there. Maria was then walking on the street, sadly thinking to herself, she didn't even bother to talk to me. She recalled her mother's advice from last night. "Maria, you must be very busy preparing for the trip. Don't worry about us, just go." Maria smiled to herself, thinking, I hope she will be more honest. She looked at the ancient tree growing lush leaves by the roadside and softly said, "Even so, everything is very good." Under the tree, Borong was sound asleep. Maria thought to herself, "Because I still have Borong." She smiled, preparing to take a deep breath. Maria waved excitedly and called out loudly, "Borong!" Borong immediately opened its eyes wide. Seeing her, it called out joyfully, "Maria!" She ran over, gently stroked Borong's head, and said, "I missed you so much." It, no less excited, replied, "But we played all day yesterday already." Maria smiled brightly and continued, "But I still want to play with you more." She looked at it with expectant eyes, and then curiously asked, "Do you agree?" Borong blushed and hesitantly said,
I missed you a lot too. But Maria, it asked suspiciously, are you going somewhere? Maria asked back in surprise, how do you know that? Borong honestly replied, I overheard. She stroked its soft fur and gently replied, that's right, I'm going to Haddle for a few days. Borong wondered, what is that? Maria rested her chin in her hand, thinking, Haddle is the capital of this empire. Perhaps it can be considered the most important part of the world. Seeing Borong looking bewildered and not understanding, she chuckled to herself with amusement. It's so adorable. Maria explained, Haddle is quite far from here. It might be a long journey for me to get there. There's a black panther that's sick, and they need a veterinarian. Borong immediately asked, is it very seriously ill? She gently replied, yes, it seems so. Maria smiled and said softly, so I have to go. It nodded and said, I understand.
Borong encouraged her. You'll do great, even though I wish you'd stay here. Maria asked curiously, I know, but why do you want me to stay home? Borong sadly replied, because I'll miss you. I'll feel lonely. Hearing this, she was deeply moved and softly called out, Borong. Maria gently kissed Borong's forehead and softly said, I feel very sad thinking about having to leave you. She smiled reassuringly, so I'll try to come back soon. Thank you, Borong. The next morning by the sea, everyone was quickly loading their belongings onto the large sailboat, preparing to set sail. Maria waved goodbye. I'm off. Her parents immediately cautioned, be careful out there. The two wistfully watched the silhouette of the boat as it gradually sailed further away. Her mother whispered, be careful. Together they blessed her. May God protect you, Maria. Meanwhile, Maria was intently gazing at the vast blue sea and exclaimed in surprise, oh, the sea. She saw birds soaring with outstretched wings and excitedly cried out, oh, seagulls. Maria saw a playful school of dolphins swimming and excitedly said, oh, dolphins. She suddenly froze. Oh, Maria's face darkened, feeling nauseous. She continued tremblingly, seasickness. Maria buried her face in the ship's rail, thinking to herself, I'm going to die. She mumbled to herself, doesn't this world have seasickness medicine? As Maria was leaning against a mast to rest, a deep, resonant voice spoke up. Are you all right? She opened her eyes and looked in that direction. Standing before Maria was a handsome young man with tan skin, kindly asking, are you not feeling well?
Maria shyly said, you are. The young man offered a friendly smile and introduced himself. I'm Gerard, just turned 20, and I'm on my way to Hadu. And Gerard politely spoke up. I apologize if I startled you. He asked with concern. It seems you haven't been feeling well for quite some time. Maria hesitated, replying, actually, Gerard interjected. Are you okay? She quickly denied. No, not really. He leaned closer to her face and gently asked, you seem to be flushed and sweating. Are you seasick? Gerard kindly asked, are you seasick? Do you have any medicine? Maria softly replied, no. He immediately said, I knew it. He quickly took out a small white pill, handed it to her, and said, try this. This works wonders. Maria said skeptically, how can I trust you? I don't even know who you are, and who knows what kind of medicine you're giving me. She secretly told herself, I'd better be careful. Maria carefully observed Gerard and thought, this guy just appeared out of nowhere, and he's handsome too. She clenched her fists, thinking suspiciously, he's being kind to me for no reason at all. Something's not right. Gerard pondered for a moment and then replied, I'll take one right now. Seeing this, Maria exclaimed in surprise, what the hell? He quickly swallowed the pill under her astonished gaze. Gerard gave a charming smile and kindly asked, there, now you can trust me, right? Saying this, he then took out another white pill and, smiling, offered it to her. Maria irritably thought to herself, what the hell? Nevertheless, she reluctantly put the pill into her mouth. After taking it, she shyly said, thank you. Gerard generously replied, you're welcome. He continued the conversation. I guess we've built a little trust now, haven't we? Maria turned her face away and hesitantly replied, a little, very little.
Gerard beamed excitedly and asked, can I ask your name now? A moment later, at the luxury drink counter on the ship, their conversation could be heard. Is this your first time in Hadal? Yes. Gerard and Maria were now sitting together in front of the counter. He asked doubtfully, you're 16? She obediently replied, yes. He looked at her with a meaningful gaze, smiling as he asked, so that's why you're so cautious. Gerard gently said, tell me, Rose. Hearing that name, she froze. Maria gave a forced, anxious smile, thinking to herself, of all the random names I could have used. She recalled how nervously she had answered earlier. My name is Rose. Maria observed Gerard sitting beside her, still feeling suspicious, and told herself, I shouldn't take any risks. He spoke first. When do you plan to visit the Emperor's palace? Ginger or mint? Maria softly replied, mint. As she was about to take a sip, Gerard continued, it looks magnificent and wonderful, even when viewed from Attar. He reminded her, the garden there is very large. It's easy to get lost. Maria said doubtfully, you talk as if you've been there.
Gerard winked and said cheerfully, why not? I have many wonderful and powerful friends. Ha ha ha.
She asked curiously, then you must know the Crown Prince too, right? He replied calmly, of course, we're close friends. Maria, still suspicious, pressed him. Then you must know what's been keeping him awake at night these past few days, right? Gerard answered nonchalantly, naturally. He swirled the teacup in his hand, his voice suddenly dropping. I think the entire empire knows about it. Glick is very ill. Maria asked, puzzled. Glick? What's that? Gerard softly replied, his pet leopard's name. She glanced at him, thinking to herself, is he really close to the Crown Prince, or is he just lying? Maria's hand, resting on her lap, suddenly clenched. Gerard took a sip of tea and continued. Glick doesn't look like he used to. He's very irritable and has no appetite. No piece of meat can tempt him. Clearly something is wrong. Ainz has been very worried. Hearing that, Maria thought to herself, Ainz, that's the Crown Prince's name. Gerard suddenly smiled and said cheerfully, the funny thing is, those two are very similar. She asked, puzzled, the Crown Prince and the leopard? He nodded in affirmation. Very similar, not just in appearance, but in personality too. Maria, hearing this, felt doubtful and thought to herself, strange, the hunters told me the Crown Prince is very handsome. Gerard suddenly changed the subject, saying sadly, by the way, Rose, that's all you care about, Ainz and his pet. You're too obsessed with them. At least show me a little of the fascination you have for me, won't you? Maria flinched and quickly denied. What? No, I'm not obsessed with them. He said gently, the important thing is that you're feeling better.
Gerard instructed her to press an acupoint on her wrist. If you feel seasick again, try pressing here. Maria quickly followed suit. Here? He immediately replied, yes. She asked curiously, what's it for? Gerard explained, that's an acupoint to relieve seasickness. If it doesn't work, he reached into his pocket to take something out. He placed a pouch in her hand and instructed, take another pill. Maria said bewildered, oh, that's too much. She looked at the branded fabric of the pouch and exclaimed in utter surprise, they must be very expensive. Look at this pouch. The pouch shimmered before Maria's astonished eyes. She turned her face away and cleared her throat, saying, just tell me where I can buy it. Gerard hesitated, replying, well, he answered awkwardly, haha, there isn't a specific address. Gerard explained that an acquaintance had created a monopoly for him. Maria, a little disbelieving, asked, really? He quickly reassured her, don't worry, I'm rich. She calmly replied, all right, I'll take it, thank you. But if you change your mind and want it back, let me know. I'll return it immediately. Suddenly, a voice echoed in her head. So scary. The pitiful voice lingered in the air. So scary. Please don't leave me. The voice wandered everywhere. I'm sorry, Father. Maria now identified the voices coming from the room in front of her. Mom, save me. She turned her head to look at the closed door. Maria left her seat without a word. Seeing this, Gerard, puzzled, called out, Rose, what's wrong? She walked over and pushed the door open forcefully. Inside the room, a man was beating a small puppy cowering on the floor. She said in a low voice, excuse me, sir, you are... The puppy was curled up, trembling with fear. Seeing this, Maria clenched her hands into fists. She growled out each word, stop right now. The man frowned and yelled, what is this? Who do you think you are? Maria boldly replied, someone who protects abused animals. Then she questioned, how can you harm such a small and innocent creature? Hearing this, the man irritably said loudly, you seem to like meddling in other people's business, don't you? Suddenly, someone said, this certainly isn't the first time.
These words startled him. What the hell are you people talking about? He then turned to threaten Maria. I won't forget what you said. Despite this, she firmly replied, and I won't forget what you did. I heard the truth. Suddenly, a woman walked in. What are you doing? My dear, is something wrong? She looked around, then asked worriedly, why are so many people gathered here? Seeing her pet dog in distress, the woman rushed over in a panic. Pippi, what happened to my child? She was fine this morning. Hearing this, the man felt a pang of guilt. Oh, it's probably just seasickness. Just like us, you know, being out at sea for too long, it's easy to feel dizzy and nauseous. He then embraced his wife, feigning concern. Besides, Pippi has been here for a long time. Poor little thing, she must have been very uncomfortable. Hearing this, Maria silently cursed him. Liar, she told herself. I need to do something. Just then, a trembling voice echoed in Maria's ear. Don't come near me, you scary one. So she cautiously inquired, may I examine your puppy? The woman heard this and wondered, who are you? Maria then introduced herself. I am Rose Levelin. I have some experience with pet and animal care. The crowd started to whisper, what's going on? Is someone examining a dog? A veterinarian? So she's an expert in this field? Gerard, who was nearby, observed everything. Then he noticed the person who had just left the room. Meanwhile, as soon as Maria touched Pippi, the woman anxiously asked, how is she? Is she sick? She replied, yes, from what I can see, she's stressed. Hearing this, the woman was surprised. Stressed? Maria continued, yes, she's very stressed. She tends to vomit and urinate uncontrollably. At this, she turned to look at her husband. So that's why there's that stain. Maria continued, and the sunken areas around her eyes, licking her paws. She affirmed that all signs indicated the puppy was very stressed. These words made the other woman quite surprised. Oh my goodness, it must be my fault. She blamed herself. I'm worried that she will feel lonely if we leave her behind. Perhaps I should listen to my husband. But Pippi immediately barked. No, I don't like that. It's not your fault, Mom. The woman found this puzzling. What's wrong, Pippi?
Maria clicked her tongue. Well, she clearly understood what the puppy wanted to say. Don't leave me. I don't want to be alone. I want to be with Mom. Someone help me. So Maria quickly asked again, may I observe her a little longer? Hearing this, the woman immediately nodded. Certainly.
She politely replied, thank you. It obediently bowed its head. Maria gently spoke up, hello, Pippi, can you hear me? Hearing this, Pippi immediately wondered, how? Can this really happen? Mom can't hear me, but you can? She smiled and replied, I think I can help you. What happened to you? Pippi replied, I've been with Mom since we were both very young. Back then, she always happily called out Pippi. Mom is my only family. Mom promised that we would be together forever. But then one day she suddenly brought a man home and said, Pippi, let's welcome the new member of our family. He will be your dad. At that moment, he immediately patted its head and said, hello, so you're Pippi. But his expression, meant to be endearing, was utterly terrifying. We'll get along soon. This made Pippi tremble and back away. No, Mom, don't abandon me. Please, this man will... Following that, he constantly scolded and beat it, saying, how troublesome. Why do we have to keep this dog? It's all your fault. Because of you, she doesn't want to have children. Sometime later, he even hired people to kill Pippi, saying, we have to get rid of this mongrel. You know what's going to happen, don't you? Hearing this, Pippi was utterly terrified. It knew the man was trying to get rid of it. Hearing this, Maria immediately said, Pippi is afraid of being abandoned. The other woman exclaimed, abandoned? Who would dare do that? She replied, your husband. Struck by Maria's words, the man immediately became tense. That's a lie. It's clearly a lie. You won't believe her, will you? Just think. Who does she think she is? She continued, you lied about your qualifications and abilities. These words made him turn from shame to anger. Who gave you permission to say that? He then splashed a glass of water at Maria, but Gerard quickly stepped in front of her. Oh, phew, he chuckled softly. Just in time.
Maria asked worriedly, are you okay? You're all wet. But Gerard gently reassured her, I'm fine, Rose. This is just a backdrop for me to shine. Hearing that, Maria felt helpless. Gerard was a little flustered. Actually, a little bit. Then he said, Rose, don't interact too much with strange men who say unpleasant things to you. Suddenly being told that by Gerard, the man flared up. What did you say? Who gave you the right to belittle me like that? Do you know who you're talking to? But he merely frowned and retorted, what if I did? Nothing can change the fact that it's your fault. Gerard's words infuriated the man further. Do you have proof? You keep accusing me. Then he continued, I saw you trying to conduct a shady deal with some guests here. I thought you were smuggling something, but it turns out you just paid someone to take the dog away. Hearing that, the man turned pale. What the hell?
Gerard yelled, bring them in here. The two people who had just been brought in quickly explained, we didn't do anything wrong, let us go, he just paid us to do the work. After hearing that, the woman immediately questioned, how could you do that? At this moment, he could no longer restrain himself and yelled, damn it, shut up, you don't know anything. I only did this for us. Is that stupid mongrel more important than us? These words made her incredulous. How could you say that? He said even more angrily, use your brain. Why do you think I had to cause this? It's all its fault. Your stupid dog made you stop caring about our relationship and even having children. Hearing this, both Gerard and Maria were stunned. She thought to herself, this is truly out of control. Seeing this, Pippi barked a few times, reassuring them, don't worry. Seeing its reaction, the woman called out, confused, Pippi, and it continued to growl, the truth will come out.
Accordingly, she furiously said, what the hell are you talking about? You are the root of the problem. These words stunned him. What? She continued, do you know that you are... Pippi also barked along, saying, this guy is infertile, he can't have children. This incident quickly passed. In Maria's diary, she wrote, everyone calls me Rose. I think I might soon forget my real name. I should have thought carefully before lying, or better yet, not lied at all. Moreover, it's not good to know other people's secrets. It's like carrying an extra burden. Maria had learned a secret she wished she had never known. By now, Maria had boarded a train and departed, and this was the following day. She thought, time passes, and our journey hasn't stopped yet. I haven't seen that man anymore. But just as she thought of it, Pippi barked. Woof! The other woman also walked over and called out, Rose? Maria observed Pippi, who seemed to have recovered quite well. Then she heard the woman say, thank you. Pippi is much better now. Thank you so much. Maria humbly replied, I didn't do anything. Pippi was truly a fighter. The woman asked back, is that so? Then she continued, saying, don't say that. What you can do for animals is truly amazing. Hearing these words, Maria's face went blank as she thought to herself, what she said was true. The cities of Lausanne were home to animal lovers with a diverse range of pets, but there had never been a qualified and legitimate veterinarian. That was also why the Crown Prince needed help for his sick Black Panther. Thinking of this, she immediately smiled at Pippi. It barked a few times in response, thank you. Then Maria muttered to herself, anyway, the monotony of this trip is killing me. Just then, someone called out, Rose! She immediately turned her head and replied, Jerix, what are you doing here? It's fine. He nodded in reply. Hearing that, the smile on Maria's face grew even brighter. Great minds think alike, she said. It'll be a long time until we reach Hot Dough, won't it?
Gerard honestly replied, certainly, at least twice the distance we've already traveled. Hearing that, Maria immediately exclaimed in disappointment. No way. Then she heard him say, but we'll stop for a while at Tia Island. At this, Maria was surprised. Tia? Gerard smiled and replied, yes, it's like a gateway to Hado. Tens of thousands of ships pass through every day, and naturally, a large number of amazing goods from all over the world gather there, along with restaurants serving unique and distinct dishes, and you should know that it brings wonderful things from all over the world and combines them. The more Maria listened, the more excited she became, her eyes sparkling. I want to go there right now. We'll get off the ship and take a walk, right? Gerard nodded. Certainly, but it will be quite crowded and easy to get lost, so Rose, stick close to me. After hearing that, Maria asked, bewildered, you and I? Seeing him nod, she burst out laughing. All right, but just don't go too far. Gerard sighed softly. Be careful. Are you still scared because you see me as a stranger? But Maria replied, or I can go by myself. Gerard immediately refused decisively. No, I like that you're cautious. I like it. Seeing him act this way, Maria was a little confused. Gerard? He blushed and continued. Oh, your personality. I like your style. Caution is very important in business. Hearing this, Maria replied, ah, I see. He was stunned for a moment there. Not long after, their boat finally docked. A crowded stream of people was disembarking one after another. Maria couldn't help but exclaim, wow, as she looked at the magnificent scene before her. She excitedly said, it's like a resort. It's amazing. Gerard, seeing her so delighted, was also pleased. I knew you'd like it. He politely offered his hand. Let's go down and see what they're selling to hawk. This way, Rose. When they got down to the harbor, someone was loudly hawking. Scented sachets here. Buy one. Exquisite goods are displayed on the stalls. You can't buy these high-quality goods at this price anywhere else. The pride of Tyrare. Emeralds that can only be found here. Maria couldn't help but marvel at the beautiful jewelry. Wow, everything is amazing. Everything. None of that have I seen anywhere else before. Gerard, standing beside her, immediately smiled and said, choosing to leave the ship and take a stroll was the right choice, wasn't it? Maria immediately agreed without hesitation. Yes, I feel like I'm on a real adventure. Gerard found these words a bit confusing, but it was true that she was on an adventure. Maria's voice replied with a hint of sadness. Actually, it's more like a date. I'll meet someone and then I'll go home with a pretty busy schedule. Gerard, hearing this, also showed sympathy for her. I understand. Suddenly, she suggested, so let's have fun while we can. Gerard, hearing this, hadn't quite understood her words yet. Huh? He just watched her turn her back and casually exclaim, it's wonderful to make beautiful memories. Maria even smiled at Gerard, making him utterly captivated. So I can feel the love when I look back. At this moment, Gerard was so moved by her beauty that he didn't know what to do and just stood there dazed. After a while, regaining his composure, he said, we need to hurry if you want to see everything in one day. Hearing this, Maria immediately asked, where should we start? She also didn't forget to wave her hand, urging him, hurry up or I'll leave you behind. Gerard was so moved by Maria's adorable action that his face turned red like a tomato. Who's going to be left behind? That's funny, you make me laugh. Seeing her about to leave, Gerard called out loudly, wait for me, Rose. That day, they had a wonderful time playing together on the harbor street. They watched magic shows that left people in awe. Or when she tasted spicy food that made her stick out her tongue, he would be right beside her, teasing her with laughter. There were also times when they had a lot of fun joking around together. After a tiring day out, Maria sat on a stone bench to rest. Oh wow, having fun can actually cause injuries. Gerard meticulously brought 2 glasses of water, saying, we've already given it our all, haven't we? As Gerard handed her the glass of water, he said, I don't know what your upcoming work will be like, so let's blow off steam as much as possible. And quickly. Maria quickly reached out and took it, saying, juice? Oh, thanks. You have to live like there's no tomorrow. Make as many beautiful memories as you can. As she drank the water, she thought to herself, taking thousands of photos would be better, but they don't have that kind of technology in this world. I wish we could find a nice souvenir here. Now she recalled the bracelet she'd seen on the way, expressing regret. That emerald bracelet was quite beautiful, but it was a bit expensive.
Gerard immediately spoke up to advise, oh, you have to be careful with tourist traps. I know a place with pretty good prices. Let's go there to buy now. We can get back in time before the train departs, don't worry. Maria immediately brightened up upon hearing that. All right then. As soon as she finished speaking, a cat's meow suddenly rang out. Meow. Maria was surprised to see a white cat lying on her lap. Huh, a stray cat. Gerard immediately looked around to observe the situation. There are many of them around here. This one seems like a leader. Maria was now captivated by this adorable animal. It's so friendly and approachable.
Gerard, without much thought, unconsciously said, you think so? I think these animals easily get close to you. Maria, hearing this, felt like she was struck by lightning and hesitantly said, is that so? Gerard, seemingly still unaware, immediately replied, that's right. Even when we were on the ship, I guess animals recognize veterinarians. Maria, hearing this, was so tense that sweat beaded on her forehead and she forced a laugh. Oh,
In her heart, she had actually prepared for this beforehand. She wasn't too surprised when he said that after the incident with Phoebe. News about her spread quickly, and passengers came to her, one after another, and she ended up taking care of a considerable number of pets. But that wasn't a problem for her. She had been a veterinarian in the real world. The real challenge lay in keeping the pets calm when they became excited upon learning about a human who understood their speech. Not only that, with animals constantly running towards her to see her, she became like... At this moment, Maria's mind pictured herself as a piper making the pets happy. A piper, or something like that. At this moment, Gerard changed the subject. He suggested, we should give it something to eat. Shouldn't we buy something? Maria, of course, immediately agreed. Okay, I'll go buy it. We can't just feed it random things. I'll find something it can eat.
Gerard asked her again, a little worried, are you sure you're okay going alone? Of course, Maria immediately said confidently, hands on her hips. I'm 16. I'm grown up now. She then quickly said goodbye to Gerard and went ahead. See you later. She then slowly set off down the road. However, the cat didn't leave, but quietly followed Maria. When she turned her head, it pretended to look elsewhere or do something else. Maria had a very strange feeling. How odd. It feels like something is following me. Am I imagining things? How adorable, she thought. But deep down, Maria knew everything, feigning shyness. Maria went to a nearby butcher's stall and friendly asked, I'm looking for something for my cat. Do you have any beef that doesn't have a strange flavor or can be preserved for a long time? The enthusiastic owner immediately replied, of course, a bag? Maria happily replied, I'll take a little, 3 pieces. Maria then voluntarily took out her money. How much is it? Seeing such a pretty girl, the man warmly replied, it's 50 dong, but for you, I'll take 40 dong. Maria, delighted by the discount, her face immediately beaming, replied, thank you, here's 40 dong. However, a second later, before she could even process it, the bag of meat in her hand was gone. Huh? It turned out a thief had been lurking for a long time, just waiting for her to let her guard down to snatch it. Maria immediately shouted loudly, hey! She kept shouting to get everyone's attention on the street. Thief! Robber! Maria, now extremely angry, kept pleading, someone catch that man! Help! She turned and called out loudly, Gerard! Help me! Gerard saw the thief's figure flash by quickly and hadn't even had time to react. What? Gerard also quickly chased him amidst the crowded people. After a long while, she angrily pounded her fist. Maria couldn't stomach this anger and said, where is he? Where is he hiding? When she saw a crowd gathered talking, Maria felt a little suspicious. Is he there? Driven by her curiosity, Maria decided to push her way through the crowd to investigate. Excuse me, let me through. Seeing a familiar figure, she was a little stunned. Gerard, you are here? When she confirmed who it was, Maria's eyes widened in astonishment. Maria anxiously called his name when she saw him bravely apprehending the robber. Gerard! Gerard heard Maria call, turned around and comforted her in return. Rose, I've got them, don't worry. However, he didn't know that behind him were accomplices of the robber, causing Maria to scream and panic. Gerard, look out! Time passed and the murmurs of the market still echoed. At this moment, a stern voice rang out. Hands up! It turned out Gerard had neatly apprehended the 2 robbers. He coldly asked them, so, what are you going to do now? The 2, realizing their regret, quickly apologized. We're sorry, we... At this, Gerard awkwardly scratched his head and said to Maria, I forgot to warn you about this messy crowd. I'm sorry. Maria happily replied, no need to apologize. You're a lifesaver. Then Maria added something that made Gerard's heart swell. I'm so glad you were here. Gerard had to turn his head to hide his embarrassment. Anyway, can you find your way back to the harbor by yourself? Maria, feeling confused, immediately asked, huh? Why? Gerard made an excuse, pointing at the 2 recently caught robbers. I have to hand them over to the authorities. Upon hearing these words, they could only cry, because the authorities are the orphanage, aren't they? It's a harsh place, just like a prison. Gerard gently smiled, patted her head, and said, go on ahead. I'll hand them over to the jury and follow you. Remember to buy some of those special things you see along the way. Maria still didn't quite understand Gerard's words about something special. Gerard didn't reveal it, only saying, you'll find out. Before leaving, Gerard gently told Maria, go on, I'll be right behind you. However, Gerard's departure left Maria in deep thought, yet that day she adjusted her collar, unaware that something had gone wrong. Gerard never returned. I asked all the guests, but no one knew about him. Maria always comforted herself with the thought that maybe someday they would run into each other again. But now, standing before a luxurious castle, Maria silently resolved, I must meet His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. However, Maria was currently being stopped outside by 2 stern guards. No, Maria felt extremely confused and asked again, but why? Why am I not allowed? The 2 guards coldly replied, do you expect us to believe that you can cure the leopard? They even politely advised her to leave. Please turn back and go elsewhere before you get hurt. But Maria stubbornly thumped her chest, asserting, don't judge me by my appearance. I am a qualified veterinarian. Don't treat me like some unskilled person. Feeling disrespected, she couldn't contain her anger and spoke loudly. The person who saw her reaction immediately questioned Maria, can someone calm her down? And what is a veterinarian? Just then, someone arrived and asked, what's going on here? The 2 guards immediately greeted the man with fear upon seeing his face, Lord Tear. Maria, seeing their anxious expressions, also turned her head curiously. She thought to herself, what is it? What makes them so anxious?
She looked up at the man on horseback, silently wondering who could pass these guards so easily. The guard, fearing punishment, explained the reason for the incident. This woman claims she is here to cure the leopard. We were just having a discussion. Maria, hearing this, was furious and silently cursed to herself. No, you just sent me away. The man didn't entirely believe the guard's words and asked her in return. Is that true? Maria, caught off guard by the question, couldn't react immediately.
Tair repeated the question once more. I am asking, are you truly here to treat the leopard? Hearing this, Maria immediately responded enthusiastically. Yes, that's right. I am the one who will treat His Majesty's leopard. You can trust that. Tair didn't answer immediately after hearing this. Instead, he pondered for a moment. Then, after a while, he told her, very well, follow me. The castle gates had been opened, and Maria followed Tair inside. The interior was incredibly luxurious and magnificent, everything arranged in perfect order. Tair led Maria further inside and told her, make yourself at home. Maria politely sat down and replied, thank you. Currently, she felt quite uneasy about the situation before her, wondering what was happening. Tair was exchanging words with the maid beside him, and it seemed serious.
Once the other girl left, Maria finally spoke up, asking Tair if His Majesty was on his way. However, the other party's answer surprised Maria a little. No, he won't be coming. We can't just take your word for it. We need to verify if you truly possess the ability. Next, Tair began to inquire about Maria's background. May I ask which family you belong to? She answered with utmost honesty. Oh, I apologize. I am not of noble birth. I am merely a commoner, and my name is Maria Llewellyn. Tair meticulously jotted down her information, then continued to ask, Maria Llewellyn, you call yourself a veterinarian. Do you truly have the ability to heal animals? While Maria was answering his question, a servant brought in a pet dog. Yes, except in cases of terminal illness, she replied. I see, he said. Tair pointed at the black dog and said, perhaps you can prove it to us by tending to this dog. He also warned her beforehand, if you cannot tell us what is wrong with it, or if you misdiagnose, you will face the consequences. Tair's gaze suddenly turned icy. For wasting my time. Maria was also startled by the other party's expression, but she tried to remain calm, thinking to herself, a test, I understand. Let's do this. She gently approached and observed the dog lying still there, a schnauzer, just like Boomerang. However, the dog showed no interest in Maria. It looked quite indifferent. Let's find out why, she thought. Maria carefully and gently spoke, but the dog did not respond. Hello, I really like your fur color. What's your name? She clearly remembered reading in books that puppies would react with excitement, completely unlike this dog, which made her a little confused, thinking, this isn't normal. Normally, they would be very happy to meet someone who can talk to them. Then she turned back and asked, what does this little dog like to do?
Tower looked at the dog lying obediently there, thinking about playing fetch, its favorite food being chicken, and wanting to observe it again. Maria then gently approached and asked the dog once more, do you want to play fetch or eat chicken? This time the dog reacted. It immediately perked up its ears to listen. It barked a few times, indicating to Maria, yes, I like chicken. Seeing this, she was secretly pleased. Okay, good reaction. Maria continued to ask, will you stay still when I peck you, right? The dog immediately replied in its own language, whatever, just give me the chicken now. She carefully observed its ears, then its mouth and tongue, before concluding to herself, its skin is fine, and it's well groomed. She went up to observe him. There was nothing particularly unusual. Wait, she now realized something was amiss, and asked, why are you lying still? What about your stomach? Are you sick? The dog sighed upon hearing this, tired of everything, too tired to move. However, it then expressed its anger. But they keep letting strangers pet and bother me. Hearing this, Maria continued to ask, do you remember what some of them said? The dog replied helplessly, yes, they said I was healthy and lazy. After hearing the reason, Maria smiled to herself, thinking it was a good diagnosis. She bent down respectfully and reported to Tair, it's perfectly fine. But Tair still didn't quite understand. Then why does it look so tired? Maria calmly stated the reason. It's too lazy. It hates moving around. She then further explained, not all dogs are energetic. Just like humans, each one has its own personality and preferences. This dog is perfectly healthy, so you don't need to worry, sir. After hearing this, Tair remained silent, just quietly looking at her. Maria showed no concern when facing him. After careful thought, Tair told her, very well, Maria, I will take you to His Majesty. He subtly walked ahead to lead the way for her. This way. Once they had all left, the dog became extremely angry, growling. It kept yelping, as if expressing its indignation to Maria. My chicken, you promised, you liar. Seeing this, Maria told the dog, I'll remind them to feed you chicken later. I'm sorry. They quickly moved on. Maria also meticulously observed the magnificent scenery inside. Maria now silently followed Tair's lead. He didn't forget to remind her, His Majesty highly values maintaining order and quiet. Only answer what you are asked. Mind your manners. Do not overstep your bounds.
Maria heard it and immediately replied, I will do that. Tyre also didn't forget to wish her well. All right, good luck. She gently pushed the door open and stepped inside. When the door closed, her heart sank, and fear was evident on Maria's face at this moment. She gently took each step inside, thinking to herself, finally, I'm here. All that's left is to heal the Crown Prince's leopard. However, she still couldn't help but doubt herself. I can do this, right? Maria was trying to keep herself calm. She gently walked in with the man, who raised his voice and said, You are the one.
Now, the figure opposite, sitting leisurely on the throne, asked, Who can cure my leopard? Maria looked at the person before her and exclaimed in surprise, Oh my! Her heart suddenly pounded wildly. She thought to herself, People said he looked ugly and scary, didn't they? He's too young. Maria observed Ein's jet-black hair and thought to herself, That hair color, it's unlike anything I've ever seen in this world. That familiar color reminds me of home. Tyre, standing beside her, gently cleared his throat as a reminder. Maria immediately bowed respectfully. It is an honor to meet your highness, Crown Prince. My name is Maria Wevelin. Eins asked doubtfully, Can you cure my leopard? She confidently replied, Yes, I can. She added, I believe I can. Suddenly, a mocking laugh interrupted her. En's face darkened threateningly. If you truly cannot cure it, then get out of here immediately. Don't waste my time. Hearing this, Maria froze and thought to herself, Just from those words, I can see how tired he must be after each time the previous people failed. If news of this spread all the way to Adelatz, where she lived, she felt a pang of sympathy for Eins. No one had yet been able to cure his plight. It must be a great loss for him, yet he never gave up. Maria clenched her fists, telling herself, That means he values his leopard more than anything. Thinking this, she declared, I know I can do it. You have me here. Leave it to me, your highness. Eins stared at her intently, remaining silent. He spoke in an indifferent tone. Retract those meaningless words and say you cannot do it, or if you fail, you will pay a heavy price. Maria replied without hesitation, Of course. She then hesitated, adding, But I want you to promise me one thing. Promise that if I cure your leopard, you will grant me one wish. Upon hearing this, Tyre exclaimed in alarm, How dare you? Eins raised a hand to signal him to stop, then replied in a low voice, Very well. He offered a faint, fleeting smile. Eins then calmly stated, I swear by Atra. The bright chandeliers throughout the palace had all been lit. The palace corridor was immensely vast, with glass windows built closely together. A moment later, Maria was walking behind Eins along the luxurious corridor. The people of this world believed in a god named Atra. She looked up at the painting of the god Atra hanging on the wall and thought to herself, They believe that if you break an oath to Atra, he will punish you with a curse passed down through generations. That's an unbreakable oath. I think it will apply to the royal family. I was right. Maria's footsteps suddenly stopped. So it was. She intently looked at the leopard lying in the iron cage with that weary appearance, then silently called its name, Glick. Maria told herself, but I must pretend not to know such things. Thinking so, she immediately asked, What is its name? He replied indifferently, Glick. She slowly walked towards it and softly said, I'll just take a quick look. Please wait here. Maria clenched her trembling hands, silently reminding herself, I must try to calm down, but my heart is beating too fast. Am I scared? She stood in front of Glick's iron cage, anxiously thinking to herself, I am a veterinarian, but I have never faced a wild animal like a flesh-and-blood leopard.
Glick suddenly sat up, looking at her with an unfriendly gaze, then let out a few low growls. Maria felt a little troubled, thinking to herself, that posture clearly showed it was wary of her. No need to be afraid. She reassured herself. It was still behind the steel bars. Maria began to struggle with her thoughts, but it was still scary, very scary. She encouraged herself. She mustn't shy away. She should make eye contact and move closer. With that thought, Maria slowly approached the iron cage. She spoke in a gentle voice. Hello, Glick. Perhaps this is the first time a human has been able to speak with you. Maria tried to start a conversation. You haven't eaten or drunk for several days. The Crown Prince is extremely worried. Upon hearing this, Glick's ears twitched, and it let out a few soft growls. Seeing this, she was secretly delighted, thinking, I understand. Even if it's a wild beast, it still recognizes its master. Maria smiled and continued, I am a friend of Arn's. He wants me to help you. She recalled her conversation with Gerard on the ship. She had been very surprised when Gerard told her the Crown Prince's name. Maria also remembered talking to the guards at the palace gate. She politely asked Glick, Can we talk? It continued to watch her intently with a scrutinizing gaze. Suddenly, Glick sat down obediently, showing its agreement. Seeing this, Maria was secretly pleased. All right.
She breathed a sigh of relief. Now she just needed to find out exactly what the problem was. She had to find out why it wasn't eating well. Maria quickly approached it, sat down and asked, Glick, why have you been eating so little these past few days? She gently asked, Can you tell me where it hurts? Glick immediately replied, My mouth hurts. I can't eat meat. Maria nodded and said, I understand. Your mouth hurts. but she suddenly froze and wondered to herself, what about inside its mouth? Maria looked at Glick's terrifying appearance and felt a little scared, thinking to herself that meant she had to open its mouth and look inside. She ran a hand through her hair and sighed softly. Oh my God, that's terrifying. I can't do it. Maria suddenly remembered something and turned her head to ask, do you have any tranquilizers? He asked back blankly, what is that? She replied awkwardly, it's a type of medicine. Never mind, just pretend you've never heard of it. Maria thought of another plan. Oh dear, I'll probably have to negotiate directly with Glick. She gently called, hey Glick. Maria slowly explained, I'm actually a veterinarian. Doctors usually take care of people, but I'm a doctor for animals.
Hearing this, Glick looked at her skeptically. It's true, can you give me a chance? Maria tried to persuade her. She began to entice. I know you want to bite into that juicy, blood-soaked piece of meat. Maria described it enticingly. A juicy, delicious piece of meat. Hearing this, Glick's eyes shot open. Seeing this, she thought to herself triumphantly, that's right, you're hooked. Maria stood up, pretending to leave. If you keep going on like this, I'm the only one here who understands you. But if you don't trust me, what can I do? She turned and said, goodbye, Glick. The moment she finished speaking, Glick cried out loudly, don't go. Anne stood outside, staring at the two of them. Maria probed, so you trust me? I'll ask them to release you. She suddenly remembered something and continued, but first, promise me. Glick asked, puzzled, promise what? Maria put on a sinister expression and emphasized, for any reason whatsoever, my treatment might cause a little pain, but you absolutely must not bite me. Glick stared at her blankly, her face darkening as she wondered, what? Maria replied, if it were me, I would naturally react when touching a painful spot, and since this is a wound inside the mouth, it's especially sensitive. Given this, your life is very precious. Promise me, only then can I begin the treatment. After saying this, her face was covered in sweat. Seeing Glick hesitate, Maria immediately stood up. Otherwise, I'll have to leave. Hearing this, it quickly replied, Ark, fine, I won't bite. I want to be cured. However, Maria was still not entirely convinced. Really? Are you sure? I'm serious, Glick said, a little annoyed. How many times do I have to say it? I won't bite. Receiving the affirmative answer, Maria smiled. Good, I'll tell them to let you out. Then she stood up and walked towards Ines. It seems fine, but I'll need to look closer. Ines asked in surprise. Closer? She replied, please open the cage so I can observe Glick. He looked at her in silence for a few seconds, then nodded. All right. As soon as Tyr heard this, he eagerly said, yes, your highness. Ines then said, but I cannot guarantee your safety. It could tear you to pieces. Maria replied, no need to worry. That will never happen. Ines crossed his arms and asked with some interest, so confident? Tyr, leave us. Upon receiving the order, Tyr hastily said, but your highness, this is very dangerous. Shouldn't we call the guards, your highness? Ines said indifferently, we are fine. Get out. However, Tyr was still worried, but, so Ines said in a low voice, now. Only then did Tyr reluctantly bow his head. Yes, your highness. After he left the room, Ines took out a key and opened the door. Then he commanded, now, come out, Glick. Hearing the call, Glick dragged its enormous body out. What could be more terrifying than a carnivorous beast escaping its cage? Seeing it turn to look at her, Maria felt a little timid. She said tensely, remember your promise. Glick replied, how could I forget? Hearing that, Maria was relieved. Good then. She sat down and politely said, hello, it's nice to meet you, Glick. I'm Maria. This action surprised Glick so much he froze. Why are you suddenly so polite? Maria replied, just play along. Ennis doesn't know we've talked. If I just went straight to checking your mouth, it would look very strange. While exchanging words with Glick, Maria busied herself pretending after performing a full body check on it. She turned back and said, let me check its mouth as well, just to be sure.
Then she said, open your mouth, Glick. It cooperated extremely well, opening its mouth. Maria leaned in. Let's see. As soon as she looked, she was surprised and thought, oh my, several spots are severely inflamed. As soon as the thought finished, she immediately said, there's a large wound near its left jaw. Ines immediately came closer and asked, is it serious? Maria replied, yes, it's as big as my thumb. It must be very painful. We have to treat it. Hearing her say that, Ines suddenly felt a bit skeptical. But how can I trust you? Maria let out a surprised gasp. Ines continued, no one has told me that Glick has a wound in its mouth until now. Maria was speechless. Well, who would be crazy enough to look inside its mouth? She only dared to think those words. Outwardly, she still politely said, as your grace has seen me examine its wound, please trust me. Why would I lie to your grace? Probably convinced, Ines hesitantly asked, so what should we do now? This question seemed to hit her area of expertise. Maria immediately launched into an explanation. We need to prepare an ointment for the wound. Since the wound is inside the mouth, we must find gentle herbs that have no harmful properties. Oh, I also need a cloth-wrapped stick. A moment later, Tyr brought in everything Maria had requested. Here you go. After crushing the herbs,
Maria held the wooden stick wrapped in cloth, soaked with medicine, thinking, great, once I smear this into Glick's mouth. As soon as she thought this, seeing Glick open its mouth as wide as a basin, Maria's face darkened. She bowed, offering the wooden stick to Ines with both hands, asking, "Would your highness like to have the honor of doing this?" Seeing this, Pep stepped forward to criticize. "Are you asking the crown prince to do your dirty work?" Maria seized the opportunity to say, "You're also welcome to contribute, Pep." Hearing this, he immediately froze, utterly flustered. Having no other choice, Maria made up an excuse. "I believe it's best for someone close to it to apply the medicine to the wound, as it will be a bit painful." Ines replied, "All right," and took the wooden stick. He then knelt on one knee before Glick and said, "Open up, Glick." When it opened its mouth, he immediately poked it with the medicine-soaked stick. The application process was a bit difficult and quite painful, so Glick kept growling continuously. But because it had promised Maria, it didn't bite anyone. After applying the medicine, Ines reached out and stroked its head. At the same time, he praised, "Good job, Glick." After a while, Glick went into the iron cage. Ines then asked, "How long will it take for it to fully recover?" Maria replied, "I estimate at least a week." Ines mused, "A week?" Meanwhile, Maria thought, "Now that I'm done, can I use my wish yet? Let's see." At this moment, Ines suddenly said, "If so, you will have to wait more than a week. I want you to take care of it during that entire time, stay in the castle, and do your work." Maria froze stiff, her face sweating as she thought, "What? What?"
She said hurriedly, "But that wasn't our agreement. You promised to grant me a wish if I cured Glick." At her distress, Enzo raised a hand, calmly replying, "Yes, to cure, a complete cure. You said it would take a week for it to be completely healed, and I cannot go looking for you again if anything unexpected happens during the treatment process. It's best if you stay by its side until then." Having said that, he looked at Glick with affectionate eyes. Maria quieted down, thinking to herself, "He truly loves this leopard, it's clear. He cares and wants Glick to be cured." Sighing, Maria continued to think, "What a good owner."
But I still hate this guy for breaking the agreement. Nevertheless, Maria still extended her hand. "All right, but you must keep our promise and reward me after the task is done." Ines looked at her for a few seconds. Then he said, "All right, I accept." After that, he didn't forget to threaten her. "You'd better not think about escaping." Maria smiled and replied, "I wouldn't dare dream of such a thing. Being by Glick's side and taking care of him is my honor." Maria's diary. I finally met Glick, the Crown Prince's Black Panther. His wounds are surprisingly severe. He must be in a lot of pain. I'm glad I can help him, and I hope he gets better and can eat all the meat he's been wanting for so long. Maria on the day she met the Crown Prince and Glick. In the morning, the maids pulled open the curtains. The morning sun shone in, waking Maria from her sleep. A maid pushed in a cart filled with perfumes and asked, "Good morning, young lady. Which scent would you prefer?" Maria leaned back, her expression stiffening slightly. Then she replied, "The third one, thank you." After speaking, she began to get out of bed. "Ever since I've been staying here, the maids have served me with royal privileges, something I could never get used to. This is too much for me." Indeed, the maids served with extreme enthusiasm. "Young lady, which dress will you choose? Which hair accessory would you like to wear today? Young lady, which pair of shoes would you like to wear today? Young lady, young lady." After getting dressed, Maria sighed reluctantly. This is too much. Why do you all have to do all these things for me? Is this the normal life for everyone in the palace?"
Glick lay behind her, licking his paw and saying, "I'm used to this kind of service. The people here fear me and treat me well." Hearing him say that, Maria leaned back in her chair, utterly dispirited, wondering to herself, "Is it all because I healed you?" Suddenly a knock sounded at the door. The room door creaked open and Merlin stepped in, respectfully saying, "Milady, you are requested to attend dinner with the Crown Prince." Maria asked, startled, "Dinner? With the Crown Prince?" Merlin, still bowing, replied, "Yes, His Highness has specifically invited you to dine with him." Maria's mind was filled with doubt, and she murmured, "Me? Dinner? Why?" Suddenly a thought flashed through her mind. Could it be that he will grant my wish?
So she went to the dining room and saw the banquet table laden with delicacies. Maria secretly salivated. "Oh my God, this is truly an amazing feast. Where should I even begin?" Then she began to devour everything on the table. With every bite she put into her mouth, she felt an electric current shoot through her head. Seeing Maria eat like a whirlwind, Ines asked doubtfully, "Have the servants forgotten to feed you?" Maria slowed her pace and casually replied, "No, they take very good care of me. Why do you ask?" Ines said, "You're eating without speaking, as if they haven't fed you for days, which is why I'm curious. I've never seen anyone so uninterested in anything else but eating when dining with me." Maria wondered, "So what do others pay attention to?" Ines replied, "Me." Maria was silent for a moment, then let out a quiet, "Ah." Ines continued, "They say they feel full and satisfied after only a few small bites." Maria immediately offered her assessment. "Cowards." Hearing this, Ines couldn't help but ask curiously, "Cowards?" She replied, "Think about it. How can anyone feel full after only a few mouthfuls? They just want to appear dignified and proper."
They wanted to direct all their energy into the conversation with you. Ines continued to ask, "So you don't like talking to me?" Maria chuckled. The clear difference is that I don't want anything from you, Your Highness, other than a wish, more like a transaction. This is why I only focused on the meal. Ainz chuckled. I understand. She added, I wish I didn't have to wear this tight dress to dinner. Ainz said, I assure you they won't make you wear dresses like this for future meals. Is there anything else inconvenient? Hearing him ask, Maria immediately replied, Madame Merlin has taken very good care of me. Ainz interrupted, You can just call her Merlin. Drop the madam. No need to be so formal. Merlin might hold a higher position among the servants, but you don't need to address her like that. She is here to serve you. Maria awkwardly replied, All of this is new to me. Yes, Your Highness. After a few seconds of silence, Ainz spoke again. I've been thinking since we first met, there's something very strange. Maria asked, What is it? Ainz stroked his chin, saying with interest, Miss Maria Whalen, you are very strange. It's as if you don't belong in this world. The words were unintentional, yet they made Maria, who had a secret, jump in her seat. She broke out in a sweat, wondering, How does he know my secret? Maria stared blankly at the person in front of her and asked, What do you mean, Your Highness? Ainz didn't answer her question, but instead changed the subject. It's quite amusing. Someone of your low status can speak to me so comfortably. Hearing this, Maria gave a polite, forced smile and replied, Please forgive me and my family for my poor upbringing, but it's not an unfixable flaw. You and I are still talking right now, aren't we? In her heart, she was sweating in panic, thinking, Damn it, for a moment there I thought he had truly discovered my real identity. Ainz heard the question, looked up, his gaze sharp and cold.
She still wore a fake embarrassed smile and said, So there's no problem at all. He continued to remain silent, his face grim, and Maria was extremely scared when she saw him. Facing such a daunting presence, she could only gloomily ask, Is this still all right? After a moment of internal struggle, Ainz finally raised his glass, drank, and replied, Perhaps. Seeing him so nonchalant, Maria thought irritably, What a jerk, I should change the subject. Then she brought up another topic. Your Highness, may I ask why you were able to tame Glick into your pet? Ainz calmly replied, I found it, abandoned in the forest. Hearing that, Maria's head was full of questions, imagining Ainz carrying Glick like a princess, and she wondered, In the forest? Abandoned? A black panther is a wild animal. He gently placed his glass of water on the table and asked directly, I heard Glick is feeling better. What's your secret? Maria, dumbfounded, asked back, Secret?
Ainz then recounted a moment in the past. Before Maria arrived and used her magic, Glick had lost control. Even with him, it became more aggressive and ferocious, especially with strangers. Having finished the story, Ainz then asked how she managed to do that, adding that there must be some special way. Maria didn't hesitate to answer, It's because of my special ability. Ainz, encouraged, asked further, What is it? Then she confidently placed her hand on her chest and said, I can talk to animals. Upon hearing this, Ainz was dumbfounded and asked back, You talk to animals? He couldn't help but laugh and say, I didn't think you'd go that far. I like your humor, but I'm sure you don't expect me to believe that. This extremely amusing moment made Maria's face flush red as she had to say, Of course, I knew you'd enjoy a good joke. She tried to fan her face to cool it down, feeling embarrassed as she continued. Honestly, animals have always been friendly towards me ever since I was a child, but my parents didn't approve of me getting close to them. With a few lingering red streaks on her face, Maria thought, That's all I care about. My dream is to become a veterinarian to care for animals.
While she was deep in thought, a voice called out, Maria! Still lost in her thoughts, she suddenly remembered, I wonder how the hospital in the real world is doing. They must be looking for a replacement. I wonder if that kitten is being properly treated. The voice continued to call out, Maria! It was only when Ainz called her full name that she snapped out of it. Maria Llewellyn. Maria, looking bewildered, said, I apologize. I was distracted for a few seconds. What were you saying? Ainz then posed a question to her. Have you thought about that wish yet? Hearing that, Maria eagerly raised her hand and replied, Of course, and you'll keep your promise, right? Ainz nodded and said, I can sense your excitement. What is that wish? It had been 6 months since I came to this world. I had always focused on finding a way to return to the real world. I couldn't find a single clue, but I can't give up on this life, so I choose to live the life I desire while I'm here. I want to open a veterinary clinic, but I'll lack capital, facilities, and personnel to create a wonderful one. But if I can make animals happy, that would be a life worth living. Maria put her thoughts into words. To achieve that dream, I need land and a house, and a place for financial support. Ainz, holding the glass of water, stiffened slightly. He frowned indifferently, tightening his grip on the glass as he asked, Are you serious? Maria, still oblivious, replied brightly, Yes, extremely serious. With a cold expression, Ainz said, Fine, I'll keep my promise. She then realized the problem, thinking to herself, What's with that mood? Angry? Sad about having to spend too much on me? Then he stood up, pushing his chair back, and said, From now on, enjoy your time in the palace and serve me. It will take a few days to prepare permanent lodging for you. Maria, hearing this, immediately wondered, New lodging? Why? Ainz, seeing her reaction, replied coldly, Don't misunderstand. For you, everything is serious business. There's nothing personal here. Then he closed the door and left. Now only Maria was left alone in the room, muttering, What the hell? She was officially shocked by Anne's attitude.
Was it because of money? Was he really that stingy? Time passed, and it was the last day she was with Glick, on a beautiful sunny day, on a hill. Maria sat leaning against a tree, stroking Glick, and gently asked, "Congratulations, Glick, you're better now. How do you feel?" It relaxed and enjoyed, replying, "No more pain." Seeing this, Maria joyfully rubbed against Glick, saying, "You're recovering very well. You've tried so hard." Although it enjoyed it, it scolded her. "It's too hot. Get away from me." Then Maria looked up and brought up another topic. "You're right. I guess you don't go out much when the weather is this sunny." Glick didn't deny it. "Anne is really too busy." Mentioning him, Glick made a sulky face. "Anne, that idiot. He needs me to take care of him." Seeing this, Maria curiously asked again, "Is that how you think of him?" It nodded without hesitation, affirming, "Absolutely." She couldn't help but ask further, "Why?" Glick sincerely replied, "I heard him talking to Tyre." After a moment of silence, it seriously said, "He thinks I'm a cat." Maria was surprised to hear this. "He really thinks that?"
Glick immediately told her about how Ainz had found and carried her back, saying he had found her in the forest. Maria couldn't help but chuckle. She couldn't stop herself from laughing out loud, thinking, he really thinks I'm a lost animal. What an idiot. Glick, lying beside her, saw this reaction and helplessly wondered, is it that funny? Then Maria concluded with a crisp laugh, telling it, "This is our secret. I bet he won't know. After all, Ainz is the crown prince. He needs to maintain his image." As the sun began to set, Maria brushed off her dress and stood up. "I have to go now, Glick." Upon hearing this, it immediately asked, "Go where? To your palace?" Both human and animal suddenly found themselves in a perplexing situation. Maria thought in confusion, "Glick doesn't know I'm leaving." Then she had to be honest. "I mean, leaving this palace." Glick continued to ask, "Why?" Looking at an adorable Glick, who was wide-eyed and tilting its head in question, Maria still said, "Why not? I finished my work here, and you're better now, so I have to go home." She tried to approach and comfort it, but was rejected. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. Today is my last day here." But Glick turned and asserted, "Today isn't your last day." She heard this and was utterly confused. "What do you mean?" Glick immediately recalled Ainz's words to him, saying, "Maria will take care of you from now on." Ainz had said when feeding him this morning, "She will take care of you from now on." The words uttered by Glick struck Maria like lightning. Huh? What? He meant that? The next day, as golden sunlight streamed through the window, Ainz sat at the table, nodding amidst a pile of pens and papers. "Yes, that's true," he said. "You said you could stay, so I granted your wish." Maria listened to him, her mouth agape in astonishment. "Your private room is being prepared on the second floor, so in about 2 more days." She frantically interrupted him, protesting, "Wait, that's absurd. I never said I wanted to stay here." Ainz's face suddenly darkened. "Why do you have to repeat this?" he said coldly. "You said your wish was to become my queen." By this point, Maria was so bewildered she couldn't say a word. Ainz sank into his memories, to when his father, Oberon, was still alive, and his uncle was the crown prince. His father, who was not in the line of succession to the throne, had married Charlotte from the kingdom of Bretagne.
But because the crown prince had died in battle, my parents became the next in line for succession. At that time, whispers arose. A queen originating from Bretagne, where would this empire head? It was somewhat concerning. The queen ought to be of Larsen descent. My father honored the people's wishes and permitted Clopedia, a pure-blooded Larsen, to enter the castle. That was when everything began to change. My mother suddenly passed away. They then claimed that the future successor of the country could not be a child born from that Bretagne woman, something unprecedented in the kingdom of Larsen. And Oberon said, "But Ainz is my only child. He is not a mere child. He is the next successor." The nobles showed fervent support for Clopedia. However, my father insisted on me becoming the crown prince. My father could not overcome the grief after my mother's death. He lived alone for many years without taking concubines, but the elders crowned Clopedia as queen. Clopedia, with a fan covering her face, asked Ainz solicitously, "The king's health is weakening day by day. Are you all right having to complete so many tasks alone?" He replied curtly and coldly, "I'm fine." Ainz thought to himself, no matter how busy he was, he couldn't let Clopedia meddle in the management of the empire. Who knew what she might do with all that power? Then, with a calculating gaze, she brought up another matter. "You are reaching the age for marriage. I am very worried that you seem uninterested in marriage. I have thought of someone. Would you like to meet her?" She selected a relative and vouched for her to become the crown princess. At that moment, Ainz uncomfortably realized she wanted to have him wrapped around her finger. Later, at a ball, he stood in a corner, ignoring everyone. But the young ladies were still only captivated by his beauty. Ainz sighed in frustration. Here we go again. A bold young lady approached him and greeted, "Greetings, Crown Prince. I'm tired of all this," Ainz painfully told himself. "These power-hungry people fighting over it. It's truly exhausting." Back in the present, Ainz signed a document while thinking, "I had hoped Maria would be different, but it turns out she's just like those other hungry nobles." He said coldly, "I will keep my promise and grant your wish, but don't hope for anything beyond that." In front of her, Ines frankly stated that that was the limit, nothing more, Maria Llewellyn. But she turned pale and pointed to herself, explaining, "What? Your Highness, what are you talking about? My wish is for a piece of land, a building, and some money. All of that is to build a place dedicated to treating animals, to live out my dream." Hearing that, Ines was utterly surprised. He widened his eyes and asked in return, "You truly don't know the significance of requesting a piece of land?"
Maria heard this and broke out in a sweat, scratching her head in confusion. Does it imply something else? She wondered. In her mind, she was bewildered. I just asked for a piece of land because I need it. The two suddenly froze, speechless. Ines, at this moment, helplessly rubbed the back of his neck and sighed. Land is property belonging to the royal family. Granting a piece of land is only done under two circumstances. It's given to an individual who has proven their loyalty to the royal family. When Maria heard the latter part of Ines' statement, her face turned pale. Or to become a spouse. When he elaborated, she finally realized the implications of her actions and gasped in fear. "You requested a piece of land, which means you requested to become my important companion." Maria immediately crossed her arms in an X shape, shouting in protest, "No, no, not in a million years." Then she tearfully sat down near his desk and explained, "If I had known it meant that, I wouldn't have asked for a piece of land. That's ridiculous. Me, a queen consort? I never dreamed of such a thing. No way." Mid-sentence, she suddenly paused and asked Ines, "Wait, but why did you so easily grant my wish, even though it's so ridiculous?" Then Maria recalled what she had blurted out to him, swearing that, "If you keep your promise, if I heal Glick, you will grant me a wish."
And now, seeing him smile in front of her as she cried silently, why did I do that? Maria closed her tear-filled eyes and thought, "Do you hear me, Lord?" The dream of hugging cute little animals shattered like a broken mirror. With a crack, my dream was broken. Just then, Ines smirked and said, "There's still a way." Maria, who was in despair, instantly turned hopeful. Ines smiled gently and asked her, "Do you need me to say it?" I thought I had found a treasure again in a truly special, super lucky way. A servant arrived carrying a suitcase. Super lucky, fortunate, and golden prosperity. When it was opened, it was full of gold bars. Maria looked inside and happily thought, I hit the jackpot. The bag, overflowing with a sparkling golden hue of gold, made my heart feel peaceful. Overwhelmed by the wealth, she turned to him and asked, "Where should I sign, Your Highness?" Ines calmly replied, "Before that." Then he gave her an affectionate smile and said, "Thank you, Maria, for healing Glick, and I very much look forward to working with you." When he said that, my heart skipped a beat, and this time it wasn't just because of the gold. After that, Ines made way for Maria to sit in the chair to sign the contract. The contract was signed. Looking at the pile of words on the paper, she frowned in confusion. There were many important words I couldn't read, but I pretended to understand. Surely he wouldn't deceive me. The seal in Maria's hand was gradually pressed down. The agreement was complete. There was no turning back. Muhaha. After it was completed, she happily said to him, "I very much look forward to working with you, Your Royal Highness."
Under the evening sky, Ines came to the iron cage and said in a low voice, "Glick, I'm here." He opened the cage door and added, "It's been a long time since you and I went for a walk." Seeing Glick wag his tail, he thought to himself, he's reacting right away. It seems Glick really likes walks. Then he said, "Let's go." A man and a leopard thus walked past two trembling guards.
Then they walked straight out to the royal garden. As they walked, Ines suddenly looked to the side with surprise, his eyes fixed on a young sprout next to a large tree trunk. Wait, that was the area reserved for Glick. He wasn't the one who planted this tree, Ines silently affirmed. It must have been Maria. Perhaps she planted it when she took Glick for a walk. Then he said aloud, "Glick, come over here." The two of them walked over to the large tree. While stroking Glick, Ines unconsciously thought of Maria. "It's a pleasure to meet you. I am Maria Llewellyn," he thought to himself. Initially, I couldn't believe that such a frail girl could treat such a fierce beast. When he saw her confidently say, "I can do it, please trust me," Ines suddenly believed her. He thought to himself, there must be a reason why she seemed so confident. Others were terrified and fled at the sight of Glick, but she seemed unaffected. Glick also didn't seem uncomfortable around Maria. He was almost disappointed when she wanted to marry him. He recalled Maria whimpering, "If I had known it meant so much, I wouldn't have asked for the land. It's ridiculous, Your Highness. I thought you certainly wouldn't want it either." Ines chuckled. "But she didn't know that, and I'm quite glad it was just a misunderstanding."
His words confused Glick, who raised its head suspiciously. Ines continued, "I have a feeling she will bring a lot of joy and laughter. Right, Glick?" Meanwhile, in Maria's room, she was rolling around on her bed, giggling. She happily thought to herself, "I can't believe how lucky I am to be paid so much money, and my salary will be extremely high from now on. I should share this wonderful news." Thinking so, Maria immediately got out of bed, opened the door, and asked, "May I have a pen and paper?" The maid asked, "Do you wish to send a letter, young lady?"
Maria nodded. That's right. The maid immediately said, please wait a moment, I will bring it right away. After the paper and pen were brought, Maria began to ponder. It's best not to surprise everyone by saying I live in the palace. So she began to write. I've been lucky. I found a job with a wealthy family. I'll be staying in Honden for a while, and I'll write more next time. Love, Maria. She put down the pen and held up the letter. Done. Now I just need to send it. But how? Sometime later, a brown-haired young man took her letter and said, the review process is complete. We guarantee to send the letter to your desired address. Maria said, if they write back, please tell me. The brown-haired young man replied, of course. As soon as she left the post office, Maria happily thought, all right, the letter is done. I've sent money home just as Linda told me to. Before returning to the palace, I want to look around the town. She looked around the streets, muttering, where should I start?
Oh, what's that? Looking at the sign pointing to Terna Hill, Maria thought, time to explore. So she followed the path, and as the steps ended, a breathtaking view unfolded before her. Wow, Maria silently exclaimed. I'm so glad I came here. I should visit more often. Suddenly, a faint voice called out, weak. Maria flinched and turned her head, thinking she'd heard something. No sooner had the thought crossed her mind than she heard the faint cry again. Weak. Fear flickered across Maria's face. Where was that sound coming from? She slowly walked forward. Here it was, pausing for a moment.
Maria thought to herself, hoping there wasn't anything scary. As soon as she lifted the dry grass, a white bird appeared, chirping faintly, help, help. The fear on Maria's face quickly turned to concern. Oh dear, I'll help you. There you go, she said, as she removed a blade of grass from its leg, and the bird immediately flew up and perched on her hand. Maria thought to herself, wait, this scenery, it's two. At this moment, the bird said, thank you very much. Maria surprisingly thought, so cute. At the same time, she asked, are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere? The bird replied, my right wing just hurts a little. Maria lifted its wing, startled, and thought, no way, this wound is quite deep. She said, it must hurt a lot. How did you get hurt? The bird replied, a big bird flew past, and I tried to avoid it, but it was too late. After that, I felt pain under my wing. After hearing its story, Maria said sympathetically, you must have been very scared. Since you're hurt, I'll take you home, okay? The bird replied, no, it's very far. I don't want to go. Maria asked doubtfully, why? It pouted and replied, I had a fight. I don't want to go home. Seeing its cute appearance, Maria almost melted. Even when it's sulking, it's so adorable. She replied, all right then, you can come with me if you want. Hearing this, the bird's face brightened, and it politely said, oh yes, I want to stay with you. She smiled. All right, let's go.
By evening, Maria returned to the royal palace. As soon as Merlin saw her, she looked surprised. She pointed doubtfully at the white bird on Maria's shoulder. May I ask about the item on Milady's shoulder? Is it an ornament or a toy? Maria replied, oh, this is... Before she could finish, Maria exclaimed loudly, it's moving. It has wings. Maria casually said, of course, it's a living creature. This is a bird, my bird. It will be with me for the foreseeable future. Then she asked, oh, do you have any herbs to treat these cuts? Please bring them to my room. Merlin, still surprised, stammered in reply, yes, my lady. Maria smiled and said, thank you. At the same time, she thought apologetically, I didn't mean to scare you, Merlin. I'm sorry. After entering the room, the white bird surprisingly said, wow, is this your place, big sister? It's magnificent, truly wonderful, 100 times better than my nest. Maria gave an awkward laugh. Is that so? She thought to herself, strictly speaking, this isn't my nest. Just then a knock sounded at the door, and a handmaiden entered, carrying a tray of medicine. Here are the herbs you requested, my lady. Maria took the tray and said, thank you, Linda. She replied, it's our pleasure to serve. After Linda left, Maria began mixing the medicine, preparing to apply it to the white bird. Here, it might sting a little, just as she brought the stick with the medicine closer.
A mournful chirp immediately rang out in the room. A few minutes later, Maria said, it's done. Excellent, the white bird said gratefully. Thank you. As she stroked its head, she thought, now that we'll be together for the foreseeable future, what should I name you? What name would suit you? Maria asked, Lurie, what do you think of this name? The white bird replied, I like it. Call me Lurie. Lurie is my name. Seeing its endearing clinginess, Maria's heart melted. So adorable. I'm glad I brought you home. She suddenly remembered, that's right. It's time to feed Glick dinner. I need to hurry. If I'm late, he'll be very sad. Then she said, Lurie, can you wait here? Play with something. I'll be right back. Lurie asked, where are you going? She replied, to a black panther that needs my care. It's feeding time. Lurie, full of childlike doubt, asked, what's a black panther? This time it was Maria's turn to be surprised. You don't know what a black panther is? It's a very large and majestic creature.
Lurie stretched out her arms and said, I like majestic things. I also want to go see them. Seeing her jump up, Maria worriedly called out, Lurie! With tears welling up in her eyes, she said, don't leave me alone. Despite that, Maria was still very worried. But Glick will eat you up. Then she said, all right then, if you want to come, promise me one thing. Stay by my side at all times, okay? Lurie happily replied, yes, I will. So Maria made up her mind. Okay, I can protect Lurie. She carried the plate of food into the room and said, I'm here, Glick. It glanced out from inside the iron cage. You're late, Maria said apologetically. I'm sorry. The human and the leopard looked at each other for a few seconds. Glick couldn't help but say, hurry up, I want meat now. Maria chuckled and said, haha, of course, I'm coming right away. But first...
Glick said, no, first. Maria retorted, no, we need to talk first. So Glick let out a loud roar. Right now, the talking is done. Maria reluctantly sighed. All right, here you go. At this moment, Lurie also crawled out, exclaiming, wow, it's really big, super majestic, amazing. It's even bigger than Big Sister. As Maria sank into embarrassment, Glick excitedly asked, did you bring snacks? Seeing it lick its lips, Maria quickly said, no, it's not. Don't say that. This is a friend. We don't eat our friends. Glick said, you should have thought about it first. Maria felt uneasy and looked over her shoulder, and when she saw Lurie had disappeared, her face filled with panic. Glick continued, and to let it get so close to you. Maria gripped the bars and called out, Lurie! Inside the cage, Glick used its claws to bat Lurie around, then said, how troublesome. Lurie, however, happily said, that was fun. Again? Watching them play happily, Maria was stunned and thought, so I worried for nothing? At this moment, Lurie suddenly said, hey, Big Black Panther, we're friends now, aren't we? Do you want to know my name? It's Lurie. Glick disdainfully replied, I don't need friends.
Lurie added, but it's so boring here alone. Glick replied somewhat pensively, not boring at all. Seeing its expression, Maria secretly thought, Glick must have always been alone. I hope the two of them can become close. Suddenly, Glick asked, are you sure this isn't a snack? Maria quickly replied, absolutely sure. After returning to her room, Maria lay on the bed and said, I'm so tired. She closed her eyes and thought, so much has happened today, but suddenly Lurie called out, Sister! Maria immediately opened her eyes and asked, what is it? It curiously said, I have a question. Why did they call me a snack? Is that a good thing or not? Glick keeps calling me that. Maria gave a forced laugh. Ah, she suddenly understood. Ah, so that's why it wasn't scared when Glick said that. It didn't know what that word meant. Then she said, ah, snack means you're very cute. Lurie's eyes widened as it asked, really? Maria added, it means Glick is complimenting your beauty. After saying that, she gave another forced laugh. Huh. Lurie happily flew up. So Glick likes me and thinks I'm adorable, but they're too shy to say they want to be friends. Maria said, ah, yes, that's definitely it. In her heart, she thought, I'm getting better and better at lying. It's just a harmless lie. What could possibly happen?
The next morning, Maria visited the Black Panther again as usual. Before leaving, she smiled and said, see you later, Glick. Lurie also chimed in, see you again, Black Panther. Then she turned to stroke it, thinking to herself, Lurie must really like Glick. After that, Maria returned to her room and was startled by the sound of something breaking. She wondered, the sound came from my room. What's going on? Seeing two maids inside, Maria became even more curious. Linda, who is that with you? That's Chloe. At this moment, Linda said to Chloe in a condescending tone, understood? You broke the vase. As soon as she heard this, Maria immediately realized that she was the one who had broken the vase. Then she saw Linda, with a gloomy expression, continue to snap, answer me right now. So Maria stepped in and asked, what's going on? This made both of them freeze simultaneously. Linda, startled, turned to look at Maria and replied, my lady, you're here. But she continued to press, answer me, what's happening? So she quickly glanced at Chloe and said, ah, poor Chloe accidentally broke the vase. I'm truly sorry for her mistake.
Chloe immediately continued, I sincerely apologize, young lady. Hearing this, Maria frowned. She thought, does she think I believe her? Nevertheless, she sighed and said, all right, clean it up before someone gets hurt. Linda replied, yes, young lady, then stood by, watching Chloe clean. Then Maria called out again, Linda? She respectfully responded, yes, young lady. Maria then said, you do it. I need to talk to Chloe now. Though unwilling, Linda had no choice but to accept, saying, yes, young lady. After she left, Maria told Chloe, let's talk by the window. She quickly bowed, yes, young lady. At this moment, Chloe was still trembling uncontrollably. Maria then said softly, I know Linda was the one who broke the vase, so you don't need to worry. If Linda asks what we talked about, just tell her I told you to be more careful next time. Hearing this, Chloe was extremely grateful. Young lady, thank you very much. Maria asked, could you bring me some tea and some snacks for Lurie? She immediately said enthusiastically, I'll do it right away. Chloe left and Maria immediately leaned back against the wall, sighing in relief. It had been handled smoothly. Next time she would warn Lena. Then she looked at her little bird, Maria curious. Lurene, what's wrong? It asked her, is Lurie cute? Maria was puzzled. Huh? Lurie continued, you said Lurie is a snack, so that means Lurie is cute, right? Hearing it say that, Maria froze. Oh, right, I have to keep up that lie. So she clapped her hands and said, of course, making Lurie happily cheer, yay! At this, Maria forced a smile, thinking, someday I'll tell him the truth. Just like that, another day ended.
Maria tiredly collapsed onto her bed. Ah, what a long day. Then she sighed and took out a notebook. Maria sat up abruptly, suddenly remembering she had to write in her diary. She wrote, "I went to the palace with Luri, walked around, played, and gave Luri some snacks." At this point, Maria looked back. She smiled faintly and continued writing. "And I have everything I need for that special project. I overheard at a coffee shop that the Crown Prince's birthday is coming up, so I found a perfect birthday gift for N, hoping he'll like it." A few days later, Maria took Glick outside. She cautiously looked around. No one nearby, right? Even the leopard wondered, what's wrong with her? The entire vast garden was devoid of people. Nevertheless, Maria was extremely delighted. She thought, I've been lying down too much these past few days. I need to restore my physical strength. I finally finished my workout pants. Thinking this, she took out a pair of pants, her eyes unable to hide her pride. I've overcome so many difficulties to get them. To make them, I was pricked by needles many times.
I had to discard so many test samples, I'm gonna die. But after all, I got one. With that, Maria quickly put it on. She tied her hair up, her whole body radiating enthusiasm. All right, let's run. Watching her warm up, Glick reminded her. It seems we forgot something. Maria immediately asked, "What, my snacks?" Then she chuckled softly. "I mean Luri. She's sleeping in your room. Do you miss her?" Glick sighed in response. "No," but Maria continued to tease. "You don't have to say anything. I know what you're thinking." Glick immediately scowled. "You keep wearing such outlandish things. That's why your mind is so messed up."
She heard that and, suppressing a smile, replied, "Substance over style. I bet you even the crown prince, royals, and nobles will be surprised and like these pants if they just try them once." But she flatly said, "No way. Go ask Ainz yourself. I guarantee that won't happen." Even so, Maria persisted, "But His Highness isn't here with us." Just then, a sound echoed from behind, and the person who arrived was Ainz. Maria immediately looked dumbfounded and asked, "Your Highness, what brings you all the way here?" He replied, "I was looking for you, and they told me you were out here. But what are you wearing?" Hearing Ainz ask that, Maria was a little confused. "Excuse me?" She looked down at her outfit in surprise, then awkwardly explained, "Oh dear. These are jogging pants, Your Highness. I understand they're a bit strange." He asked again, "Jogging?" Maria changed the subject. "Anyway, how may I help you, Your Highness?" Ainz then said, I have something to discuss with you, but not out here. Let's go inside first. Come on, Glick." Seeing Ainz walking ahead, Maria couldn't help but wonder, can we talk here? What could he possibly want to say? After they went inside, Ainz immediately spoke. "There's something I need to ask of you." Maria asked in return, "What is it?" He said, "There will be a royal ball soon, and I want you to be my dance partner." These words surprised her, and she asked, "Your dance partner? Is it for your birthday celebration ball?" Ainz nodded immediately. "Oh, you already know?" Maria honestly replied, "Yes, but there will be many suitable young ladies who would be eager to dance with your highness." At this, Ainz replied with a hint of distress, "That's true, many." Seeing his expression, she wondered, is there something that frightens him? He seems worried about something. Then she said, "I am merely a commoner who doesn't know how to dance. I believe choosing me would be a mistake." But Ainz shook his head. "No, my choice is very clear. Listen, and keep this secret between us." Maria respectfully replied, "Yes, Your Highness." He continued, "There is a young lady whom the Queen has already designated as my future wife." Upon hearing this, Maria found it hard to believe. Ainz continued to explain, "I am using this method to prevent that from happening, but if they see me dancing with that girl this year, the elders will pressure me into marriage, so I need your help to buy some time." After listening, Maria fell silent. The marriage and life of a crown prince being influenced by political forces was an unavoidable issue. Then she quickly accepted, "Very well, I will help. But on one condition, you must do everything in your power to protect me so that I don't become a victim of the political factions and manipulative forces around you." Maria's condition surprised Ainz, but he responded with a faint smile and agreed, "I promise, and this is your task, so you will also be rewarded upon completion." Hearing that, she grew even happier. Little did she know, Ainz continued, "But the reward will depend on your ability. You have 1 week to practice and master dancing skills with me. Let's start right now." The moment he finished speaking, Maria froze. She regretted it. "Can I back out of this?" she thought. "I should have thought this through more carefully. I should have said no when I had the chance." A few days later, with 7 days left until the ball, Maria was still diligently practicing her dance lessons. Turn, 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 to your right, not your left. Yes, that's it. After an unknown amount of time, her instructor sternly announced that today's lesson was over, while Maria collapsed to her knees on the floor, silently screaming in her mind, "Just kill me." Despite this, Cecil paid her no mind and coldly departed. "I'll see you at this time tomorrow. Never stop practicing. Always keep the dance steps running in your head, young lady," leaving a weary and panting Maria to reply, "Yes." She slumped onto a chair, grumbling,
If I had known this would happen, I would have refused Ein's request. Just then, Luri flew over to ask, "Are you all right, sis?" Maria replied with her head down, "Perfectly fine," but Luri said, "I don't think so." So Maria leaned back again, looking helpless as she began to complain. That practice was really too much, so tiring. Her eyes vacant, she mumbled, "I should go to sleep. I should go back to my room." In a daze, Maria heard someone calling her. "Young lady, wake up." She mumbled, "What is it? Is someone calling me?" Then Maria startled awake, and the maid said, "Young lady, it's time for dinner." She looked bewildered. "It is?" Looking at the blanket on her, Maria wondered, what's this?
"Chloe, did you bring this to me?" She replied, "No, my lady." Then Maria turned to Luri and asked, "Do you know who it is?" Luri yawned widely and replied, "Luri fell asleep too." Chloe immediately said, "It might be another maid." Maria replied, half believing, half doubting, "Perhaps." Saying that, she tilted her head and looked back at the blanket. The next day, after the countdown to Ein's birthday party, Maria continued to practice by herself, spinning, 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 precisely. A moment later, Sessin pushed the door open and entered, followed by Ein's. Seeing this, she immediately asked, "Your Highness, what are you doing here?" Sessin replied, "Today His Highness wishes to rehearse the movements with you." Ein's also politely asked, "May I?" Then the two of them gently held hands. Ein said, "Let's begin." Maria replied, "Yes, Your Highness," but inwardly she was extremely flustered. "It's too sudden, I haven't had time to prepare." To the melodious music, she coordinated with Ein's incredibly smoothly, which left Maria utterly surprised. "Huh? This?"
It's easier to dance alone. It's unfair, he has both good looks and dancing skills. Lost in thought, she carelessly stumbled. Fortunately, Ein's caught Maria in time. In a daze, she vaguely realized Ein's had caught her. She didn't feel any pain, but something seemed off. His handsome face was magnified before her eyes. Maria couldn't help but be stunned. "Wait, am I kissing the crown prince?" Both startled, they quickly pulled apart, her cheeks involuntarily flushing crimson. Cecil rushed over to ask Ein's, "Oh my goodness, are you all right, Your Highness?" He said, "I'm fine." Then he asked Maria, "And you?" Hearing this, she shyly replied, "Yes, I'm fine." He immediately reassured her. "These things happen often while dancing, so you must be careful." Hearing this, Maria's face grew even redder. Ein's was worried about her. How unexpected. But then she heard him continue. "We need to make sure this doesn't happen on that day, or we'll both become the laughingstock of the entire kingdom. Both you and I need to practice more. Please continue, Miss Cecil." Hearing this, she bowed deeply. "I am honored to receive this responsibility, Your Highness." At this moment, only Maria and Cecil remained inside. After closing the door, Ein's gaze slowly changed, and he silently called her name, Maria Llewellyn. He recalled the previous day, when Ein's unexpectedly visited, and he happened to catch Maria dozing off in a chair. Ein's involuntarily chuckled, which puzzled Ter. He asked him, "Your Highness, what makes you so amused?" But Ein's didn't answer, instructing instead, "Shh, tell the maids to bring a blanket here."
Tay was stunned, and though he didn't understand anything, he still replied, "Huh? Oh yes, Your Royal Highness." Very soon after, the servant brought the blanket and handed it to Ein's. "Here's the blanket as you requested." He went in alone and silently stared at Maria. He couldn't help but feel a little pity. The dance lesson must have been very tiring. She looked so different. When he was done, Ein's quickly left, but he kept muttering to himself, falling asleep on the sofa like that, slipping and stumbling while dancing. Thinking of this, Ein's ears suddenly turned bright red. He told himself, "I just can't leave her alone." Suddenly, there were only 5 days left until the birthday ball. Seeing Ein's arrive again with Season, Maria was surprised.
She asked nervously, "Are you here to practice with me again today, Your Highness?" Cecil immediately answered for him. "That's right, dancing isn't a solo performance. It's best for two people to practice together to learn how to coordinate with each other." Hearing that, Maria's mind became even more troubled. But before she could do anything, Ein's came to her side and said, "Let's begin. Oh, and about yesterday?" Before he could finish speaking, she hastily interrupted him. That was just an accident." Maria awkwardly turned her face away and said, "I stumbled. I apologize, and I'm perfectly fine. I'm not bothered by that incident at all." Ein's was stunned by this. That expression clearly showed she was very bothered by it. Indeed, just as he thought, Maria was currently panicking, thinking, "My mind keeps obsessing over that incident." So Ein's cleared his throat a few times and said, "Yes, it was indeed an unfortunate accident. Let's just forget about it and move on." Hearing that, Maria quickly nodded, "Yes." Then both of them looked at each other in silence. It was Ein's who spoke first. He looked at Luri and asked, "By the way, what is that?" Maria asked back, puzzled. "Pardon?" He said, "The creature on your shoulder. I think I've seen it before." Maria honestly replied, "I just picked it up a few days ago. It's a long-tailed tit. I call it Luri." After she finished introducing it, Luri spread its wings and said, "Greetings, Your Highness. It's a pleasure to meet you."
But to Ein's it was simply chirping, so Maria quickly explained that it loved to talk. "How adorable," Ein's nodded. He said, "I'm not too fond of birds." At this moment, Luri looked up and said to Maria,
This man looks a lot like your Black Panther friend. Maria heard this and pondered. Is that so? On second thought, both had a somewhat stiff demeanor, but were kind-hearted. Then she suddenly heard Ein say, Maria, shall we begin? At this, Maria snapped back to attention and replied, yes. As they drew closer, he said, tomorrow is not for practice, so we need to give it our all today. Maria, puzzled, asked, no dance practice tomorrow? Why? Eins replied, I've arranged a meeting with people who can help you. The next day, Eins took Maria to an unfamiliar place. She respectfully bowed to the person in front of her. It's a pleasure to meet you both. I am Maria Whalen.
Marquise Dmitri nodded in return. Hello, it's a pleasure to meet you. His wife gently added, you must have had a long journey to get here. After the pleasantries, Maria took out a brocade box and said, we've prepared a small gift for you two, nothing extravagant. Still, she felt a pang of anxiety, hoping she hadn't committed any faux pas. But Lady Dmitri unexpectedly chuckled and said, oh, there's no need for that, thank you. Then she warmly took Maria's hand and asked, may I call you Maria? Would that make you uncomfortable? She politely replied, yes, that's perfectly fine, please do. Hearing this, she nodded. All right then. Afterwards, Marquise Dmitri said to Maria, all right, Maria, I must be going now. I hope you two have a wonderful time. As soon as he left, Lady Dmitri kindly invited her to sit. We need to have a chat. She said, I heard you will be the Crown Prince's dance partner at the ball. Maria replied, yes, that's correct. This made Lady Dmitri anxious. She sighed and said, I'm worried about Miss Winston's reaction to this. Upon hearing this, she was puzzled. Miss Winston? After a moment of hesitation, Lady Dmitri continued, what we are about to discuss should best not leave this room, do you agree? Maria nodded seriously. Yes. So she began to explain. For a long time, the Emperor has been pressured to have Rosalia Winston marry the Crown Prince, but His Majesty has firmly opposed this marriage. I suspect that the Winston family has long been close friends with the Empress, and she would easily seize control of the entire kingdom if this marriage were to happen. If this were to occur, the Crown Prince would certainly have his power restricted. Even though we are currently safe, I still want to ensure he has all the necessary support. Hearing this, Maria expressed her agreement, saying, I feel the same way, ma'am. Lady Dmitri continued, that is why the Marquis Dmitri's family will protect you. Maria asked in surprise, protect? She immediately nodded. It was all requested by Al. Al requested it? So Maria ventured to ask again, he specifically requested it? Lady Dmitri smiled and replied, of course, it's clear he cares a great deal about you, miss. Who knows what might happen between the two of you in the future? This left her utterly confused. Seeing her confusion, she quickly explained, oh, perhaps I was mistaken? I heard you two are staying in the same palace, so I just assumed. Maria blushed and lowering her head told Lady Dmitri, we do live in the same palace, but there are reasons for it. It's a long story. I helped him heal Glick, and he agreed to grant me a wish. A small misunderstanding occurred when I asked for a piece of land, but he thought I wanted to become a princess, which I absolutely did not. Hearing Maria explain all that, the lady became even more confused. I see. With that, Lady Dmitri changed the subject. By the way, I've been thinking a bit about what I can do for you as a patron. I'd like to invite you to a private party I'm hosting. Many powerful young ladies and madams will be attending, and getting to know them will certainly be beneficial for you. Looking at the invitation card, Maria felt anxious, and she hesitantly replied to the lady, I don't know if I'm capable enough to... But Lady Dmitri directly interrupted Maria. Don't worry. Before she could finish speaking, someone suddenly opened the door and entered. Seeing the pile of documents this person had just brought, Maria was stunned. What is all this? Then she heard him say, these are the documents you requested, madam. The lady immediately replied, thank you. Maria continued to observe silently, wondering, all of this for me? No way. Just then Lady Dmitri continued, it's quite a lot, I know. Seeing this, Maria couldn't help but feel pressured. She smiled and replied, yes, it's quite a lot, but what are these documents about? The lady covered her mouth and chuckled. Everything about royal etiquette and detailed information about the party attendees, including every single detail, even the family histories and related families. I truly hope they will be useful to you, Maria. Upon hearing this, Maria immediately felt dizzy and lightheaded, but she still had to put on a cheerful face and ask, how can I ever thank you? Moreover, Maria couldn't stop complaining inwardly. Dancing practice is already difficult enough, and now there's something even more boring and troublesome to learn. After an unknown amount of time, Maria finally got to go home. She tiredly sat in front of Gleek's stable and said, hello, Gleek, I'm here. It quickly noticed her unusual state. Not as cheerful as usual, are we? Maria asked back. Me? Gleek replied, yes, you. Then she began to recall what had just happened. It was terrifying that she had to read all of that before tomorrow. Not to mention, there was only one day left until the party. What on earth? But Lori was enthusiastically cheering her on from beside her. You can do it. Maria's mood brightened again, her eyes welling up as she said, thank you, Lori, but since when did you two become so close?
As soon as she finished speaking, Glick frowned and pushed Luri away, saying, "Not at all, get out of my head." But Luri showed no fear. It jumped up and said to Maria, "I know when you're lying now." Maria asked, puzzled, "Lying about what?" Luri said, "You tricked me. Breakfast isn't pretty or cute." Glick chimed in, "That's right, you lied." Then both of them attacked Maria together. Liar, fake. So she had no choice but to admit, "I'm sorry." Hearing this, Luri immediately became cheerful again. "It's okay, Glick understands you, and so do I." But Glick looked up and asked, "Really?" Luri quickly replied, "Yes, he said you lied to avoid hurting my feelings." Seeing Luri and Glick like that, Maria unconsciously felt her tension ease. She smiled softly at them. "Lately I haven't had much time to take care of you two. It seems Luri has been playing with Glick quite a lot." Seeing Glick vehemently shaking its head and grumbling, "I told you that was our secret," while Luri, scared, hugged Glick's paw and whimpered, "I'm sorry, I forgot," Maria burst out laughing again.
Outside, someone suddenly knocked on the door and called out, "Lady, the Crown Prince requests your presence." Hearing this, Maria's face went blank. Inside that luxurious and splendid room, Ainz stated plainly, "I hear you have an important invitation." Maria replied without hesitation, "Yes." Then he took a sip of tea and continued to ask, "She must like you very much. When is the party?" She replied, "Tomorrow." Hearing this, Ainz inquired, "So soon? Will you go?" Maria chuckled, "Yes, it is quite urgent. I have accepted the invitation, so I will go." He seemed satisfied, then instructed her, "Good. Remember to dress properly. Don't spare any effort in adorning yourself." Maria replied again, "Yes, of course." Pausing for a moment, Ainz continued, "Something like the dress you wore during practice yesterday will suffice." Hearing his words, Maria chuckled softly. She pondered for a moment, then asked, "Do you like that outfit?" Seeing Ainz not respond, but merely gently swirl the teacup in his hand, Maria thought to herself, "I've never seen him so flustered before." At this moment, Ainz's face flushed crimson, and he pressed his lips together, unsure how to answer. Maria's question and adorable expression kept replaying in his mind. He really likes that dress when I'm the one wearing it? So he remembers how splendid I looked? After a long silence from Ainz, who remained pensive, she suddenly panicked. Wait, is he angry? So Maria hastily said, I was just joking." Hearing that, Ainz coldly replied, "Yes, you look very beautiful." After saying that, Ainz took another sip of tea to calm himself down. Maria, on the other hand, blushed crimson, feeling both shy and confused. "Yes," she managed. The room fell silent again. Ainz turned his face away, not daring to look directly at Maria, and said, "I was just being polite." She quickly replied, "Just as I thought." Then Ainz put down his teacup and continued, "Did you skip today's training session?" Maria nodded, "Yes." Then Ainz awkwardly suggested, "So can we try again right now?" His words stunned her. Her heart pounded, and then without a moment's hesitation she agreed. "Yes, of course." After saying that, Ainz stepped closer to Maria. She gently took his hand, and then the two of them quietly looked at each other. Inside the palace, Ainz and Maria were dancing. Her steps and her blue shoes were incredibly graceful. Maria, with flushed cheeks, looked up at him. Ainz gently looked down and praised, "You've improved a lot." Seeing this, Maria smiled shyly and replied, "I've practiced by myself quite a few times." Then she looked up with concern and asked, "Oh, is there anything I should keep in mind for tomorrow?" Ainz took her hand, raised it, and said, "She will introduce you as a distant relative." He gently guided Maria across the dance floor. Ainz gave her a reassuring and affectionate smile and said, "There's nothing to worry about. Everything has been perfectly prepared." Maria was also momentarily taken aback when she saw his demeanor. Then she smiled confidently and replied, "Your Highness can rest assured. I will play my role perfectly and not let her down." After speaking, she performed a full ceremonial bow to Ainz. He tilted his head slightly and calmly affirmed, "I am not worried. I trust you." He then gave her another smile full of confidence. "You will do very well." On a day of heavy rain, Ainz sat alone in his study. He continuously picked up documents, signing and reviewing work, which made Ainz sigh. My father's illness began with insomnia, followed by headaches and chest pains. Even after being examined by royal physicians, his condition only worsened. In his desperation, he even gathered doctors from outside the palace, but no one could cure him. No one could even discover the cause of the illness, and he had to rely on medicine, powerful drugs that affected his mind. The wisest man in the kingdom became extremely sensitive and short-tempered, and his mental state deteriorated day by day. That was when I had to carry out state affairs myself. Gerard, my half-brother, was too young to shoulder these responsibilities, and as long as his mother was still around, I couldn't risk involving him in these matters. Ainz thus sank into his own thoughts in the vast space of his study. The rain outside grew heavier and heavier. Looking at the raindrops splashing against the window, he wondered, what is Maria doing right now? Ainz recalled her smile at that moment. "Don't worry about me, Your Royal Highness." He unconsciously smiled, affirming in his mind, "I'm sure she will perform very well." At this moment, the butler entered, carrying a stack of documents. "I have come to report," he said. He was startled to see Ainz smiling. "Your Highness, you're still smiling." Ainz quickly composed himself, clearing his throat. "Ahem, yes." Seeing this, the butler, utterly bewildered, said, Lately, Your Highness has been acting a bit strangely. I'm a little unaccustomed to seeing your unusual actions and gestures, such as touching your hand to your lips. Ainz still tried to divert the conversation to another topic. Ahem. I understand Maria is attending the Marquise's tea party. Seeing this, the butler wearily frowned and said, I understand you're worried if Maria. Ainz immediately cut him off, asserting, I'm sure she's having a good time. The butler, rendered speechless and helpless, said nothing. Then he began, Ainz, Your Highness seems to show quite a lot of interest in her, as well as matters concerning her protector. He smiled once more, affirming, She has my trust. In exchange for her help at the ball, she requested our assistance. Hearing this, the butler exclaimed in surprise, Oh, so that's it. The rain had stopped, and sunlight streamed through the window. Ainz began to explain, as an image of Maria dancing with him appeared in his mind. Maria requested protection. When people see a girl protected by the Dmitri family dancing with me, they will start to gossip. It seems Maria knows how to plan for the long term, while others only see immediate benefits. At the same time, on Maria's side, she was taking a stroll. She entered a lavishly decorated room. Maria, radiant, praised it without reservation. How beautiful.
Lady Dmitri pulled out a chair for her, told her to sit, and then said, Indeed, this place was designed for tea parties. Suddenly, Maria noticed. As she sat down, Maria looked around, counting 1, 2, 3, 4. After counting, she pondered, wondering, Are 4 more people joining us? Just then, Lady Dmitri's voice rang out. They will arrive in about half an hour. I called you to come early to instruct you on a few things. Hearing this, she immediately turned and asked curiously, Oh, what things? Hearing her familiar tone, Lady Dmitri was silent for a moment. Then she smiled affectionately, placed her hand forward, and said, Pretend I am one of the nobles, and talk to me, Maria. Maria immediately complied, flustered. Huh? I am Maria Lovelin, a distant relative of Marquis Dmitri. The two continued to converse as time passed. Afterwards, Maria successfully curtsied to the other guests.
Catalia smiled gently, praising her. Oh my, I didn't know you were such a beautiful young lady. The blonde lady also praised her without reservation. Oh, if only youth could return. Maria continued to bow and introduced herself. After completing the treatment for the Crown Prince's Black Panther, I am currently the royal veterinarian. Then she gently sat back in her chair. The greeting rituals were complete, and the proper etiquette for holding her hands and the teacup handle at a 90-degree angle had been observed. Next, Maria suddenly turned to Catalia and asked, Madam, she gently replied, Yes. She praised her in the most sincere tone possible. That necklace shines and looks truly elegant. It suits you very well. Catalia, pleased by the compliment, smiled delightedly. Really? Few young ladies pay attention to such small details. She also smiled back, secretly thinking to herself, just as she had known beforehand, Lady Catalia truly loved compliments. Lady Dmitri sat still, raised her teacup to drink, and silently nodded in praise of her. My first tea party was quite daunting, but I followed the Marquise's instructions, and it was truly effective. Everyone was very lovely. They also liked me. It was still raining, and I planned to take Glick for a walk. I felt like my vocabulary was improving quite a bit. One evening, during a heavy downpour, Maria sat in front of Glick and asked, Are you sick? Lurie anxiously looked up at Glick and asked, Oh my, are you all right? But it turned its face away and replied indifferently, shocking Lurie. Not sick. Maria immediately asked, Then why aren't you eating dinner?
Glick wagged its tail up and down in response to her. Not very hungry. Maria looked down at it anxiously, asking, You seem sad today. What's wrong? Glick remained silent as she stroked its head. In the rain outside, it softly recounted, Ainz talked to me a few days ago, and we made plans to go for a walk together after a long time.
Glick recounted, lying stretched out in disappointment, but today, at feeding time, he said that the person had to cancel that appointment. Both the person and the 2 pets looked out at the pouring rain. Maria sadly thought, Well, we can't go out because it's raining outside. Then she turned back and tried to explain to Glick, It must be because of the rain, but he refuted her words. No, the person said something had happened, and he had to be busier. Hearing that, Maria frowned even more, full of worry. Suddenly, an idea popped into her head, and she asked, Want to play a game? Glick immediately lifted his head and asked, A game? What kind of game? His ears were now perked up, showing interest. Maria quickly explained with a hint of embarrassment. It's a word chain game. If I say meat, you have to say the next word starting with the letter T. She continued to ramble on about the rules of the game. When I say frame, you say, Glick immediately jumped in, eraser. Seeing him respond so fluently, Maria was suddenly surprised and wondered to herself, Huh? I thought you weren't in the mood. That fast? Then she pointed forward and said loudly, Rendezvous. Seeing that, Glick curled his lip in disdain and said, You can't just make up words. Maria tried to defend herself, but could only say in her mind, That's a commonly used word where I come from. But looking at Glick wagging his tail in delight, Maria also happily thought, But that doesn't matter. It seems to have made him feel a little better. Suddenly, he lay down completely, looking at Lurie, which scared Lurie. Maria sat watching the 2 pets play together, her heart heavy. Ainz is too busy. I know, I'm sure he really wants to spend time playing with Glick.
Finally, she made up her mind. The only thing left to do was to finish the gift she wanted to give Eins. As night fell, the maids successively left their mistress's room. At that moment, a knock sounded from outside the door. That knock was the signal for Maria to open her eyes, and she softly asked, "Are they all gone?" Luri gently flew over to report, "They're all gone." Immediately after, Maria got out of bed, leaving it empty. She skillfully threaded the needle to sew, and under the dim light, only she and Luri were awake. While sewing, Maria pricked herself with the needle, causing a tiny spurt of blood to appear. "Ah!" Luri also startled. "Are you all right?" Maria tried to smile reassuringly at the little bird. I'm fine. Luri, however, wore a worried expression. The following evening, Maria continued to sew and talk with Luri. "Is that so?" It excitedly told her its story. "That's right. And next..." In the morning, when Chloe brought tea to Maria, she saw Maria's haggard face and immediately became worried. "My lady, are you all right?" Maria could only say, "I'm fine. I can handle it myself." She continued working the next night. The room was silent in the dark. As soon as she finished the last stitch, Maria emotionally said, "Finally." She was so overjoyed she almost cried, exclaiming, "It's finished." Just then, the door opened and light footsteps entered. Chloe politely asked Maria, "Did you call for me, my lady?" Maria then presented a blue gift box to Chloe. Ta-da! Looking at the gift box, Chloe praised, "Oh my, it's finally done. It's lovely." Maria smiled brightly and said to her, "I know you see it too, don't you? It's a secret for now, but wait until you see what it really is." Chloe excitedly and curiously asked, "Oh, who is it for?" Maria didn't hide it, replying, "For the crown prince." Upon hearing this, Chloe understood. "I see." Holding the gift box, Maria suggested, "Could you find something for me to tie the gift with?" Chloe didn't refuse. Of course. She then left the room to find gift wrapping supplies. As she left the room and closed the door with a joyful expression, another maid was already waiting. Linda, with a gloomy expression in arms crossed, called out, "Chloe." Chloe was startled when she saw Linda. Linda, clearly annoyed, questioned her, "Have you done what I told you to do yet?" Chloe immediately made an excuse to avoid the topic. "Oh, about that. Well, my lady called for me, so..." Linda maintained her stern demeanor, arms still crossed, and said, "Well, my lady is asleep now, so..." Thousands of thoughts raced through Chloe's mind, but she couldn't speak. What should I do? I promised her I'd keep it a secret. Seeing her silence, Linda grew impatient and snapped, "What in the world are you doing here at this hour?" Chloe trembled as she stood before Linda and said, "Mistress, you..." Linda immediately cut Chloe off. "Don't use her as an excuse anymore, Chloe." Just then, Maria stepped out to intervene. "Linda, stop it." Linda was startled to see her. "Mistress?" Maria's face furrowed in anger. Seeing her mistress's anger, Linda immediately stammered in fear. I thought you weren't here, so I assumed Chloe was..." Maria quickly stood between the two maids and said, "Well, now you know." Linda's hands unconsciously clenched in anger. Then she spread her arms and began to criticize Chloe, saying she was incredibly lazy, that she hadn't even finished the cleaning task I assigned her. Seeing this, Maria sighed and explained, "Linda, I was the one who called Chloe here." Chloe, being defended, remained silent. Hearing this, Linda froze, unable to say anything further. Maria continued, her tone angry, "So when you bully her, it's just like you're bullying me." These words struck Linda like lightning, leaving her bewildered. "No, I never thought of it that way." Seeing the tense situation, Chloe moved closer to Maria. She shyly stammered, "Mistress." Observing Chloe's awkward demeanor, Maria mused, "Was that a bit much? I can't just sit there and watch Chloe get bullied, but I know Linda isn't a bad person. She's just very straightforward and easily emotional." Maria secretly glanced at Linda, thinking to herself, "She'll get angry out of jealousy if she finds out only Chloe gets to see the gift." With that thought, she turned and walked into the room, speaking to the two maids. "Chloe, please do what I asked you to. Linda, would you come in here with me?" Linda, who had just been scolded, now looked dumbfounded at being called. Then both of them went into Maria's room. She placed the blue gift box on the table and said, "Here." Linda looked at the gift box bewildered, not understanding. "Huh?" Maria held the gift box and probed. "You're upset because I trusted Chloe and gave her the secret task, which is why you scolded her, right?" Linda was caught red-handed, her face burning with shame. Maria happily lifted the gift box and exclaimed, "Ta-da!" Maria smiled, covering her mouth with her index finger and said, "So I think I should let both of you know this secret. Give me your advice." Linda bowed respectfully, her face still red with embarrassment. "Yes, young lady, I'll..." Suddenly, Linda was bewildered as she realized something. She bowed her head and confusedly asked Maria, startling Maria as well, "But young lady, what is that?" The scene shifts to the garden outside. Maria happily walked Glick. She recalled how Linda had apologized to Chloe earlier. "I'm sorry for overreacting, Chloe." Remembering that, Maria happily thought, "Good, this should resolve the issue between the two of them." As they were walking, Glick suddenly stopped dead. Seeing this, Maria turned her head and asked, "What's wrong?" It sighed dejectedly, saying, "It seems we have guests." Then Glick decisively turned its back and said, "We should go back. I don't like them." Its reckless speed made her shout,
All right, Glick. Maria frantically pulled it back, urging, slow down. Afterwards, both human and beast were inside the mansion. Maria gently closed the door. She panted, tired from running, and thought, it's too fast, I almost couldn't keep up. Suddenly, someone called her name. Maria. Maria, drenched in sweat, turned around and replied, yes. A young man with tan skin smiled and said, so that's you, I'm... But before he could finish, Maria interrupted, shouting, Mazos, damn it.
She then realized she had misspoken and fell silent. The young man continued to approach her, explaining, I went to Atlas to find you, but when I arrived at Rose's house, Gerard gently lifted a lock of Maria's hair and said, she told me the girl with red hair was Maria. Gerard continued to shake his head and rambled on. That girl named Rose, she's annoying, truly hateful and useless. The old people living there told him that Maria had left for an adventure, so he gave up and came back here, only to reunite with you at the palace. Ambushed by his radiant smile and a barrage of nonsensical remarks, Maria stammered, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to deceive you, I'm truly sorry. Gerard didn't dwell on the past and said, it's all right, the important thing is that we're together again. Seeing this, Maria also smiled and replied, oh, of course, but what brings you here? He casually stated what he wanted. I came to see Ainz. Seeing his mistake, Maria immediately put her index finger to her mouth, then whispered in a voice loud enough for the entire palace to hear, hey, you can't call him by his name directly here.
Gerard still smiled good-naturedly, unconcerned. Wouldn't it be very awkward if relatives talked to each other in such rigid, formal ways? Maria then continued to dissuade him, saying that his being a relative of His Majesty didn't matter, because His Majesty was royalty. In the middle of speaking, she suddenly gasped, what? Relatives? Gerard calmly walked over and replied, still the same. Ainz looked at the person in front of him and asked, why did you take so long this time? Gerard gazed pensively out the window. He thought for a moment before replying, I met someone who captivated me on this trip. I feel this is destiny. Ainz, who had intended to give a casual reply, was also startled. Really?
Gerard happily turned back to Ainz and said, because I met her again at the palace. Ainz asked skeptically, the palace? Ainz's face darkened as he understood Gerard's meaning. So that must be someone I know. Who is it? Gerard casually replied, it's Maria. Ainz's face immediately darkened when he heard him finish the sentence, Maria Llewellyn. On the important day, the palace was splendidly decorated. Maria, in a blue dress, walked ahead of Lady Dimitri, admiring everything, unaware that such a place existed within the palace. Suddenly, someone called her name, making her turn her head. Maria Llewellyn. A gentle young lady with light orange hair approached to greet her. I am Erica from the Highland family. It's a pleasure to meet you. Lady Dimitri happily covered her face, letting Maria handle it herself. In Maria's mind, an image of someone she had met before appeared. Oh, the daughter of, then she boldly guessed, Lady Margaret. Erica happily nodded. Yes. The two young ladies continued to chat like that, and Lady Dimitri skillfully moved away, leaving Maria to herself. Elsewhere, Gerard was also chatting with Marquis Dimitri. Suddenly, someone greeted him. Long time no see, Your Highness. Maria, watching from the side, couldn't help but wonder. Gerard, why did the Marquis call Gerard that? I thought he was a distant relative of the Crown Prince.
Gerard quickly walked over to where the two girls were talking. Hello. Maria looked at him in surprise and questioned, are you also royalty? Why didn't you say so before? Seeing that the two needed some private space, Erica stepped away. I'll talk to you later. He gently explained to her, because afterwards people would look at me differently. I want you to see me as just a boy you met at sea. Seeing this, Maria raised her pinky finger, trembling, and said, all right, I can overlook the formalities if you promise not to imprison or execute me for treating you so casually. Gerard also raised his pinky finger, for them both the promise, it's a promise. Then he looked up the stairs where someone was descending and said, Ainz is here. Ainz was dressed in an elegant black suit. At the bottom of the stairs, a young lady was waiting for him. That young lady was Rosalia, but Ainz coldly walked past her. He offered a compliment that made Rosalia sneer. You look wonderful. But in reality, those were Ainz's words for Maria. He extended his hand to invite her. May I have the honor of a dance with you, Maria? Maria agreed without hesitation. It would be my honor, Your Highness. In her mind, she thought, let's begin. While everyone was observing their gestures, Ainz asked her, where is the bird? Maria calmly replied, I don't need any more reasons for everyone to stare at me.
The two faced each other, hands intertwined. The music began, and they lost themselves in it. After the dance, Ainz stood before her and instructed, other men will want to invite you to dance. Don't feel constrained. Agree if you wish, or decline if you don't like it. But Maria was bewildered. Huh? He coldly turned his back and said, if you need to rest, go up to the rooftop. Maria, not understanding his intention, thought blankly, now? Leaving me like this? What is this? Gerard seized this opportunity, approached her, and extended his hand, inviting, may I have this dance? Maria not only didn't refuse, but playfully joked. Gerard, oh, dance at your own risk. Be prepared to have your feet stepped on. He indulged her. All right, Tailleur. Ainz's gaze darkened as he watched the pair. After the dance, Maria did exactly as Ainz had said and went up to the rooftop to rest, feeling exhausted. She gently took off her shoes. Maria sat on the rooftop railing, tiredly thinking, I've been spinning around all night in these incredibly uncomfortable shoes.
Suddenly, someone opened the door, and Maria, startled, asked, "Who's there?" Eins, with a serious expression, stepped into the courtyard. Seeing him, she immediately raised her hand in greeting. Eins.
Seeing her, he approached and asked, "Oh, are you here?" Maria happily replied with another question, "Are you here to enjoy the breeze?" She was thinking about him in her mind, but her face betrayed her thoughts. Being stuck in a large crowd with all eyes fixed on him was truly a terrifying experience. Suddenly, Eins noticed her walking barefoot and asked, "What's wrong?" Maria wearily replied, "I'm just a little tired." Seeing that, he didn't ask further, but brought up another topic. "All right, are you ready to come with me?" Maria looked at Eins curiously as he approached the railing, asking, "With you?" Then, from there, he took a leap and jumped down. Maria was so shocked by this action that she had to stand up, exclaiming, "What is he doing?"
Seeing Eins still safe, sitting on a tree branch, she stammered, "Your Highness?" He gently descended from the branch, landing safely. Then Eins spread his arms and said, "Jump, I'll catch you." Maria froze as if struck by lightning, thinking, "What?" Hearing his urging, she had to comply. "Hurry?" "Oh, all right." She shakily climbed onto the railing with difficulty. Sitting on the outer edge of the railing, Maria closed her eyes and said, "I'm about to jump." With that, she pushed off, letting herself fall. Maria finally landed gently in Eins's arms. She slowly opened her eyes when she heard him say, "Oh, there you go." Before her was Eins's handsome face, magnified. Maria blushed and said, You caught me." Eins replied, "Of course." She smiled contentedly and praised, "I didn't think you could do it." Elsewhere, someone stomped heavily across the floor. Rosalia stood on the rooftop. She saw the entire scene of Eins holding Maria. Rosalia's face darkened, her eyes bloodshot and cloudy. Is that her? Her eyes were filled with images of Maria. "Are you ignoring me for that country bumpkin?" In the dead of night, Eins thoughtfully gazed at the gift box on the table. Maria had given it to him. She had said, "Since you're here, I thought it best to give it to you now." When he received it, he asked, "What is this?" But Maria had mysteriously replied, "You can open it when you return to your room." Thinking of this, Eins unconsciously smiled again. "It's been so long since I felt such joy receiving a gift like this."
But when he opened the box, he was completely stunned. Holding the gift in his hand, Eins was puzzled. What is this? A piece of cut silk? Then he suddenly noticed the letter inside. Eins opened it. The content inside was written with extreme care. "Happy birthday, my beloved and respected Crown Prince." As he read the words, the scene of Maria making this gift herself seemed to appear before Eins's eyes. She wrote, "Thanks to your Highness, I have done very well and had a wonderful time with Glick here. I hope I can be of some use to your Highness, even if it's not much." While sewing it, Maria had pricked her fingers many times, but she only wrote, "This is a gift from me to your Highness, something you can wear to sleep. Once again, happy birthday, your Highness." Eins sat there quietly, carefully reading the letter. Then he smiled, still finding it hard to believe. Pajamas? Looking at the end of the letter, he saw Maria's postscript. "It might look strange, but please try it on. They are extremely comfortable." After reading it, Eins mumbled again, "Pajamas, huh?" Then he ordered his servant, "Prepare a bath for me." The servant immediately replied, "Yes, your Highness." Eins also instructed, "Don't touch this. It's a gift. I should try it on." With that, he began to change his clothes. The next morning, Maria woke up on her own. She smiled softly, thinking, "What a truly comfortable morning. It's time." Just then, Linda rushed in, calling out in a panic, "Miss, are you awake?" Maria replied, "Yes."
Linda continued, "The Queen wants to see you right now." This surprised Maria. Now? Her? After saying that, Linda quickly helped her brush her hair. She said that the Queen was a very beautiful and wonderful person. This time it's because of her. That's why I'm afraid of her. At this moment, Maria was extremely nervous. People heard of her much more often than they actually met her. She must be a very frightening person.
Nevertheless, she still had to go see her. As soon as she entered, Maria quickly bowed in greeting. "Your Majesty, I am deeply honored to be in your presence." Clopedia immediately replied, "I hope I haven't inconvenienced you by summoning you so suddenly." Hearing this, she wondered, why now? What's going on? Is Rosalia here too? But in the end, Maria forced a smile and said, "It's no trouble at all, Your Majesty. It is my honor to be here." As soon as she finished speaking, Rosalia frowned, showing her displeasure. Maria paid no mind to her and turned to Clopedia, saying, "I couldn't possibly come empty-handed, so please accept this gift as a token of my gratitude." Inwardly, she couldn't help but feel grateful to Marilyn. "I didn't know their custom was to bring gifts to formal meetings like this. Thank goodness Marilyn gave me one just in time." Just as she thought this, Maria saw Rosalia slowly stand up. She was puzzled. Huh? Why is she coming closer to me? Suddenly, she raised her hand and slapped Maria hard across the face. Before Maria could even react, Rosalia shrieked, "How dare you humiliate me in front of everyone?" Stunned by the sudden blow, Maria froze. Her hands trembled, clutching the hem of her dress. Then Maria heard Clopedia's admonition, "Rosalia, manners, control yourself."
Nevertheless, Rosalia still wanted to continue, replying, "But, Your Majesty."
Seeing this, she merely took an indifferent sip of tea and said, "You are truly a disappointment. Behaving like this? Allow me to apologize on her behalf." Maria immediately bowed and replied, "No, Your Majesty, you do not need to apologize." These words made Clopedia laugh. "How lovely. You truly are a charming girl." Then she set her teacup down. "I heard you healed the leopard, but as the Crown Prince's first dance partner, do you understand the implications?" Upon hearing this, Maria instantly grasped her meaning. "How dare you pull such a stunt right before my eyes?" So she calmly replied, "I understand, but I swear I did not know he would invite me to dance." After explaining, Maria was permitted to leave. But before she had taken more than a few steps, the room door was flung open again. Rosalia shouted, "Stop right there." Maria frowned, knowing immediately that they wouldn't let her go so easily. Following that, she heard Rosalia hastily approaching her. She intended to continue hitting Maria without the slightest hesitation. "Aren't you ashamed at all?" But for some reason, Rosalia stopped midway, her face full of confusion. "What, you just—" Maria said, "I was invited here as the royal veterinarian, and under the commission of Marquis Dimitri, I came and brought gifts. I have strictly adhered to the required etiquette and shown respect, but you seem to be blinded by anger and are acting this way." At this point, she leaned closer and whispered into Rosalia's ear, "What if the Crown Prince knew this side of you? It's a pleasure to meet you, Lady Rosalia." Having said that, without waiting for her to react, Maria decisively left. "If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave." She slowly walked back to her room, feeling extremely upset. Why did she have to go through all this? Why did they hate her so much? Lost in thought, she stood still and looked back. The maid Chloe gently pushed open the door to Maria's room. Seeing her swollen red cheek, she was heartbroken. "Oh, lady, this is quite serious. Those rumors will spread very quickly and be hard to control." Hearing this, Maria forced a smile and replied, "Does it look that bad?" Luri also flew over in a panic, asking, "Are you okay?" She immediately reassured it. "I'm fine." Just then, the room door opened again. Linda announced, "The Crown Prince is here." These words startled Maria. "What?" Then she saw Ainz step out from behind the curtain. It was then that he understood. "So the Empress called for you." Hearing this, Maria felt awkward. How did he know? She didn't answer, so Ainz came closer and asked, "What happened to your face? Did the Empress do this to you?" Ainz's sudden closeness made Maria blush. She stammered, "No." He then sighed and declared, "Rosalia, I assure you she will get what she deserves, even double. You don't deserve this. How dare she?" Seeing Ainz like this, Maria quickly said, "I'm fine. I didn't just sit there and take it." Meanwhile, Glick was licking his own body. Luri flew in through the crack in the door and calmly landed on Glick's head. Seeing this, Glick frowned and said, "Sit down." But Luri asked, "Why?" It then struggled and said, "I just finished grooming myself, and you've ruined it." Seeing them like that, Ainz leaned in and whispered into Maria's ear. Those two seemed to get along quite well. She also nodded in agreement. They certainly do. Ainz quickly noticed something was off with Maria. He knew she was still sad. So Ainz called out, "Maria!" He hesitated for a moment, then suggested, "Would you like to visit the market?" Outside it was already pitch dark, with only the indoor lights casting their glow. The two of them had dinner together, but the atmosphere was incredibly awkward. Maria asked curiously, "Why did you suddenly bring me here?" Ainz stated frankly, "I heard you like coming here." This reason surprised her, and she softly called out, "Sir." But Ainz changed the subject, saying, "All right, call me Ainz when we're outside." Upon hearing this, Maria found it hard to believe. "Really? I can call you by your name like that?" Seeing her reaction, he patiently said, "Of course, only where others don't know who we are." At this moment, Maria's mood brightened again, and she replied, "Yes, I will call you that." She couldn't stop speculating inwardly. Did he do all this because he noticed I wasn't very happy? Or was he willing to let me call him by his name so I could feel more comfortable? After thinking, Maria turned to Ainz and asked, "How did you know about this restaurant?" He said without any hesitation, "When I was little, I used to come here quite often." Hearing this, she was surprised. When he was little? Inwardly curious. I wonder if he was handsome back then. It's very likely. Girls from all over the kingdoms fell for him, so he must have been very handsome back then. The more she thought, the happier Maria became. Seeing this, Ainz promptly reminded her, "I can see what you're thinking." After some time, the two of them returned together. Maria curiously pointed at the tent in front of them and asked, "What is that place?" He replied, "A fortune teller." She asked again, "Is it a place for fortune telling?" Ainz patiently explained, "Most talented individuals work in temples, but some choose to work alone." He then realized she seemed interested in it. Her eyes sparkled as she looked at Ainz and said, "How interesting." So they decided to go inside and take a look. Seeing them enter, the fortune teller politely greeted them. "It is our honor. Please have a seat." Then she asked, "Would you like to know your future?" Maria didn't refuse, replying, "Oh, could you tell me about it?" After saying this, the fortune teller immediately performed a spell with her crystal ball. "Let me see."
Seeing this, she became even more excited. Wow!
But the fortune teller's next words left Maria bewildered. That's strange. I can't see anything. This left her a little disappointed. Is that so? Ines, standing nearby, also found it puzzling. What did that mean? And so the fortune-telling session ended. He took Maria home and then returned to his own room. Ines took off his coat and tossed it onto a chair, then sat down and took out a book. He had pretended there was nothing to worry about. At the time, he had tried to reassure Maria not to mind it, and she had calmly replied, "Oh, I don't mind it." But now Ines found it incredibly puzzling. According to the records in this history book, if a fortune teller cannot see a person's future, one of two situations might be occurring. Either that person has angered Atra, thus the fortune teller cannot access their future, or because Atra holds that person in high regard, the fortune teller cannot see their future. The book also spoke of people from other worlds who were also beloved by Atra. Could it be? At this point, Ines recalled the fortune teller's words. At the time, she had also seemed puzzled and said, "That's strange, I can't see anything." And Maria had asked in return, "What does that mean?" Thinking of this, he felt relieved and chuckled softly. Maria might be one of them.
Linda opened the door and stepped in, announcing, "Miss, you have mail." Maria smiled happily and said thank you. Linda hesitated and continued, "2 letters from different senders. One of them—" Maria took them, wondering, and asked, "Who could it be?" "One must be Uncle Jackie," and she looked at the purple envelope and said mockingly, "Oh, this person. Why?" Linda said flustered, I don't know either. I'm quite curious. Why?" Maria turned and smiled kindly, saying, "Oh, thank you, Linda. I'll read them and let you know if I need anything." Linda turned and walked towards the door, advising, "Please do." In the room, only Maria remained, sitting on a chair, intently reading the letters. Her mother had written, "Dearest Maria, how have you been? We are doing very well. Please come back to Adelaide soon. We all miss you, even Rose." She was secretly pleased. It was good to know they were all well. Maria suddenly remembered Rose's angry face, wondering to herself, "I'm not sure Rose misses me." She reached for the purple envelope on the table, thinking, next, the scary letter. Maria slowly opened the letter, worriedly asking herself, why is she doing this? Is there some malicious intent? Hasn't she done enough? Why does she want to attack like this? What caught her eye was a line of text. "My puppy is sick. Please come help." Maria was surprised, thinking, a sick pet? The sender was precisely Rosalia Winston. Sometime later, golden sunlight filtered through the window, illuminating the entire room. Rosalia slowly walked into the room where Maria was sitting neatly, waiting. Seeing her walk in, Maria inexplicably shivered, thinking to herself, I don't expect a thank you for coming, but she still made me wait, made me come here, and gave me that cold look. Rosalia pointed to the puppy beside her and said, "It's been having constant diarrhea and won't eat anything." It was a white puppy with long ears, its whole body trembling, its face pale. Maria approached, gently opened the puppy's mouth and said, "Let me see." She thought to herself, that smell, it just vomited. She looked at the poor puppy in front of her and gently said, "Hello." Maria asked kindly, "Your owner is very worried about you. What did you just eat?" It timidly replied, "Chicken and bread." She asked again, doubtfully, "Only chicken and bread? So what made you sick?" The tired puppy replied, "It smelled a bit strange, but I only ate them because I was hungry." Maria suddenly realized something and said, "Wait, did you—" The puppy trembled and spoke, "It's been like that for many days. It seems strange, but I was very hungry." She pressed on, "Is that woman your owner?" It immediately replied, "No, Helena is my owner." Maria glanced at Rosalia, who was slowly enjoying her tea in the other chair, and thought to herself, Helena, that's Rosalia's younger sister. How could she do this to her sister's dog? She said sternly, "You shouldn't feed a dog scavenged bread and spoiled chicken." Rosalia replied puzzled, "What are you talking about? Why would I do that?" Maria said mockingly, "All the symptoms point to eating spoiled food, scavenged food. You're having financial difficulties, not enough money to buy proper food. Even the poorest farmers don't feed their pets garbage like that." Hearing this, Rosalia's face turned pale as she yelled, "How dare you?" Maria slowly walked closer and calmly said, "This cannot be denied. I am an expert in this field. You won't get away with mistreating your dog like this. I can find out what really happened." She asked further, skeptically, "By the way, is that your dog?" Rosalia did not answer the question, but merely reminded her, "Regardless of your speculations and accusations, just cure the dog."
Maria inquired, "That dog belongs to Lady Helena?" Hearing this, Rosalia's eyes widened in shock. Maria let out a soft sigh. She turned to the maid and asked, "Could you deliver this to Lady Helena?" The maid politely replied, "Ah, yes, my lady." Maria instructed, "I will send medicine for the dog. In the meantime, please feed it porridge, preferably not too thick. Please return the dog to its rightful owner if any stranger tries to steal it again." She glanced at Rosalia and said meaningfully, "Please tell me. I have proof." The letter she wrote. The maid then stepped forward, picked up the puppy, and replied, "Yes, my lady." Seeing the maid heading out the door, Rosalia quickly intervened. "Wait," Maria said coldly. "Don't stand in my way. I will come to check and ensure the animal is fully healed. If you lack faith in my abilities, feel free to visit my room." She turned back, her face stern, warning, "A place where Glick, my top client, would be very happy to sit down and chat with you." With that, Maria slammed the door shut. Rosalia angrily stomped her foot on the ground. She sank to the floor, holding her head, thinking to herself that if anyone found out she had stolen her pet, her reputation within the family would be forever tarnished. And that would mean automatic disqualification from the throne. A replacement would be found quickly. Rosalia gritted her teeth and cursed under her breath. That damn thing, how dare she? She lost her composure and screamed in the room. Rosalia seethed, telling herself, "You will pay for this, Maria Wellen." Meanwhile, at the east pond of the palace grounds, Ines asked with a hint of surprise, "This is so sudden, so when do you plan to leave?" Gerard softly replied, "Tomorrow morning." Ines watched the fish swimming playfully in front of him and quietly said, "That's fast."
Gerard pleaded, "Tell me about it. I can't believe I have to go there just when I found Maria again." Ines merely grunted in response. Gerard suggested, "I won't drag her with me to England. Can you give me a few days off?" Ines asked puzzled, "What do you mean?" Gerard reiterated, "I mean Maria. She can only contact her family through letters." Ines said coolly, "That's something I need to discuss with Maria. You just focus on your trip." Gerard advised, "If you truly care about her, you might want to offer her a new arrangement. She shouldn't be confined to serving you only as a veterinarian." Ines said in a low voice, "Stop that." Ines spoke gently, "I know how you feel about her, so I advise you to stop feeling that way, and don't think about her anymore. Can you do that, Gerard?" Gerard replied softly, "I understand, but aren't you forgetting something?" He smiled and continued, "In this entire kingdom of Lausanne, there's one person you cannot rule over, and he's standing right next to you."
Gerard gave a faint smile and replied, "I'm not asking you to do that as the crown prince." His expression turned incredibly sinister as he threatened, "I'm warning you." The next morning, a carriage was already parked in front of the palace gates. Maria said with a hint of regret, "You're leaving so suddenly. I didn't even have time to prepare a farewell gift. I wish you a safe journey." Gerard smiled cheerfully and said, "I only told you so late to ensure you wouldn't give me any gifts." He spoke sadly, "But I feel very sad that we have to part ways so soon." Maria let out a confused hum. Gerard turned to her and said gently, "It's all right, we'll meet again soon." He placed a red box beside her. Maria softly said, "This?" She pointed at it and asked in surprise, "What is this?" Gerard immediately replied, "It's a farewell gift for you." Maria gasped and said, "Really? But I don't have anything to give you as a gift." He said in a gentle tone, "It's really nothing, just open it and see." She looked at the gift box, pondering, As soon as Maria opened it, she saw a necklace with a sparkling red gem. She softly called out, "Gerard?" Maria froze in surprise and asked, "You're giving me a gemstone? For what reason?" Gerard said casually, "Perhaps it will bring you good luck." He pointed to a small bag next to it and said, "Another gift is the medicine you once gave me. It's incredibly effective." As Maria took the bag of medicine, she remembered the first time she met Gerard on the ship. She asked wistfully, "You still remember that?" Gerard smiled gently and replied, "Of course, I always remember." Maria looked at him, touched, and softly said, "Gerard, you are truly kind."
Gerard suddenly remembered something and said, "Oh, I also prepared another gift for you, but Ines will bring it to you later." Maria asked doubtfully, "And? You mean the crown prince?" He gently said, "You could use a few more privileges. I've asked him to let you rest for a bit." She excitedly exclaimed, "Really?" That evening in Maria's room, she was sitting on her bed, packing clothes and humming a tune. Lori flew over and asked curiously, "You look really happy. What's going on? Did you just go somewhere?" Maria happily replied, "I get to rest for a while now, so I'm going home." Seeing this, Lori said delightedly, "That's great." She confided, "At first I thought Gerard was teasing me, but then I found out the reason and knew he wasn't joking." Maria folded her clothes neatly and thought to herself, "Even so, I'm still a little worried." She recalled the earlier conversation. Ines asked coldly, "Gerard told you?" Maria nodded and replied, "Yes, Your Highness. He said I could rest for a while." Hearing this, his face darkened, and he didn't reply. Maria, flustered, spoke up, "Oh, if Your Highness needs me to continue working here, then I won't say anything more. I will continue working." Ines said awkwardly, "It's true that I wanted to give you leave, but I want to be the one to tell you the news directly." Hearing this, Maria immediately felt extremely surprised. Returning to reality, she mused with a headache that somehow she had thought Ines didn't want her to leave, and she felt truly guilty. Suddenly, an announcement rang out from outside the door. "Make way, Prince Ines is coming." Hearing this, Maria exclaimed in surprise, "Oh," she said to herself, "he's here already, just after I mentioned him?" As soon as the room door opened, several servants entered, and Maria stammered in alarm. "Prince." Ines instructed the servants to bring the gifts in and place them on the table for Maria, then advised her, "Take these gifts back to your relatives." She awkwardly asked, "What's happening?" He replied curtly, "The gifts." Maria hesitated. "Thank you, sir, but
She explained, "There are too many gifts. I don't know if I can take them all." Maria regretfully said, "I wish I had enough strength," but Ainz interrupted her. "I will help by going to Autolots with you." She asked in surprise, "What? Go to Autolots? Why would you do that?" He replied in a low voice, "I'm traveling in nearby areas. Going there would also be a vacation for me." Hearing him say that, Maria immediately broke into a bright smile and happily said, "I understand now. I was trying to figure out how to move all those gifts." Ainz sat down next to her and curiously asked, "Is there anything interesting in Autolots?" She excitedly replied, "There's the sea, mountains, and a town square, but it's not as grand as your estate." Ainz glanced at her, inquiring, "Would you like to be my guide?" On their first day of vacation, the two of them were together in a carriage, setting off for Autolots. Maria gazed at the scenery outside the window and exclaimed in surprise, "Is this Autolots? I can't believe it."
She looked outside with delight, giggling. Seeing this, Elf smiled gently, thinking to himself, I wish I could be the man beside her and always make her happy. He gritted his teeth in anger, telling himself, but father is forcing me to marry Rosalia. Maria excitedly pointed outside and said, "Look, your highness." Seeing Elf deep in thought, she worriedly asked, "Prince, what's wrong? Is something the matter? You don't seem very happy." Maria speculated, "Are you sad because Gerard has to leave?" He shook his head and replied, "No." Elf softly called, "Maria." He asked doubtfully, "How would you feel if I told you I'm getting married?" She exclaimed in surprise, "Getting married?" Maria pondered, "I will." She smiled and replied, "I congratulate you with all my heart." Elf said with a hint of disappointment, "I see." While at Winston Estate, the maid trembled and said, "That's all I know." Rosalia said coldly, "You mean those two are on their way back to Maria's hometown?" The maid cautiously replied, "Yes, according to news from inside the palace, that is correct." Rosalia said in a low voice, "There's one thing I'm absolutely certain of." The maid hesitated. "Yours is..." Rosalia flashed a sinister smile and ordered, "The reason Prince Elf is cold towards me is because of her. Go tell the queen that I will personally eliminate anyone who stands in my way." A few days later, the carriage was moving along the road. Maria, exhausted, had fallen asleep in the carriage. Elf saw her leaning on his shoulder and felt awkward, unsure how to react. How can I tell her now? If only Maria knew I had feelings for her. He wondered what Maria was dreaming about that made her frown uncomfortably. Elf paid attention to every small expression on her face, unconsciously smiling as he thought, "How can she be so cute?" At the same time, the carriage also stopped. Maria, still half asleep, saw the scenery outside and couldn't react immediately. After a moment, she happily looked through the window and said, "We finally arrived at Adelats." N, next to her, also slowly spoke. "I'll have someone bring the luggage later. Please rest for a bit. I have some business to attend to now. I'll be back soon." Maria replied immediately without hesitation, "Yes," which left him feeling a bit let down. Afterwards, Maria, feeling a little guilty, said, "I was meant to be your guide, but I fell asleep. Have I caused any trouble for you?" And immediately replied, "No." He calmly said, "Everything is fine." Now, inside a certain house. Beautiful clothes and jewels were piled high. Maria's mother, seeing so many items for the first time, couldn't help but exclaim, "Oh my goodness!" Maria's father, standing beside her, looked at the silk in front of him and was equally astonished. "This is the finest silk I have ever seen." Maria happily replied to her parents, "They are all gifts sent by Prince Ainz." No sooner had she finished speaking than someone arrived. It was Rose, who approached and said mockingly, "They're certainly not stolen goods, are they?" Maria, not fully grasping the meaning of the other person's words, asked again, "What?" Maria sighed helplessly and said, "They are not." But Rose continued to sneer, "Have you become the lady of some wealthy family? What kind of person would take someone like you in?" Maria's father, standing there, couldn't help but reprimand her. "Don't speak such rude words to your sister." Then Maria's mother spoke politely to her. "Your father and I are very grateful for that, but these gifts are truly extravagant." To reassure her parents, she lied to them. "It's all right, mother and father. I've worked very hard, so the princess wanted to give them to me." In truth, Maria was now filled with immense guilt, apologizing to Sir Ein in her heart. Maria's parents were overjoyed after hearing her words, and the whole family believed she was working for some wealthy women. However, they didn't know that she was crying inside as she spoke. Finally, Maria's mother sighed in relief and told her daughter, "Please convey our thanks to her." Rose couldn't resist and quickly grabbed a jewelry box from the table. She said, without any joy, "I'm going back to my room." Maria watched Rose take the item inside, thinking to herself, "Typical Rose, she chose a precious item." Time passed smoothly and a new day began. Maria was still sound asleep in bed, hugging her pet dog. In Maria's dream, she was slowly walking under a blazing red sun. Maria's brow furrowed in alarm. This isn't... A slight worry stirred within her. What was this feeling? Something's wrong.
Suddenly, the area around her burst into fierce flames. Red fireballs continuously rained down from the sky towards Maria. Maria quickly fled their assault. Wait. She was bewildered by the scene before her, repeatedly wondering what to do. Suddenly, as she ran, Maria tripped on a rock and tumbled forward. Oh, her entire body now lay sprawled on the ground, Maria's brow furrowed in clear discomfort. Finally, she opened her eyes, waking from the nightmare. Her dog beside her immediately asked with concern, "What's wrong? Did you have a nightmare?" Maria frantically wiped the sweat from her forehead and replied, "Yes, I had a dream I've had before."
She was now trying to find reasons to reassure herself. Perhaps it was a room. Perhaps some demons had occupied the place, unable to escape. Sam the dog innocently replied immediately, "I think there are a few." Upon hearing this, Maria couldn't help but exclaim, "Aww." After a while, she calmed down and began to clean the house. As always, Maria swept her broom under the furniture. But this time she discovered a mysterious book. Maria dusted it off cleanly. This? Only then did she react, exclaiming in surprise, "Is this really Maria's diary?" Maria quickly flipped through the pages. Now she said, a little stunned, Maria was once a priestess before getting married? However, she now discovered something unusual. Wait, no one can become a monk or a priestess unless they are born with a special ability. I heard that it takes many years of training, and your life must always be devoted to God. Maria, full of confusion, said, "But Mary, she's not here." She resolutely closed the diary and said, "It's better if I go ask her myself." After a while of questioning, Maria's mother admitted, "Yes, I was once there."
Father continued slowly, "But I had lost my ability to connect with God, so I left. One day I had a dream. It was a prophetic dream." She immediately asked curiously, "What did that dream predict?" Maria's mother also secretly said, "It said you would come here and become an incredibly wonderful person." Maria was a little surprised after hearing this. "What do you mean?" Maria's mother immediately explained to her, "Yes, I know you've been having nightmares. Perhaps it's a premonition that in the future you will have some more special abilities. It's a sign they are watching over you." Maria was still confused after hearing this. "They're watching over me?" She now secretly wondered, if so, why would they let me have such terrible dreams? Maria's mother still asserted with absolute certainty, "I'm sure they do this with individuals who have potential. Sometimes there are unpleasant dreams, but that's all they can do." But now she was extremely hesitant. "To be honest, I'm not so sure." She gloomily kept asking herself, "Does God care about me? Is that why I was brought here?" The scene now shifted to Lord Adelat's manor. An unexpected guest had arrived. Isaac slowly raised his teacup and said, "We are honored by your visit." The mysterious woman replied, "She is truly beautiful."
It turned out she was observing a picture of a mother holding her child on the wall. Then she turned to ask Isaac, who was sitting there, "Are you obsessed with red-haired girls? There are rumors that you want red-haired girls as concubines because they remind you of your mother." Being asked so suddenly, he was a bit flustered. "Oh, those are just rumors." The woman removed it, revealing her white hair, and said, "Please, I'm here to ask for help." Isaac observed her for a moment and then said, "You look very much like someone." Rosalia spoke up, suggesting, "Need our help? I know a very beautiful red-haired girl." Isaac immediately became interested and said, "I want to make trouble for her." Then he asked the other person again, "But why do you need my help for that?" Rosalia just smiled after hearing that, not rushing to answer immediately. She reassured the other person, "Don't worry, we already have someone to help achieve this goal." Isaac, hearing this, wondered and asked, "Who could they be?" She glanced towards the door and then ordered, "Let them in." Soon, countless footsteps entered. 2 tall, muscular young men stood behind Rosalia. She smiled cunningly and said, "My boys will bring the red-haired girl to you."
Now, Maria was still unaware of the impending danger, so she carelessly walked her dog around the market. In her mind, she couldn't stop thinking about that mysterious diary. After reading the diary and learning that Atra loved her, she felt quite confused. Finally, she sighed, thinking to herself, "Since I'm at the market, perhaps I should buy some groceries for dinner." She smiled brightly and asked her dog, "What do you think? Should we buy some freshly baked bread?" The dog happily replied at once, "Absolutely." She quickly headed to the bread stall.
But now the entire counter only had one item left. Maria immediately exclaimed, "There's only one left!" She rushed to grab that last item. However, just as she was about to touch it, a person in a black cloak snatched it away, startling her. The person, having successfully taken the piece of bread, smirked triumphantly at her. Maria looked at the person in front of her bewildered, wondering, "Is that the crown prince?" As she bewilderedly rubbed her eyes to calm herself, Ines removed his hood and looked at her puzzled. "No, I must be mistaken. I'm so tired." After confirming it was indeed Crown Prince Ines, Maria became even more bewildered. She quickly asked, "Oh, it is your highness. Have you finished your work yet?" Ines quickly replied, "I just returned after telling my servant to fetch a loaf of bread." He added, a little tiredly, "We still have a long journey ahead. That's why this is the only time we can rest." Hearing this, Maria asked worriedly, "So your highness hasn't even had time to finish what you intended to do, and now you still plan to prolong it like this?" Before Ines could answer, she continued, "What about dinner with my family? Could your highness make time for it?"
Ines listened attentively to Maria's every word. My parents would be delighted if your highness came. Now, a lavish spread of food was beautifully arranged on the table. Maria's mother respectfully spoke up. Your highness, we are very pleased you could come. Maria's father, standing beside her, added, we have received wonderful gifts from the princess. Ines, finding this a bit confusing, asked, thank you for inviting me, but what do you mean by princess? Who is being referred to? Maria, standing nearby, feared everything would be exposed, so she quickly cut Ines off, preventing him from saying more. Everyone, the food will get cold, we should eat quickly. Let's chat while we have dinner. Maria's father also nodded in agreement with his daughter. That's right, what were we thinking? Your highness must be very hungry. Please make yourself at home. Although it's not much, I'm very proud to be running one of the best restaurants in Atlas.
Rose watched her sister warmly bring food to Ines and couldn't help but feel jealous. Maria, seeing Rose inexplicably angry, was bewildered and didn't realize what was happening. Rose's dislike for her sister actually had its reasons. She always annoyed me. When I turned 5, I became more aware of her existence. Since then, Maria became an annoyance to me. To this day, this hasn't changed. She was calm and self-possessed, unlike me. If I tore a book or even stole her food, she wouldn't react at all. When she was little, Rose angrily yelled at Maria, "Give it to me." Maria was a little surprised by her sister's fierce reaction. Rose, however, she still happily gave her book to her sister. Okay, here you go. Everyone always liked her more, but that wasn't all. When I turned 10, I developed feelings for someone. That was Peter, who was the same age as me, but the person he liked was Maria, not me. I continued to pick fights with her by using my secret savings and even stealing her dresses, but Maria remained calm, not getting angry at all. She just smiled, and that's why. As she climbed high up the tree, Maria, a little worried, told Rose it was too high and it could be dangerous. However, selfish Rose paid no attention to Maria and just said, "What kind of sister would you be if you couldn't do this for me? Prove that you care about me." Maria, now trembling with fear, cried out, "Rose!" Finally, the unexpected incident occurred. Maria slipped when she stepped onto the next branch. Her piercing scream echoed through the air. "Ark!"
Maria fell unconscious on the ground. After that fall, Maria had to stay in bed to recover from her injuries, and Rose continued to visit her sister's bedside daily to watch over her. After an unknown period, Maria finally regained consciousness, and that was when things changed. Maria began acting unusually, as if she were a different person. She demanded a clear division of household chores and even refused my requests. A few months later, she suddenly decided to go somewhere and leave the family. Rose was constantly bad-mouthing her sister, and I assumed she would become the concubine of some ugly rich man or end up working tirelessly at a shabby diner. When she saw Maria living a better life than her jealousy grew even stronger. And then she returned with a rich and handsome man and was beloved by her employer. How annoying. At this time, Rosalia's 2 henchmen were causing trouble. They smirked and said to the naive Rose, "You should do something about this. She probably always looks down on you." One of them spoke up suggesting, "I can propose a solution for you." Rose immediately asked, bewildered, "What solution?" The next morning at Maria's family home, Rose stood outside the room door, deep in thought. Should I do it? She recalled everyone's words. Don't feel pressured. What do you have to lose? Thinking this, Rose reached out and knocked on the door. Maria opened the door and stepped out, asking suspiciously, "Hey, what's up?" Rose peered inside the room and asked curiously, "Where's our esteemed guest?" Maria, puzzled, asked, "What happened? Why are you asking that?" She didn't answer, but gave a sweet, artificial smile and asked, "Do you want to go shopping with me?" Rose explained, "I need you to come along to help me carry things. I've recently taken a liking to someone and want to give him a gift." Maria asked skeptically, "You want my help?" A little later, at the bustling market,
Maria started, "Do you have any ideas about that gift yet?" Rose replied curtly, "Not yet." She continued, "So what does that guy like?" Rose replied indifferently, "I don't know, maybe I'll just buy any gift." Maria looked at her suspiciously, thinking to herself, how strange. With that thought, she turned and walked into a store, softly saying, "Let's go in here and take a look then." Maria pointed to a cute mouse figurine and asked, "How about this?" Rose immediately replied, "No." She then pointed to a jade green stone and asked, "What about this one?" Rose shook her head and said, "Not that either." Maria patiently asked again, "And this?" Rose made an excuse. "It's too ugly." Maria was exasperated, thinking to herself, "Is this a new way of bullying?" She pointed to a red feather hair clip and asked, "What about that one?" Rose replied, "I like it." Maria asked again disbelievingly, "Are you sure?" Rose didn't answer, but suspiciously asked, "Do you have enough money?" Maria reluctantly replied, "I can pay for you." Rose shyly said, "Okay." Maria helplessly walked to the counter. "Excuse me, how much is this?" Rose softly said from behind, "Oh." The sky began to darken and dark clouds quickly gathered. The two of them walked together into a small wooden house on the hill. Maria looked around and asked doubtfully, "Are you planning to meet him here, in this place?" Rose bit her nails and replied awkwardly, "Yes, he'll be here soon." She suddenly remembered something and said, "Oh no, I forgot to bring the letter." Maria asked in surprise, "The letter?" She turned her head and asked, "Do you need me to go get it?" Rose angrily shouted, "No!" Hearing that, Maria replied in a low voice, "All right." Rose awkwardly replied, I mean, she explained, "I can't trust you.
What if you secretly read it? I hate it when someone enters my room without permission.
Rose hurriedly walked towards the door and softly said, I'll go get it. She quickly opened the wooden door. Rose dashed out, and Maria, from inside the house, called out loudly, Be careful not to fall. Watching Rose's hurried figure, she wondered, puzzled, why is she in such a rush? A while later, outside, the rain began to pour down heavily. Maria sat inside looking out and softly said, She's been gone too long. She stood up and slightly opened the door. Maria worriedly wondered to herself, could she have fallen? Her eyes suddenly widened in shock. A group of thugs slowly approached, their leader carrying a long stick. Maria, frightened, thought to herself, who are these people? At this moment, Rose was still running desperately through the rain. She stopped, bent down, and panted. Rose's gaze became pensive, and she thought to herself, idiot.
She recalled the words of the men from earlier. Rose, go say a few words to him. Rose, extremely worried, stammered, I don't want anything to happen to Maria. Isaac offered a sinister smile, reassuring her. I'm just going to scare her a little, that's all. Don't be afraid. Rose felt less tense and softly replied, yes. He said with a meaningful tone, but you also have to do something. Isaac continued, a few people will lure her here. Back in reality, rain still poured down heavily on the forest. Rose thought to herself, like fire and water, we can never reconcile. I approached her, and she really didn't suspect anything. I can only take responsibility. The rainwater kept flowing down, drenching her. Rose told herself, she doesn't know what has happened. She imagined Maria, in a wedding dress, crying in agony. Rose suddenly had a bad feeling and turned her head, asking herself, wait, I trusted this gamble so much, but what if Isaac was right? What if there were a few more pieces of news like that? Her face turned pale with worry as she pondered, will they let her return safely? Rose took hesitant steps back towards that house, muttering to herself, no. She had a bad premonition and quickly turned back. No, that's not right. I only wanted to scare her a little. Suddenly, a strange hand reached out. Rose was immediately gagged, only managing to let out a few muffled cries. A moment later, Maria was brought into Isaac's mansion.
She asked coldly, What's going on? He said nonchalantly, You will become my third wife. She exclaimed in surprise, What are you talking about? Isaac raised his hand, signaling, and shouted, Bring her here. The door quickly opened. A burly man carried in a struggling girl. He sternly commanded, Move it. Maria saw the person and exclaimed in surprise, Rose! Rose turned her head and softly said, Sister Maria. Isaac threatened in a low voice, If you refuse to be my wife, I don't know if your sister will remain unharmed. Upon hearing this, she immediately questioned, Why did you bring her here? But he smugly retorted, Why don't you ask her? She will tell you. Following Isaac's gaze, Maria was terrified. Rose!
Her whole body was drenched, feeling both ashamed and indignant. Maria didn't dare to look straight at him. She turned her face away, gritting her teeth as she said, Never. Seeing this, Isaac sneered. What's that? She immediately retorted firmly, Even if you threaten me, I will never become your concubine. But he wasn't worried at all. On the contrary, he said with a hint of amusement, Surely that's certain. I will make you kneel and beg me. 2 days after Maria was kidnapped, both girls were now imprisoned in a damp, moldy dungeon. Rose hesitated, saying, Maria, actually, but Maria immediately cut her off. Shh, be quiet. We just need to do something. Then she used animal language to call out loudly, Excuse me, is anyone here? Can anyone hear me? But there was no reply for a long time, and Maria couldn't help but think disappointedly. Perhaps there are no animals nearby. I thought I could get help from them. Footsteps suddenly echoed from outside, and she instinctively turned her head to look. It was Isaac. He asked, Still not giving up? Maria pressed her lips together and turned her face away. Seeing this, Isaac smiled and pushed in a plate of food. I like this, so stubborn. Making you submit to me has become even more interesting. These words sent a shiver down her spine. Then Maria heard him continue. Let me know when you get tired of life in the cell and dungeon. After he had gone far away, she walked over to take the plate of food. Maria handed it to Rose. Here. But she didn't take it and instead asked, Why is he doing this to me? The more she spoke, the more aggrieved Rose felt, so she shouted, It's all my fault. Don't be nice to me anymore. But Maria remained calm. I've noticed you've been acting suspiciously for days. Tell me, why did you do it?
Then she frowned, questioning Rose, Why would you do such a foolish thing? She replied softly, It's because you've always been a perfect person, admired by everyone. I'm so tired and sick of being compared to you in everything in this life. Dad and Mom, they both love you more. They're always proud of you. At this point, Rose looked up, her eyes welling with tears, and cried out, That's why I always hoped you'd go away for a while. I didn't mean to harm you or lock you up or send you away forever. I was tricked. Maria immediately interrupted. Rose, you did this foolish thing just for that terrible reason? I'm so disappointed in you. Rose froze upon hearing this. At the same time, Maria's mother outside was sobbing uncontrollably. She wearily rubbed her forehead. Who could have done this? Where could the two of you be? This could be Isaac. He's the only one who could do this.
Maria's mother's face clearly showed dismay. Then she heard her husband say, I asked to meet and talk, but he refused again and again. It's very likely that's the case. Just then the door was pushed open, and Ines, upon entering, immediately asked, Good day. I've been waiting for Maria, but she hasn't come. Has something happened? Seeing him, Maria's mother looked surprised. Sir. Then she quickly stood up. I have some sad news. The two girls are missing. Hearing this, Ines asked in astonishment, Missing? Maria's mother began to sob again. I'm certain they've been kidnapped by that man. Getting him to release Maria and Rose is beyond our capabilities. 3 days after being captured, Rose, utterly drained of strength, rested her head on Maria's lap. She silently cursed. That scoundrel. He caused all this trouble, then acted annoyed, and now I'm sick too. Not long before, Maria had noticed her strange reactions. She asked, How long have you been like this? Rose replied, I don't know anymore. Hearing this, Maria immediately screamed, Help me, my sister, she's sick. But Rose's condition didn't improve. Maria worried, This isn't good. I've used the medicine they gave us, but it's had no effect. Just then, Maria heard Rose whisper, Maria, forget about me. Save yourself. She said, All right, I'm not going anywhere. But Rose persisted. You can't be stuck here like me. It's all up to you. So Maria snapped. Enough. We shouldn't be arguing right now because there are more important things to focus on. After saying this, she clenched her fists, then ran around the cell searching for an escape. After a while, finding nothing, Maria stopped short.
She was panting heavily, disappointed, with no way out, nothing to help her escape. Even so, Maria didn't give up. Let's give it one more try. She used her ability and started calling out. Is anyone here? Her cries for help echoed everywhere. Help me, can anyone hear me? Suddenly something appeared, and Rose screamed in fright. Ah! Maria immediately turned her head to follow her gaze and asked, What's wrong? Rose stammered. Something just brushed past me. Then Maria saw a mouse. But it only made Rose more frightened. Her head began to spin, and her breathing quickened as she said, Mice? Maria, get them away from me, please. But Maria told her to be quiet. Then she bowed her head and spoke to the mouse. Hello, Mr. Mouse. It said irritably, How dare you disturb my sleep? Why are you so noisy? Maria replied, I need your help. But the mouse misunderstood and replied, Fine, I'll go sleep somewhere else. I have many places to go. Hearing this, Maria instantly became flustered. She waved her hands. No, it's not like that. I need you to help us. Maria clasped her hands and pleaded, Because we're stuck here. We've been kidnapped, you see. Could you go tell others that we're trapped here? As soon as Maria finished speaking, the space immediately fell silent.
Then the mouse looked around nervously and said, I hate going outside. Every time I go out, someone wants to accuse or catch me. She frowned upon hearing that, observing it closely. The mouse became even more flustered. Then Maria broke down, covering her face. If you don't help us, we'll be stuck here forever and might die. As soon as it heard this, it was startled and asked again, Die? Suddenly Rose frowned and asked Maria, What the hell are you doing? She immediately turned and signaled to her, Silence. The mouse pondered for a moment, finally agreeing, All right, I'll help. Hearing this, Maria was overjoyed. That's wonderful. It waved its paw and said to her, It's nothing big. I can only help with a few things. Maria immediately replied, Oh no, we are very grateful for your help. Do you know the big restaurant behind the road? We need to get there as fast as possible. The mouse nodded. Of course I can, but I'm not sure they can communicate with me. But Maria didn't care. She smirked, then stood up and ran towards her sister. Rose stared blankly at Maria's actions. Seeing her decisively pull out her own hair, she shrieked, What the hell? Maria said, Don't say anything. This might just work.
Then she even tore her own dress. The puzzled mouse asked, What are you doing? Maria replied, A piece of my sister's dress and a lock of her hair will probably be enough. I'll roll them into a bracelet shape so you can carry it. It's best to tell them we're here. A flag or a ring would work, but lilies might also do the trick. This is the only place in Adalots where they can be found. Hair, a piece of fabric, and white lilies. That should be enough information for our parents to know where we are. Having arranged everything, Maria silently prayed, hoping it would go carefully. The town was as bustling as ever, but Ines was extremely worried because it had been 4 days since Maria disappeared. He didn't know what to do next. If he rushed in there on his own, they might take her somewhere else. There were countless places to hide the two of them in Adalots. Thinking this, Ines turned to go in another direction to find information about the place. But just as he turned to leave, Borong's barking pulled him back. A few minutes earlier, while Borong was sound asleep in the yard, the mouse had run up and called out, Hey, wake up! Borong sniffed and then woke with a start. Maria? The mouse stammered, She said you're a gentle and kind dog. Borong asked again, You meant Maria? It nodded, Yes. Can you inform her family? Borong quickly agreed. Oh, of course, leave it to me. Hearing this, the mouse immediately turned and ran off.
The space was filled only with Borong's loud barking. Maria's parents, hearing this, immediately rushed over to ask, Are the two of you back? He immediately replied, Perhaps so. I've never heard this dog bark like that before. Then they saw something on the ground, and they gasped in horror as they realized, This is Rose's hair and a piece of Maria's dress? Maria's mother immediately confirmed, yes, it is. This is the piece of dress she was wearing when she left here. As soon as she finished speaking, Ines ran over and asked, what's going on? Maria's mother said, our dog was barking so loudly, so we came to check and found this. I'm sure this is a clue Maria sent. Looking at the flower branch on the ground, Ines murmured, a lily flower? At this moment, she cautiously spoke up. May I ask? He immediately stated directly, Maria sent these things to indicate where she is being held captive. At this point, Ines's face darkened. In Atlas, there's only one place where this type of flower grows. At the same time, in the cell, Maria anxiously asked Rose, are you feeling better? She replied, better than before.
Aren't you annoyed? Maria said frankly. Annoyed? Yes, I am, but not now. I'll deal with this after we get out of here. Having said that, she thought of the mouse again, hoping it was all right. The quiet space suddenly had the sound of a door opening. Maria quickly stood up. Who could that be? Isaac? The footsteps grew closer, but when she saw who it was, she was utterly astonished. Sir Ines. Ines coldly told Maria. Step back a little, Maria. She obediently complied. Yes. Once Maria was in a safe position, Ines swung his sword. The lock was severed, and the door opened. Ines stepped inside, bowing his head as he spoke. I apologize for being late. Then he gently pulled her into an embrace. I'm so glad you're all right. Witnessing this, Rose was also moved to tears. Thank you, sir.
Maria, on this side, tiredly lifted her head to look at Ines. It's good that you found me, she said. I didn't know you could come here by yourself. Thank you. After speaking, her whole body went limp and she fell into Ines's arms, causing him to call out in alarm, Maria! Ines then gently supported Maria, letting her rest her head on his chest. The entire scene was now enveloped in a terrifying red. Maria looked at the unfamiliar scene before her and couldn't help but cry out in fear, oh! The anxiety in her heart rose again. It was that dream once more. However, Maria's fear was no longer as intense as before, but it seemed she had forgotten. She didn't feel as scared as she used to. Perhaps it was because of Mary's words at that time. I'm so lucky. These red lights don't harm me. Before she could enjoy it for long, a dazzling light suddenly appeared. The light blinded her, forcing her to cover her eyes with her hand. After a moment, Maria reacted, thinking to herself, wait a minute, something's quite strange. I feel like it's getting closer and closer. She looked at the light in front of her and thought, the last time I saw it, it was very far away. The light seemed to move further and further away from Maria, eventually creating an empty void. Maria continued walking in confusion. Huh? But now I see it again, though I don't know why. Maria now sighed in helplessness. I don't know what it is, nor what it wants. How could this be a dream with an omen? Suddenly, at that moment, a voice called out in that space, Maria! Maria looked up in bewilderment, and the call echoed again, Maria! Maria finally escaped that terrible dream, and now she slowly opened her eyes. She looked down at her hand and saw the silhouette of someone. Am I waking up? Who's holding my hand? Her blurry vision made Maria wonder and guess. Is it the doctor? Wait a minute. This is... No. Maria then focused her eyes to clearly see the person sitting beside her bed. After confirming it was Ines, she immediately sat bolt upright and anxiously asked, Are you all right? Do you have a headache or...
However, Ines paid no attention to her words. Instead, he asked Maria, are you dizzy? Maria blushed shyly and hesitated before replying, I think I'm fine. Ines lowered his head as if a burden had been lifted. That's good. Maria blushed even more shyly at his unexpected action. Now their 10 fingers were tightly intertwined. When Ines held Maria tightly, she hesitated again. Wait. Ines knew what she was worried about, so he leaned in and whispered into her ear, everything's fine now. Forget what just happened. I swear it won't happen again. But Maria was still hesitant. Oh my lord. Ines held Maria tightly, stating firmly, you are incredibly important to me. Outside, the scene remained incredibly quiet. Everything continued to unfold peacefully.
Maria woke up and immediately got to work. After waking, I did what I was supposed to do. I didn't see the mouse that helped me again, but I left a reward for it. Isaac is in prison. Now no one can ruin our family anymore. Everything else is settled. Upon seeing Maria, her mother emotionally exclaimed, Maria! Maria's father also joyfully said, You're back. How are you? Are you all right? Maria happily replied to her parents, Yes, everything is fine. Where is Rose? I have something I want to discuss with her. All that remained were the unresolved issues with Rose. The two sisters, Maria and Rose, then sat down to talk. Maria frowned angrily and said, You've just become an accomplice to a huge crime. I can't imagine what my life would be like if everything had happened and I was forced to marry him.
Maria relentlessly questioned Rose. Isaac ruined everything and considered you an accomplice, and you'll also have to go to jail. Do you think you can get away with it? Rose reluctantly replied, No. Maria's face darkened as she said, Take some time to think about this.
Rose lowered her head, not daring to say anything. Maria said coldly, "Either you promise never to do something like that again and stay home in repentance." Hearing this, Rose gasped in surprise. "What?" Maria continued, "You've put me in this situation, but I understand. You must have gone through something terrible like that yourself to act this way, and you're still very young." Rose blushed with embarrassment at Maria's words. Maria then added, "Learn from these mistakes and don't repeat them again, okay?" Then Maria softened her voice and said, "Promise me it was just a terrible mistake." Rose sobbed, stammering. Rose regretfully wiped tears from her face and said frantically, "I'm sorry, Maria. It's all my fault." After discussing everything, Maria's mother said understandingly to her daughter, "I understand. We will respect your decision." Maria still had some worries. "Just this once. If she pulls anything like this again, then she will—" At this moment, Maria's mother took her hand and said, "Oh, by the way, I heard you're working at the palace. You don't need to travel so far just to visit us."
After hearing, Maria said blankly, "Huh?" Maria's mother gently advised, "You don't need to return to Adelitz." Maria heard this and hesitated, but Maria's mother turned and left, saying, "Maria." Before leaving, she also said to her, "I will always pray for you." After talking with Maria, she returned to her room. Tears streamed down, accompanied by sobs echoing in the room. Maria's father hugged his wife tightly, comforting her and asking, "How did it go? Have you told her yet?" Maria's mother, choked with sobs, said, "I've told her. It's what God wants. It's beyond our understanding. A higher level decision. When I saw her abandoned at our shop, I knew it was our responsibility to help her improve, to let her leave us. Even though she's not our own, we love her as if she were our own child, watching her first words, her first steps, and her first walk."
The girl gradually grew up and became beautiful. Maria was the great joy we had. And one day Maria spoke up, suggesting, "I want to leave this place." That was what had been planned from before. Even though we knew she would leave, it was what HI wanted. She only trusted her heart. I knew why I was chosen for this difficult task, to let go of my beloved daughter. Maria's mother, trying to hold back tears, said, "But now I've also thought it through. Maria has grown up and she has found her own life. Staying in Adelitz would only endanger her. It's best for her to go and achieve her dreams." She tried to suppress the pain in her heart and said, "She deserves it. She is a good person, and there are many things waiting for her ahead." Yes, she deserves it. Maria's father, by her side, also continuously comforted her. She will have to live the life she chooses. Her hands were now trembling uncontrollably. So finally, she couldn't hold back and collapsed into her husband's arms, sobbing, hoping that HI would always watch over her. The scene outside was now incredibly peaceful, with birds soaring and gliding across the sky. Maria looked at the scene before her and unconsciously let out a sigh of relief.
But a strange feeling welled up in her heart. Why? She recalled every word her mother had just said to her. "Maria, I heard you're working in the palace. You don't need to come back here just for us." Maria now felt extremely uneasy. Why was her heart so empty? Maria couldn't help but feel a sense of disappointment when she heard her mother say that again. Why did her mother say that? Was it because she lied about where she worked, or had she gotten Zeus into trouble? At this moment, a thought suddenly occurred to her. Or perhaps it was, her mother's words kept echoing in her head. "I will always pray for you." Maria still found it puzzling and couldn't make sense of it. If this was Atra's will, she truly couldn't understand it. Just like that, night gradually fell, and countless twinkling lights appeared on the street. Maria simply sat alone on the green grass, quietly drinking wine and gazing at the city. She had lost count of how many bottles of wine she had already drunk. By now, she was completely drunk, not knowing what she was saying. Who cared what Atra wanted? If she truly was a special and precious person, wild thoughts kept appearing in her head. She should have been born into a well-off family, or won the lottery or something. Who's to say? Recalling her own circumstances, Maria couldn't help but feel heartbroken, abandoned in a strange world. Was it because she had never met them, or treated them as if they were her real parents? Was her mother using Atra's will as an excuse for her to leave? However, now, she remembered her parents with absolute certainty. But she knew them. They weren't like that. "Atra, if you are listening," Maria's gaze also became more resolute than ever. "Give me a sign. Strike a lightning bolt, or do something." Maria continued to gulp down wine.
Just then, someone slowly approached. That person spoke unexpectedly, causing Maria to spit out the mouthful of wine in surprise. What kind of lightning? Maria turned to look at the person, a little surprised. "Crown Prince?" Seeing Ainz sit down beside her, she asked a little shyly, "How did you find me?" Ainz replied very calmly, "I had a feeling you were here." Maria tilted her head and said expressionlessly, "You're a terrible liar." Seeing his lie exposed, Ainz confessed honestly, "That's right, I've been looking for you everywhere. I was very worried about you. You were seriously injured." Hearing that, Maria felt a little shy and thought to herself, "Strange." Ainz looked at her flushed face and spoke up at once, "You're drunk." Maria didn't know if it was the alcohol, but she felt a strange sensation towards Ainz. He's always been so handsome. He looked at the bottle of wine in her hand and asked, "Where did you get it?" Maria replied very quickly. I found it at home. I took the first bottle I saw. Maria, drinking, said sorrowfully. He said, I shouldn't be here. My visit to her isn't necessary anymore, I think, Maria said with difficulty. She had realized that she didn't belong in this world. Ainz, a little confused, asked again, What? In this moment, Maria no longer hid anything and told her everything. I somehow transmigrated to this world. I was hit by a car while trying to save a stray kitten. I come from a country called Korea, which is different from the world we live in. Ainz, upon hearing this, couldn't believe it. You saved a stray cat? She nodded and said, Yes, it was a cute stray kitten. I rushed to save it, but I was hit by a car. Oh, right, you don't know what a car is. When I woke up, I realized I was in a strange new land.
To be precise, I am no longer in Korea. The night continued to pass and the moonlight climbed even higher. At this moment, she asked Ainz with a hint of doubt, And the matter that happened a few months ago, are you still listening? He nodded in affirmation, yes. Seeing Ainz's silence, Maria thought he hadn't heard, so she said, Then why didn't you say anything? I needed a little more courage to reveal my biggest secret. When he saw Maria about to drink more, Ainz stopped her. Stop now. However, Maria cried desperately, refusing. No, I want to drink more. Don't be so stingy. Give it to me. Ainz mercilessly poured the entire bottle of alcohol down. You can drink as much as you like, and I'll go buy you drinks later, but not now. Now you should stop. Maria pouted, confused. Why? He said without yielding. Have you forgotten that you just fainted? I was very worried. Seeing Maria's sadness, Ainz comforted her. It's nothing. I just don't want you to drink too much today. Maria then asked, What were you trying to say just now? She sighed a little helplessly. Just tell me. Why can't you tell me? Ainz spoke slowly, making Maria blush like a tomato when she heard him. I am in love with someone. He looked deeply into Maria's eyes and said, Very much so. She was so taken aback by this unexpected scene that she didn't know what to do. A moment later, Maria continued, completely devastating Ainz. I am very happy for you, because you have love.
Perhaps still a bit tipsy, she kept congratulating him. Oh, who is that lucky girl? She must be a wonderful person to make you love her like this. Ainz coldly retorted, Forget about it. Now that the night was slowly passing, Ainz continued to walk slowly, step by step, deeper into the forest. Ainz looked at the girl sleeping soundly on his shoulder and gently said, I really did that just now. Suddenly, Maria opened her eyes and cried out, Hey! He stopped and asked, What is it? A bit drowsily, she asked, Are you going to let me leave you again? After a year, will you banish me from the palace? Ainz replied with absolute certainty, No, on the contrary, I will figure out a way to ensure you stay. Maria continued to ask, So, will you extend the contract if I ask? Ainz patiently replied, Yes. Still not satisfied, Maria asked again, Increase my salary tenfold? He replied again, Certainly. Hearing Ainz say this, Maria joyfully exclaimed, I wish I had a phone to record all of this as proof. Ainz, hearing this unfamiliar word, looked bewildered. What is a phone? Maria shyly whispered into Ainz's ear, I feel that I like you, Crown Prince. Ainz's arms suddenly tightened. Ainz turned and called, Maria. A faint smile bloomed on his lips. Now Ainz was incredibly happy. Maria also had feelings for him. The next morning, Maria politely knocked on her parents' door. Time had passed quickly. It was the day she had to leave Autolots. She slowly walked inside. Her father and mother were both a little surprised to see her, Maria. Although her mother had told her not to come, she visited them anyway. She tried to force a cheerful smile and said to her parents, I've come to say goodbye. I'll be leaving soon. At this moment, Maria choked up a little. Deep down, she wanted to tell them that she wanted to visit them again, but she was afraid they wouldn't agree. Maria was a little surprised when her mother ran over and hugged her tightly. She was still very happy to greet them in this final meeting. Her mother couldn't help but choke up as she advised her daughter, Take care of yourself, Maria. Maria understood her parents better than anyone. She could clearly see the deep emotions within their hearts. Maria also couldn't help but choke up, saying, Next time, someday I might. Her mother tenderly advised her daughter Maria, We will always be here for you. You are our beloved daughter. Seeing his wife and daughter emotional, Maria's father also couldn't hold back his emotions, saying, Always be strong and happy, my daughter. Maria's mother continuously stroked her daughter's head. Come visit us whenever you want. After bidding farewell to her parents, Maria departed with the Crown Prince again. Ainz looked at Maria and asked, How did that go? She smiled brightly and replied, Very well. Maria looked up at the familiar scenery outside, full of nostalgia, and that also marked the end of my long vacation in Autolots, where many incidents occurred. A few days quickly passed, and at this time, in the royal palace, Rosalia was waiting earnestly. At this moment, a servant respectfully told her, The Crown Prince will meet with the young lady now. Please come in. Rosalia slowly followed the servant's guidance. She sat down on the chair and said, I never imagined His Highness would summon me before I even visited. Ainz said coldly, Something unexpected has happened, and I need to speak with you about our marriage. Rosalia immediately asked, "What is it? What do you wish to discuss?" He raised his teacup and said, "I've already made plans regarding the official documents, but I think we should discuss this matter first." Rosalia covered her mouth, smiling brightly, and replied, "This is a marriage approved by both families, so I feel this is quite pointless." However, Ainz interrupted, "I beg to differ." When Rosalia heard his words, she was stunned and bewildered. "I have no intention of marrying you." Ainz continued indifferently, "That won't be possible, because you will be banished from this place forever and kept far away from me." Rosalia asked, dumbfounded, "What are you talking about?" Ainz smiled calmly and said, "Perhaps you'll find your perfect partner there." Rosalia finally couldn't accept it and shouted, "Crown Prince!" Seeing her exaggerated reaction, he spoke plainly. "Does the name Isaac sound familiar to you?" Rosalia asked, surprised, "How do you know that stranger lives in Atlas?" Hearing this, he knew she had given herself away, so he sneered, "I never mentioned where he was from."
Ainz slowly explained everything. "We've started an investigation into the abduction in Adelaide. Isaac was easy to deal with. He quickly revealed who paid for the kidnapping. He has been held accountable. The punishment for this crime will be severe because it involved someone close to the prince, someone who accompanied His Highness to a distant land." However, Rosalia couldn't help but angrily shout, "But she's a commoner!" Hearing Rosalia's contempt for Maria, Ainz immediately stood up. "A commoner," he repeated, his face darkening. "Not so. She is a loyal confidant, one who has earned my trust." Rosalia further challenged Ainz. "Do you truly think you can exile me to the outskirts of the kingdom for a long time for the sake of someone like her? Ainz, unconcerned, cut Rosalia off. "You should leave and stay there if you do not wish to disgrace your family, or do you want them to pay with their status? What you have done to my confidant can be punished by death." Rosalia, disbelieving, trembled and exclaimed, "Crown Prince!" Ainz turned and ordered a servant, "Take her away." "Yes, Your Highness." Rosalia was forced to leave, struggling incessantly. "You will live to regret this, Crown Prince." Just then, outside the palace, a voice suddenly rang out. "So," Rosalia, her mind in turmoil, defiantly screamed, "the Empress is the only one who can put an end to this anger." After hearing this, Cloptia spoke up, questioning in return. "So you are indeed the one who went to the man in Adelaide and hired him to abduct that girl?" Rosalia admitted without hesitation. "Yes, that is correct."
Clopedia, hearing this, slowly continued, "But you have failed, and now the prince has the upper hand." With tears streaming down her face, she nodded in admission. "Yes, if it weren't for that commoner." Clopedia angrily swept the teacup off the table, leaving Rosalia bewildered by the incident. Clopedia angrily growled, "Get a grip. I knew you were foolish, but I never imagined you could be this stupid." Rosalia, still unwilling to give up, tried to explain, "Your Majesty, that's a bit much." But before she could finish her sentence, the queen interrupted. "Get out of my sight," she coldly declared. "Stay away from me. Any connection I have with you will only give the prince an advantage. That boy needs to eliminate my family, and what you've done is treason." Rosalia's expression gradually changed as she listened to every word Clopedia uttered. A moment later, the palace became quieter, and a servant slowly came to clear the teacup.
Clopedia, unable to contain her rage, cursed. "That foolish person, she does many things without thinking." Then she ordered her servant, "I need you to invite this person for me." The servant respectfully replied, "Yes, Your Majesty." Clopedia coldly said, "Invite Elcano from the temple." The next day in the flower garden, King Oberon wanted to confirm. He asked, "So you want Rosalia to be exiled to the outskirts?" Ainz replied, "She committed a crime that could be considered treason." Hearing this, Oberon stated assertively, "I'm sure there's more to it than that." Then he furrowed his brow and questioned Ainz, "There's another person, a woman I have my eye on. Does she come from a family more powerful than Rosalia's?" He remained silent, not answering. Seeing this, Oberon continued to ask, "Would you choose this woman even if it meant losing your throne?" Ainz nodded without hesitation. "Yes, I have promised to take care of her." Upon hearing this, he clenched his hand and warned in a gruff voice, "Be careful with your choices, for you could lose everything because of one wrong step. But I see you are determined to pay the price to keep her by your side."
Ainz remained steadfast, unwavering. "I've decided. I won't give up no matter the cost." So Oberon had to compromise. "I understand. Go now, and leave me in peace." Inside the palace, Maria excitedly took out a cat wand toy. She waved it in front of Glick and asked, "How about we play a bit with this? Excited?" Glick curiously asked Maria, "What kind of game is this?" She explained, "I wave this around, and you try to get rid of the leaves." Unexpectedly, Glick merely responded with a casual queh sound, making Maria helplessly exclaim, "Don't touch it until you've tried it. It could be really fun, couldn't it?" 2 hours later, Glick lay exhausted on the floor, panting. Maria smugly said, "I told you so. It was fun, wasn't it?" Glick then shyly replied, "We'll play again tomorrow." The room door suddenly opened. Maria curiously looked back. "Huh? Who could that be?" Ainz slowly approached, smiling as he said, "It's me." As soon as she saw Ainz, she happily called out, "Crown Prince."
I heard you were very busy. How did you find the time to visit us? He said. I have good news. The veterinary hospital is almost complete. This surprised Maria. Veterinary? Then she quickly remembered. Oh, that's the promise you made when I first entered the royal palace. Ines nodded, then hesitated before continuing. Oh, I also have a favor to ask. Maria smiled, her eyes crinkling, and said, Please, go ahead. Ines no longer hesitated. He said, The palace is hosting a grand ball, and I hope you can attend as my dance partner. Maria was stunned by this, and she confirmed in disbelief. As your dance partner at such a grand event? A few days later, Maria anxiously clutched the letter in her hand. She couldn't stop thinking about Ines's earlier proposal. I should be aware that becoming the Crown Prince's official dance partner at the ball could be extremely dangerous, because in the letter Gerard had written, once you become his dance partner, they will see you as a potential candidate for the position of Crown Princess. Because of this, you will have many political enemies targeting you. I don't know what Ines is thinking, but I advise you to refuse this request. After reading your letter, I've been very worried about you, Maria. After reading it, Maria felt even more regret. Gerard, he wanted me to refuse. If only I had known this more clearly and refused right then. A few days prior, when she first received Ines's invitation, Maria had been completely taken aback. Me, the official dance partner at the party? After that, she kept deliberating, unsure how to respond.
Seeing this, Ines immediately said that she might not agree and that he would give her time to reconsider. Unexpectedly, Maria did not refuse. Yes, I will do it. Thinking it over, she told herself that she couldn't say no at that moment. But suddenly Maria changed her mind. Wait a minute, this is at least one of my concerns. She clenched her fists, her face full of determination. The hospital will soon be completed, so I should study harder and be ready. That night, Maria diligently took notes. After a while, she sighed worriedly again. To become the Crown Prince's official dance partner, I'm allowed to refuse, but how can I say no to the Crown Prince, something I've never done before? It's not that I don't like him, I actually like him very much. Then Maria imagined herself walking down the aisle in a wedding dress. The servants respectfully lined up to bow, introducing the Crown Prince's fiancé. Just as she thought of this, Maria jolted awake, knowing the seriousness of her current role in a palace she didn't belong in. Forget everything that could happen and focus on studying. But after only a few seconds, Maria paused. Wait a minute. Was Ines truly ready to marry a commoner like her? This thought made her blush involuntarily, and her heart began to pound. No, stop that thought. It's impossible. How would I face the pain if he later married someone of his own status? On one hand, Maria was secretly hoping for this. Fine, if that happens, I can just tell him I'll go home. A gentle escape. Becoming the Crown Prince's dance partner at the ball, the rarest of opportunities. Seize it. On the other hand, she stopped herself from daydreaming. Shut up. The last time you did something so foolish, you paid the price. He'll just use you and discard you like that. Then Maria sadly lowered her head, thinking that life in the palace was truly enjoyable, and no one cared for her as much as Ines did. As night deepened, Maria quietly stood before Ines's room, and the door opened. He asked, What brings you here so late at night? I had to leave in the middle of a meeting because what you said seemed urgent.
Maria was flustered upon hearing that. She said, It's not very important. Your Highness doesn't need to. To her surprise, Ines interrupted Maria, asking, Have you come here to refuse my offer? She quickly replied, On the contrary, I came here to tell your Highness that I will attend the party with you. This surprised Ines, and he asked in disbelief, Maria, really? Maria then said, I know it would be safer and easier for me to refuse this, but if I did that, someone like Rosalia could easily seize the opportunity to claim the throne beside your Highness. At this, she looked up at him, her eyes filled with determination. To repay your Highness for what you did for me in Autolots, I am trying to protect you now. Upon hearing this, Ines's cheek suddenly flushed, and he asked again, Protect, you say? A few days later, Maria walked, lost in thought. I said I was ready for the grand party, but thinking of Cecil's strictness, she sighed, I didn't think it would involve learning to dance. Dancing really isn't for me. With that thought, Maria continued walking. My leg is injured. Today I'll visit Glick. Suddenly, someone called out, Maria! Startled, she cried out, Who's there?
Lazarus smiled and asked, How have you been lately? At this, Maria finally breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't answer, but instead asked, Lazarus, why are you here? Lazarus smiled. Are you curious? Maria frowned immediately. In your previous letter, you said you were in the port city. Lazarus didn't deny it, replying, That's right. I was immersed in the beautiful scenery, and I also have a special gift for you. Hearing this, Maria became even more confused. Didn't you say you were busy? He patiently explained that after reading her letter, he felt worried, so he quickly returned. I heard you're Ines's official dance partner at the party. Hearing this, Maria finally understood. She let out a soft sound and said, I agreed to it because I didn't want to cause any trouble. Lazarus immediately frowned and said, But I feel I need to talk to Ines to understand his true intentions and feelings for you. To his surprise, Maria refused. Lazarus, thank you for thinking of me, but...
Before she could finish, Gerard interrupted her. So the most important thing is I wanted to cut and greet you. Maria heard this and became worried, as it meant Gerard and Ines might fight, so she immediately changed the subject, asking, Would you like some tea? You've just traveled a long way. Gerard looked puzzled. Tea?
Their footsteps echoed in the hallway again. He smiled and said, "How could I resist? I can't refuse tea with an old friend." Maria heard this and happily replied, "Wonderful. Please sit down and tell me about your adventures in the port city." Then she secretly thought with satisfaction, ideally he'd spend all his time and energy talking and forget about confronting Ainz. That's the least I can do to prevent it. To her surprise, Gerard then said, "After we're done, I won't forget to talk to Ainz, so don't worry." So Maria could only smile and reply, "Of course," secretly admiring how sharp he was. Upon arriving, Maria reached out to open the door, but the scene inside left them both stunned. Maria softly called out, "Luri," but it lay still and motionless, not responding at all.
Seeing this, she became even more panicked. "Luri, wake up!" A moment later, Luri slowly opened her eyes. "Maria?" She quickly asked. "Luri, are you okay? What's wrong?" She struggled to answer, each word punctuated by pauses. "Chest hurts. Feel dizzy." As soon as she heard this, Maria noticed the petal on the table. "Wait." She stared, remembering. "My intuition was right. I wish I was wrong. I've learned about many types of herbs and their properties. A flower called candela. It's a forbidden flower." Maria began to recall a story. Once, a man gave his wife a bouquet of candela flowers. She was very happy and placed the flowers by her bed. Then tragedy struck. She gradually showed signs of abnormal behavior, and within a few months, she passed away, all because of candela's poisonous properties. He decided to warn the world about this deadly flower. That's why candela's dangerous properties are known to scholars. A person will experience suffocation, dizziness, or migraines. They will see things, have delusions, and become violent, ultimately leading to death. If there are such symptoms, it could be due to candela poisoning. Thinking this, Maria felt confused again. She said, "But I believe these lands are not a suitable environment for candela to grow." Gerard also knew about this flower. He said, "Candela, they only grow in warmer regions in the south." She immediately continued, "But the petal found near Luri, I think it's from a candela flower." Hearing this, Gerard frowned and said, "I've traveled all over the world, and there are very few areas where wild candela plants can grow." Maria nodded, eagerly replying, "I know, but the symptoms seem to indicate it could be candela poisoning, especially the petal. It looks very much like a candela flower. Furthermore, Luri wouldn't dare venture too far from the palace grounds. Perhaps candela is being cultivated within the palace."
Hearing Maria say that, Gerard's was horrified. He mumbled, "Could someone be growing it in the palace?" Another day passed. She asked Gerard's, "Did you find anything?" He nodded. "We were right. It's candela. I've asked most of the herbal researchers around here, and everyone agrees it's candela." Hearing that, Maria sadly said, "I had hoped I was wrong."
Gerard wondered where the little bird could have found it. It was clearly difficult to find such a place in Haddle that grew candela. She replied in a low voice, "Luri told me." At that time, Luri had told Maria that she found it while walking past an open window where there were many beautiful flowers. "I found a fallen petal and wanted to bring it to you, but then she suddenly felt dizzy." Maria then speculated that based on what they knew, there could be many other places, all from within the palace. Gerard also began to ponder, asking, "Are there any other symptoms?" She then listed a series of symptoms such as nausea and indigestion. You become overly sensitive to the slightest stimulus. In worst cases, you hear many things and suffer from insomnia. Suddenly, Oberon's face flashed in Gerard's mind. He frowned and told Maria, "I think I know someone who clearly exhibits those symptoms." Seeing this, she skeptically asked, "Are you thinking?" Gerard nodded, "Yes, you know who I'm talking about." At this point, Maria anxiously told Gerard, "Once Luri recovers, we can ask a few more questions, and then we'll speak with the Crown Prince." She quickly told the Crown Prince what she knew. After returning to her room, Maria received a letter from Margaret. The letter read, "There's something I need to discuss with you privately. Please make time tonight, come alone, and don't tell anyone." However, someone in her room had overheard everything. In Ainz's study at that moment, he looked up and asked suspiciously, "You mean Maria plans to sneak out today?" The guard nodded and replied, "Yes, I happened to overhear that she wants to go out at 9 p.m. tonight." Ainz continued to ask, "Do you know where she intends to go?" The guard pondered for a moment and then said, "I'm not entirely sure, but if she's arranging a carriage, it seems the place is quite far." The guard emphasized, and she explicitly said that no one is allowed to know.
Hearing that, Ainz gently placed the paper on the table. He instructed, "Let her do whatever she wants for now, but inform me of the location and who she will meet." The guard immediately complied. "Yes, sir." He reminded, "Do not let her out of your sight." He bowed respectfully in lieu of an answer. Ainz suddenly spoke up. "Wait."
The guard looked up and softly said, "Yes, sir." Ainz asked with concern, "Have you had enough sleep? You look very tired." Hearing that, he scratched his head and gave a wry smile, replying, "Oh, I've heard that a lot. It's just how I look. I'm perfectly fine." The guard continued, "But I'm taking my medication regularly, so please don't worry." Ainz asked in surprise, "Medication?" He immediately explained, "I've been taking them regularly whenever I feel tired." Ainz said with a hint of hesitation, "If you're that tired, perhaps I should assign someone else to protect Maria." The guard immediately objected, "No, Crown Prince. I just need to take a few more pills and I'll be fine and ready." He asked with a hint of disbelief, "Is that so?" The guard affirmed, "Yes, sir. I will protect her with my life." That night, the clatter of a carriage echoed from the street. Maria, with her hood up, looked outside and thought to herself, "I'm so glad I could sneak out.
She recalled the moment she read the letter and worriedly thought, I wonder if something happened to Erica. What if it's something I can't help with? Maria pondered restlessly, recalling the urgency of the request. The carriage continued to roll along the deserted road. Suddenly, the guard appeared from behind, riding a horse in pursuit. His face suddenly turned pale, and he gasped for breath. The guard immediately pulled a bottle of pills from his coat pocket. Maria looked at the scenery outside and thought to herself, this has been taking a while. I wonder how much longer it will be. Suddenly, the carriage braked abruptly. She was thrown forward by the inertia. Maria glanced around, puzzled, and asked, what happened out there?
The carriage door immediately swung open. Maria looked at the person in front of her and stammered, You... The guard, with a dark expression, continuously mumbled, his lips moving as he said, Kill Maria Llewellyn. As soon as he finished speaking, he grabbed the blood-stained sword and lunged at Maria, making her scream in fright. Suddenly, a clang rang out, and she timidly opened her eyes a crack to look. The sword had fallen to the ground. It was Ainz, who had struck the guard hard on the back of the neck with his sword. The guard immediately fainted, and Maria, bewildered, asked, Crown Prince, but how? Ainz asked anxiously, Maria, are you all right? Are you hurt anywhere? She softly replied, I'm fine. Maria, crying and trembling, said, I'm sorry, but I need to get out. Why did he attack me? Her tears splattered onto the wooden floor. Ainz took slow steps towards her. He reached out and embraced her head. Ainz softly said, I'm so glad you're all right. He said in a sad voice, I'm sorry I couldn't get here sooner. A while before that, in Ainz's room,
Ainz sat on the chair, lost in thought. The bodyguard seemed unwell. I had to follow him. If I hadn't called him in time, Ainz closed his eyes and sighed softly. I might have lost Maria. A moment later, Maria was sleeping in Ainz's arms as he gently carried her back to her room. Ainz carefully laid her down on the bed, then stepped out and closed the door. Linda and Chloe were waiting anxiously. Ainz's voice was cold as he said, Show me the letter now. Linda replied hesitantly, We are not sure where it came from, but I was with the young lady when she opened it. He continued in a low voice, Tell me everything you know about that letter. She spoke hesitantly. It seems it was sent by Lady Margaret, and... After listening for a while, Ainz finally let out a helpless sigh. He pondered deeply. Who impersonated Margaret and sent this letter? Ainz recalled the bodyguard's earlier statement. The bodyguard was no longer fully alert afterward, and admitted that he had suddenly lost control.
The pills he took contained poison used to hypnotize someone. He secretly affirmed that someone was working hard in the shadows to eliminate Maria. The next morning, in a magnificent mansion, a loud noise suddenly echoed in the room. Elcano's cheek was now red and swollen from a slap. Clopedia angrily shouted, Why? Why? She thought to herself. Becoming Elcano's wife was the only dream I had, but that dream shattered when I was chosen to be the Emperor's wife. After Queen Charlotte's death, I took her place. Because they stole my dream of a happy life forever with Elcano, I want to destroy the palace that stole my dream. That's why a few days ago I asked Elcano for help. She was then sitting and waiting in the small pavilion of the garden. Elcano approached, bowed respectfully, and said, Madam called for me. Clopedia said sadly, Sit down. Elcano then walked over and sat in the opposite seat. She got straight to the point. We're changing the plan. Thanks to Rosalia, our conspiracy has been discovered by the prince.
Elcano continued, I had expected a lot. I knew from the start Rosalia would be careless. Clopedia continued in a low voice, We should target Maria, because she is the weak point. However, the crown prince has assigned his best knight as her bodyguard. She placed her hand on his. Elcano asked doubtfully, Is that really true? He pondered for a moment, then suggested, Perhaps we should take advantage of that. Clopedia immediately asked, Tell me, how should we carry it out? Elcano gave a sinister smile and said in a low voice, Let Maria and her close knight together break the crown prince's trust, a plausible scenario. Clopedia said skeptically, You believe that can be accomplished? She suddenly changed her demeanor and said with a meaningful tone, I will leave everything to you, Elcano. Show your talent. A few days later, Clopedia, now extremely angry, let out a sigh. Elcano reassured her, Things are bad because the prince found a reason to suspect, but we didn't leave any concrete evidence, so you don't have to worry. She said in a low voice, We cannot afford another mistake. Hearing this, Elcano immediately knelt down. He gently kissed her hand and said softly, I will do everything in my power to bring you what you desire.
Clopedia said, touched, Thank you. I will also do my part to persuade the emperor. Meanwhile, in Maria's room, she had woken up and was stretching comfortably. She looked around bewildered, wondering, Wait, how did I end up in my room like this? Maria suddenly remembered something and murmured to herself, Oh, I cried in Ainz's arms and then fell asleep. She found it a little hard to believe as she recalled the feeling of a warm hand gently touching hers last night. I think he stayed by my side, watching over me. Maria suddenly blushed, thinking to herself, Now that I think about it, it's so embarrassing. I must have looked so useless and desperate then. The room door suddenly opened. Linda called out loudly, My lady, are you awake yet? She asked worriedly, Are you hurt? Maria smiled and replied, It's fine. I'm okay. I'm not hurt at all. Linda said softly, But I'm sure you must have been very tired. In her hand, she was holding a black and gold envelope, exquisitely designed with luxury and elegance. Maria looked at it curiously and asked, What's that? Linda replied, flustered, His Majesty has summoned you, she exclaimed in surprise.
Oh, is that yellow envelope from His Majesty? Maria paused for a moment, saying blankly, Wait a minute. She asked again, somewhat disbelievingly, Did the Emperor himself summon me? At Atra's palace, Maria walked, nervously thinking to herself, I never thought he would personally request me like this. The servant quickly opened the chamber door. She stepped in, bowed respectfully, and said, Your Majesty, I have arrived. After speaking, she gently sat down in the prepared chair. King Oberon spoke gently. So you are the palace's new healer? Maria softly replied, Yes, Your Majesty. He continued in a low voice, I hear Ainz wants you to be his official dance partner. Maria replied with some tension, Yes, that's correct. Oberon frowned, asking suspiciously, Do you know what that means? Maria replied hesitantly, Yes, Your Majesty. He stared at her, asking sternly, But you still accepted the offer? She stammered, Yes. Maria thought to herself, I'm so nervous, but I can't use Ainz as a shield.
She looked directly at the Emperor and spoke assertively. I am certain that there are many qualified and suitable candidates out there. Maria calmly continued. I am self-aware of who I am in my position here, so Your Majesty does not need to worry. Hearing her affirmation, Oberon asked in a low voice, Does that mean you are fine if Ainz accepts a princess from another family? Maria pondered. The Empress kept everything tightly controlled so that no one could approach Ainz except Rosalia, but I know he doesn't accept her. She answered frankly, Until His Highness's perfect dance partner appears, I will temporarily remain by his side. Oberon continued gently, Very well, I will allow that, but I will be watching you. If you do anything to circumvent me, you will pay a heavy price. Maria respectfully replied, Yes, Your Majesty. He called out towards the door, Summon the fortune teller. Then he explained, We will examine what the future holds for you. I will not take risks if you could negatively influence Ain. Maria asked puzzled, What? As soon as the fortune teller entered, he placed his hand on the clear crystal ball and softly said, Let's begin. The crystal ball immediately turned blue, and Oberon, on this side, was observing intently. The fortune teller suggested, Place your hand on this crystal ball. Maria nervously replied, Yes. The scenes inside the ball began to shift. Oberon said in a low voice, That's enough for now. Maria quickly withdrew her hand and hastily said, Yes, Your Majesty, I will leave. She silently prayed, Please. Maria clutched the hem of her dress, telling herself, I hope it's a favorable outcome. After Maria left the room, King Oberon immediately asked, What were the results? The fortune teller hesitated. Well, Your Majesty, I regret to inform Your Majesty that I couldn't see anything at all. He frowned and asked further, Absolutely nothing? Has this ever happened before? Facing his questioning gaze, the fortune teller quickly bowed and replied, I tried again and again, but it was useless. Hearing this, Oberon stroked his chin, looking pensive. In terms of divination and prophecy, no one is your equal, yet you couldn't see her future? The fortune teller said, There was one thing. For a brief second, I saw a brilliant red light. Oberon whispered, That light.
Then he ordered that she had never been here today. The fortune teller was astonished. What? Then she understood the Emperor's intention and replied, Oh, that's right, Your Highness. At this moment, Oberon also thought in silence. The fact that her future could not be seen could only happen if that girl Maria had angered the gods or been blessed with something special. So what was it? Thinking this, he thoughtfully tapped the table and asked, About that. Has the solo performer for the Atra Moon Festival been chosen yet? The fortune teller replied, This is a very important task for us, so we have worked hard to consider the options. The Atra Moon Festival is the celebration of the month when the god came to this world. The moon in that month will be blood red. Atra is the firstborn of Tyrannimus, mother of all gods. Because they symbolize the moon, you can see that beautiful moon on their birthday, and many grand festivals are held throughout the kingdom to welcome that season. The one chosen as a dancer for Atra's Moon Festival, that is an honor to prove that she has earned the affection and trust of the palace and the gods. He propped his chin and mumbled, I want to try something. The fortune teller asked with a hint of curiosity, What is it? Oberon replied, It's the Atra Moon Festival dance. I want Maria Llewellyn to perform this role. That evening, in her room, Maria mumbled while flipping through a book. The month of the Atra Moonlight Festival is approaching. So the whole moon will turn red during that time, won't it? She looked out the window and continued, This reminds me of someone round and plump like Luri. Maria finished speaking and chuckled happily. Then she closed the book. This was probably the most important time of the year. Suddenly the room door opened and Ainz walked in. Maria asked in surprise, Crown Prince, what are you doing here? Ainz said seriously, I have something to ask of you. You must master a new dance. It's not my choice. I received orders from His Majesty. Hearing him say that, she also asked curiously, How bad could it be? He replied, A grand festival is about to be held, and someone has been chosen to perform a dance dedicated to Atra. Father has chosen you to be that performer. After Ainz finished explaining, Maria nodded and replied, Oh, I understand.
At this moment, Ainz said, blushing slightly, You don't have to do that. Although I don't think you have much choice, everything will be fine. Maria replied with a relaxed smile, I guess that means Your Majesty has grown fonder of me.
I am ready to accept the challenge, and I will practice that dance every day. How bad could it be? Ainz, stunned, softly called, Maria. A few days later, in the market, someone grabbed her shoulder and said, This outfit looks great on you. Maria gratefully said, Thank you so much for helping Erica. Erica replied, It's nothing. I also need to pick out a dress for the Atra Moon Festival myself. Maria added, If it weren't for your help, I probably would have. There are many books in the archives about the month of Atra or the Atra Moon Festival. The Larsen Empire worships the moon god, the neighboring kingdom worships the earth god, and another kingdom worships the water god. They are all considered children of the sun goddess. Larsen celebrates the Atra Moon Festival almost all month long. Even at night, spectacular events take place. This is also the time when young heirs to the throne from various kingdoms have a chance to shine. Maria thought to herself, For me, when I heard about the Atra Moon Festival, I had so much to learn. If I didn't have Erica, I would be completely lost. All I knew about the Atra Moon Festival came solely from books. Thinking this, Maria sighed. Then she said dejectedly, I'm really exhausted after all those dance practices. Erica asked in surprise, Dance practices? Maria replied with a forced smile. Yes, I have to perform for the Atra Moon Festival. It's really difficult though, and it takes up almost my entire day, so I hardly have time for anything else.
Erica immediately widened her eyes, her expression full of surprise and disbelief. She asked again, Atra's Moon Festival dance? Maria replied with a slight surprise. That's right. Why are you so surprised? I don't know much about dancing, just as I still haven't fully understood all the rules and regulations within this palace. Erica replied, I didn't know the Crown Prince had such a romantic soul. I mean, during that time, at that festival, you are the one. Normally, those who are romantically involved with royalty or married into royalty are chosen to perform alone. She clarified, that means he considers her someone with more significant potential than others. Maria whispered, Alone? Dance alone?
Am I dancing alone? Erica asked, surprised. Oh, don't tell me you don't know. Maria immediately put on a pleading face, her eyes welling up as she said, dancing alone? No, I... Seeing this, Erica could only force a smile. Suddenly, the small door opened and Tayer rushed in, saying, My lady, Lady Maria. She asked, confused, What's wrong? Tayer respectfully bowed again and replied, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince has requested your presence. He mentioned something you had asked about before. Maria mumbled, What I had asked about before. Recalling she had once asked Ainz, Could you let me see him? At that time, Ainz replied, I don't feel comfortable about that, but if you insist, he seems to lose control like that. Her memory reaching that point, Maria immediately declared loudly, I will go there right away. She also didn't forget to turn and say, Sorry, Erica. Erica smiled and replied, It's all right. It seems important. I'll see you later. After a while, the carriage stopped in front of the imperial palace. In a room, Maria and Ainz sat next to each other, looking at the person kneeling opposite them. She asked, Why did you do that?
The blue-haired man replied, As I confessed to the Crown Prince, I didn't have the slightest clue. At that time, He began to recount the situation at that time. When he was tired, he took out the bottle of medicine. The bodyguard no longer remembered why he did that. He just took the medicine as usual. Kill Maria Llewellyn. She is a monster. And that voice echoed in his head. He was forced to kill the coachman, but then he fainted. After hearing the story, Ainz said with a smile, a suspicious ingredient was found in his medicine. Unfortunately, because of this action, no matter the reason, he can no longer become a knight. Tears streamed down, the blue-haired man said remorsefully. For what I have done, for attempting to harm the person I was tasked to protect, I deserve to die. Maria said, It's clear that you are under some kind of control. I can clearly see you weren't yourself. Hearing her say that, he was suddenly moved and called out, My lady. Maria asked again, You said you heard a voice and you also had hallucinations, didn't you? You saw me as a monster or something similar. The blue-haired man was startled and asked back, How could you know? Maria said, Someone planned this with the intention to harm.
Your Royal Highness, if we can find out who the mastermind behind these events is, will he be allowed to keep his knight title? Ainz wondered, How do you think we do that? She replied, I can do it. Lurie is well enough to talk to me now. Someone asked with wide eyes, What do you mean? Maria nodded. That's right. This incident is related to those flowers. She immediately thought of those purple flowers. After returning to her room, Maria immediately took out her drawing board. As she drew, she thought, and it had a dome shape, so something like this. Lurie looked at her drawing and said thoughtfully, It has flowers and trees. I saw a man carrying a basket. He was there. He looked quite pale and was wearing a white suit. He didn't move at all. After hearing her description, Maria immediately thought, how strange, all white and didn't move at all. She drew the scene on paper according to Lurie's words, then asked again, where was this man standing? Lurie closed her eyes. Then she pointed to a spot and said, between the flowers and the trees. Maria smiled and said, Thank you, Lurie. Hearing that, she replied, If you want to go there, I can lead you. She shook her head. No, not now, but I'm very grateful to you for helping me paint a clearer picture. Then she thought, that motionless man, this could be a very important clue.
Soon after the room door opened, Ainz rushed in and asked, Are you looking for me? What's wrong? Maria, while drawing, said, Wait a moment, I'm almost done. He immediately sat down opposite her. Then he curiously asked, What are you doing? Maria, distracted, replied, Lurie is better now, so I can ask her for help regarding where she found that flower. She put the paper down. Awkwardly scratching her head, she said, The problem is I can't figure out where this is. I've been to the Queen's palace before, but it wasn't anywhere like this. Ainz picked up the paper to look at it. It certainly wasn't a part of that palace. There were flowers and trees, but also a basket containing sculptures. Maria sighed. I've never seen such a space within the palace grounds. Suddenly, Ainz gripped the paper tightly, his expression a little grim, and said, "Wait, it could be—" Maria felt something was off and called out, "Crown Prince." He didn't answer, but mumbled, "But even for her, this is—" After a few seconds of hesitation, Ainz said, "If I'm thinking correctly, that's Gerard's palace." This information startled Maria. She asked, "What? But how can that be?" "Gerard is the Queen's son," Ainz said, lowering his head. "Perhaps—"
His residence could be where Candela is being harvested in our kingdom. After a few seconds of silence, Maria frowned and asked, "Gerard, the prince, isn't he still too young?" Ainz wondered, "How do you think we do that?" She replied, "I can do it." Luri, who was well enough to speak, nodded. "That's right, he's only 10 years old, too young to devise such plans. Candela is a very rare flower, not found in this kingdom. I've never even heard of it. A child couldn't harvest flowers in such large quantities." Maria agreed, saying, "That's right, it seems very unlikely." Ruling out Gerard, Ainz speculated again. Perhaps Clopeda is behind it. Maria looked up, a little hesitant. But Gerard is her son, and no matter how careful she is, her son would still be at risk of being poisoned. Ainz said thoughtfully, "This problem is too big. If she gets caught, she knows she's sealing her own fate."
Then Ong said, "Let things unfold naturally instead of acting immediately." Maria, startled, asked, "What?" Ong added, "This is a very serious and complex matter. We need to time things perfectly. The Acha Full Moon Festival is approaching. If this terrible incident were to become public during the festival, it could damage the reputation of the entire royal family. Furthermore, if the Queen knew we were watching her, she could quickly take preventative measures, such as hiding Candela." After Ong finished speaking, Maria slowly bowed her head and replied, "You're right, regarding the timing." She wondered, "Why is it so complicated? I think if we find the source, we can solve the problem." Thinking this, she quietly sighed. Seeing this, Ong softly comforted her. "Don't worry about that." Maria looked up. "Huh?" Ong continued, "I will do everything in my power to ensure no harm comes to you." Maria replied, "I know you will." She suddenly asked, "May I hold your hand?" Ong raised his hand and asked, "My hand? Like this?" Seeing him offer a fist, she burst out laughing and replied, "No, I just want to shake hands." After saying that, she still gave him a fist bump. Ong, a little confused, asked, "What is this?" Maria smiled and replied, "Now we're in the same boat. We must persevere. We're in this together, so you'll never be alone." Ong let out a soft, "Ah." Then he said, "Good, let's continue." Maria added, "Of course."
Time slipped away. In the practice room, Maria was bending her knees, spinning, performing dance steps. Facing her, Cecil said with annoyance, "No, move, wider steps." Maria asked, "Like this?" She thought to herself. Anne and I decided to temporarily set aside the Candela issue and focus on the task at hand. For me, that was practicing dance for the performance at the Opera Festival. For Ainz, that was preparing for the entire festival and checking Candela's possible route. As we immersed ourselves in our tasks and time passed, this moment finally arrived. The night before Atra's full moon festival, the moon in the sky had turned red. In the room, Maria let out a sudden sigh.
Glick asked curiously, "What's wrong?" The girl replied, "Tomorrow is a big day." It wondered, "What big day?" Maria said nervously, "I have to stand on stage and perform alone. It's a disaster. I'm so scared. What should I do?" Contrary to her panic, Glick calmly said, "You'll be fine." Maria sobbed, hugging it and complaining, "Glick, please say some encouraging words to me." Glick was still sulking because she had abandoned it during practice, so it said, "I'm welcome elsewhere." Suddenly the room door opened, and Ainz walked in. Maria looked up and called, "Crown Prince, what brings you here? I heard you were very busy." He replied, "I heard you were attending a late-night dance practice, so I came to talk while you're free." After saying that, he asked again, "Are you worried?" Maria asked, "If so, can you cancel this whole thing?" Ainz shook his head and replied, "I can't do that, but I can find a way to help you." Suddenly, Maria held out her hand, then said, "Hold my hand." Ainz took her hand and asked again, "Like this, right?" The two stood looking at each other for a few seconds. Glick suddenly stepped forward. It also placed a paw on her hand and said, "Let me in too, don't leave me out," though, of course, only Maria heard it. But both Ainz and Maria unconsciously smiled. The sky gradually darkened, and as everything fell silent, Maria was still practicing her dance. She was so tired she was panting, wondering to herself, "What if I mess up? Even after all the encouragement from Glick and Ainz, I still feel worried. It's better if I go to bed early, sleep early, and wake up early to practice one more time in the morning." Thinking this, she turned and went inside. Suddenly, the room door opened slightly, and a dark figure suddenly appeared. As soon as Maria saw the person, she gasped in surprise. At this moment, the dark figure also seized her. Simultaneously, somewhere in the palace, in a room, Elkanah was intently watching something in a crystal ball, with Cleopatia beside him. The crystal ball emitted a mysterious light.
Elcano was breathing heavily, sweat pouring down his face like water. Cleopadia asked curiously, "What is it?" He replied, "It seems you were right." Cleopadia asked again, "Are you sure?" Elcano withdrew his hand, wiping away sweat as he replied, "Yes, I saw her dream." Cleopadia's eyes turned cold. "What did you see?" Elcano said, "The red hue of something faint."
Cleopadia frowned, a red hue. Elcano nodded in response. That's right, but as you know, red symbolizes Atra, and I saw Maria standing in a sea of red. His words stunned Cleopadia, and she said with a trembling voice, "In a sea of red, that filthy little thing." Elcano replied, "That's right. To be precise, there are red cliffs and valleys, and in the middle, Lady Llewellyn is standing there, and there's a ray of light from a very distant place." Cleopadia was skeptical again. "A ray of light?" Elcano said, "Probably some kind of entrance." After synthesizing the information, Cleopadia murmured, "A path created by the gods, and a gate to another world. Are these legends true? Is what we believe just fairy tales?" After asking, she also widened her eyes and thought, "The story of those who crossed over from another world. I've heard it since I was a child." According to legend, among the queens there were special individuals, believed to have been chosen by Atra and summoned to this world. They were known to have brought peace and prosperity to the empire, and were called the Fortunate Ones. All this time I thought they were just myths and legends.
Until Maria Llewellyn appeared, Clebia said, chosen to perform a solo dance at Atra's Full Moon Festival, which means even the Emperor knows who she truly is. Elcano continued, "It seems it's no coincidence that His Majesty began to disregard your advice when that woman appeared." Clebia tapped the table and said, "Everything I gave him about Candela might no longer be effective." She turned her head to look out the window, muttering, "I must do something to disappoint her. Elcano, I think we must do something to ensure this child remains silent and sleeps through Atra's festival month." Elcano replied, "Yes, Your Majesty." In a dark place, enveloped by red light, Maria looked around, feeling a slight aversion, thinking, "This place again? I'm so tired of all this." She slightly bowed her head and continued to think, "This time seems a bit longer than usual, and I don't see the white light I used to see. Now I should focus on more important things." Suddenly, an unusual premonition arose within her. Maria wondered, what is this strange feeling? Just as she turned her head,
a giant hand suddenly pressed down. Maria froze for a few seconds. Then she quickly turned around. She had to run. How to have a beautiful dream? Atra's love. No way. In a panic, Maria suddenly tripped, falling straight forward, cursing loudly in her heart. Lies! The space in front of her suddenly turned into a red abyss. Then Maria's eyes snapped open. Seeing her wake up, Ines asked kindly, "Are you all right, Maria?" She mumbled, "A black hand reaching out and—" "Your Highness, what are you doing here?" Ines said awkwardly, "Oh, about that." But before he could finish, she said, "I remember fainting in the dance studio after seeing something scary." Then she asked again, "Is it morning already?" Ines hesitated for a few seconds. Then he said, "You've been in coma for 3 days." Maria was startled and asked, "What? But I don't feel weak at all." Ines secretly recalled the moment he tilted his head back to drink the potion, then slowly fed it to Maria, especially the feeling when their lips touched. Ines's face flushed slightly, and he said, "That's because I gave you medicine while you were unconscious." Hearing him say that, Maria was a little suspicious. "But how did you give me medicine? What?" It was then that Maria reacted. 3 days lost. I think I've missed the solo dance performance. I'm truly sorry for causing inconvenience to you and the Emperor." Ines took her hand and softly called, "Maria?" She immediately looked up. "Yes?" He gently said, "It's all right," but Maria, still feeling uneasy, replied, "I'm sorry." Ines added, "I was afraid you would never wake up again. Now that you've woken up, nothing else matters anymore." As soon as he finished speaking, Maria was so surprised she was stunned, and her face suddenly flushed even more. Not long after, in Ines's room, Gerard said, "I heard Maria was chosen to perform the solo act at the festival, but didn't appear on time." Ines let out a sigh. "I was wondering what made you rush here, so it's about Maria." Gerard said hastily, "Tell me everything. What's going on?" Ines calmly said, "First of all, I wasn't the one who decided Maria would dance. That was the Emperor's request." Gerard asked in astonishment, "The Emperor made that decision?" Ines nodded. "I don't know why, but the good news is that the solo performance has been canceled."
Gerard heard that and said, "I've noticed the moon has been gone for a while. It's strange, as if to show the wrath of the gods." Ains raised his teacup and said, "The outcome is favorable for us. Maria's absence is not important." Gerard retorted, "But soon people will find out. If they do, they can use this against her." Ains continued, "That's why I must act quickly and uncover the truth behind Candela." Gerard inquired, "So have you heard from Maria?" Ains replied frankly, "Yes, we've been obsessed with finding the origin, and now we know who planted that plant." Gerard frowned and said, "Covering up the failure of Maria's case with a bigger scandal? Is that the core strategy?" Ains replied in a low voice, "No, Maria has also become a victim of Candela." Hearing him say that, Gerard immediately exclaimed anxiously, "No way!
but Ains interrupted him and said, Maria cannot go on stage because she has been poisoned by Candela and cannot wake up for days. We don't know who poisoned her, but we know it's Candela poisoning. All the symptoms are present. He repeated Maria's words. A shadow is chasing me. Gerard's expression also became serious. He said, we need to control the situation, otherwise Maria could get hurt. Ains said seriously, don't worry, Gerard. This time, I guarantee I will put an end to this immediately.
In Maria's room, as she was intently writing something, her maid Linda suddenly brought in tea. Maria looked up and smiled, saying, Linda, there's nothing to do right now. I can manage on my own. Linda replied, I've told you, miss. His Royal Highness the Prince gave clear orders to Chloe and me after Atra's full moon festival. Maria scratched her head and said, I know, you have to work in shifts to keep an eye on me. Linda continued, I also don't want to risk leaving you alone right now. I'm worried to death. Maria, feeling even more embarrassed, said, all right, thank you. Maria thought to herself, thank you for your support, but I need space to concentrate. I prefer privacy. Just as she was trying to concentrate, the room door opened again. Hello? Hearing the voice, Maria looked up with a questioning sound. Linda immediately said, I'll go see who that is. Outside the door, after a brief exchange, Linda asked in surprise, oh, really? Maria, bewildered, wondered to herself, the Empress? After a while, at the Empress's palace, Maria said subserviently, did your Majesty summon me? She thought to herself, in my weakened state, this is quite difficult for everyone.
Clopidas said, it's good to see you again. Maria looked up and said, thank you for inviting me. Seeing the person in front of her, Maria felt a momentary doubt. Without waiting for her to ask, Clopida gestured towards Elcano and said, let me introduce you to Elcano, my second senior priest. He said, I am also in charge of this place. Maria quickly said, oh, hello, I'm Maria. Elcano said, Maria Lawellen, your reputation precedes you. Clopida continued, the three of us need to talk today. This is very important. Please sit down here. After Maria sat down, tea was also served. While she was wondering whether to drink it or not, Clopida suddenly said, I know you've been through a lot. I heard about it from Elcano. Maria asked back, is that so? Elcano replied, of course. I'm talking about the soul within you, Miss Lawellen. You must be very tired from having to adapt to a completely new world. Maria broke into a sweat, but still pretended not to know and asked, what do you mean?
Clopedia calmly drank tea and said, don't lie anymore, little girl. Everyone knows you're not from this world. Did we surprise you? How cute. Maria's face was now filled with panic. Clopedia added, the Emperor is the one who sees and knows all. From the very beginning, he saw through you and tried to exploit you. Maria was secretly horrified. The Emperor? Meanwhile, Clopedia continued, that's why he chose you to perform a sacred dance for all the high-ranking officials to see. Maria pursed her lips and thought, no, it's all lies. Ains would support this. But Clopedia said, I know you and Ains have a very special relationship, but I think he might have been involved in this plan for a long time. Maria asked, may I ask what makes you believe this? Clopedia said, wasn't Ains the first to know your secret? Maria stammered in response, well. Elcano then said, legend says that marrying someone from another world is like being able to elevate the dynasty to a higher status. The crown prince kept you by his side to see if the legend is true. Naive Maria began to be swayed by those words. Clopedia then said, you know too little about these ambitious kings. These people, they only care about power. They will do whatever they want. I have become a victim of their greed and desires.
So stop deluding yourself that Ains cares about you. I don't want you to be hurt any further. Maria asked curiously, may I ask why you are telling me this? She replied, I want to help you. Elcano can take you back to your world. These words surprised Maria. She looked up and asked, what? Elcano said, in 1 week, the new moon will rise. At that time, I can enter your dream and help you open the door to your world. Clopedia continued, a wonderful offer, something you've always wished for. You should know that I don't waste time with lies. What do you think about this, Maria Llewellyn? As she finished speaking, a self-satisfied smile appeared on her aged face, seeing Maria hesitate for a long time. Clopedia then said, you can think about it until the new moon rises. You may leave now. Hearing that, Maria immediately stood up and unconsciously replied, yes, Your Majesty.
Then she ambled out. After the door closed, Clopedia clicked her tongue twice in regret. Elcano smiled and said she seemed shocked. Clopedia chuckled. Of course, now she'll think the Emperor and the Crown Prince are using her. Elcano asked, but is that really true? Clopedia took a sip of her tea and said, who knows? Elcano stood up, placed a hand on his chest and said, what a brilliant move. Your Majesty is the kingdom's foremost strategist, so it's up to me to return her to her world. Hearing this, Clopedia abruptly slammed her teacup onto the table. Then she said in a low voice, impossible. Elcano, opening the gate could allow something abominable to spill over to our side. Elcano was stunned. You mean what you told her about sending her back to where she lives? Clopedia replied, a harmless lie to comfort her. That creature should not exist here or anywhere else. Elcano, sweating, replied, I understand. Clopedia continued, next week when she arrives, we will execute this plan. Don't disappoint me again. This time it must succeed. With that, she took a step. After stepping behind Elcano, she covered his eyes and said, "Do you remember our brilliant plan?" Elcano replied, "Of course, Your Majesty." He removed the queen's hands, smiled and said, "To destroy the royal family." Clopedia added, "Eliminating her is the first step." When she returned to her room,